This lunatic hanging upside down used to chew on steel spoons just to get stronger. Why? Because he's a man who crawled back from hell itself. Even as a pathetic F-rank, he discovered a game-breaking glitch in reality. The more metal he eats, the more invincible he becomes. So, trapped in military hell, he turned into a human garbage disposal, devouring every scrap of iron he could get his teeth on. But to understand this madness, we must rewind to the beginning. The day the gates cracked open, and the world we knew collapsed into ash. While humanity was slaughtered like cattle, a chosen few awakened supernatural gifts. They were the saviors, the players, and our protagonist, Hyun-wook, stands among them. An F-rank nobody destined to become the legendary Emperor of Steel. In the future, he is Hemlock, the last savior. But right now, the hero is just hanging from a bar, cursing his terrible luck. Snap back to reality. He's dangling upside down in a sweaty uniform, admitting that his life has officially hit rock bottom. While the squad groans in this torture position, the commander barks at them to fix their pathetic attitudes. This is the hard truth. Every awakened human is drafted into the AMT, the anti-monster troops, cannon fodder for the war. Hyun-wook boils with irritation. If he's supposed to be humanity's last hope, why is he stuck here scrubbing floors and suffering? The scene shifts to the scorching shooting range. The heat is unbearable, and the drill sergeant is on a rampage. Military trucks and heavy weaponry surround them, but the tension in the air is heavier than the steel. "We are the elite," the commander screams. "So why are 9 bullets missing?" In the chaos, Hyun-wook makes his move. With sleight of hand, he swipes a live cartridge from his pocket. He doesn't load it into a gun. He pops it into his mouth. "Have you lost your minds?" the officer roars at the squad. "No, sir," they scream back, terrified. A holographic window flashes before Hyun-wook's eyes. The system chimes. Asterisk. Current metal consumed. 300 grams asterisk. Crunching down on the bullet casing, Hyun-wook grins. Of course he's not mentally stable. This is his second tour of duty in hell. Suddenly, a nightmare flashes before his eyes, a memory of the future. He sees himself choking on his own blood. It was the end of days. He lay broken on the ruined pavement, watching a figure in a plague doctor mask approach. The city was a burning graveyard. Explosions rocked the earth, and the streets were paved with the bodies of the fallen. Hundreds, thousands of corpses were piled high, a mountain of rotting flesh. The masked man laughed. "It wasn't the monsters that ended us," he whispered. "It was the players themselves." The killer reached for his mask. "Is this the end for the great Emperor of Steel?" He reveals his face, burning red eyes full of mockery. "No, you're just Hyun-wook, a worthless F-rank." Spreading his arms like a dark messiah, the man declared, "You don't get it. We are gods. We are the judges of this rotten species." Rage exploded in Hyun-wook's chest. "Gods? You're monsters." If he had this power back then, he would have crushed them all. But he was weak. If he had known the secret to strength earlier, the world wouldn't be burning. The villain smiled, wide and cruel. "Frustrated? Good. But even if you were stronger, nothing would change." Tears of pure fury streamed down Hyun-wook's face. The madman scoffed. "Trash like you is destined to die like a dog." The villain turned his back. This is a fitting end for a failure. Behind him, a massive brute raised a warhammer, ready to smash Hyun-wook into paste. Just before the blow landed, Hyun-wook screamed the traitor's name, Gordon Prey, then darkness, followed by a sudden awakening in the past. Asterisk, ding, asterisk, the system snaps him back to the present. Asterisk, assimilation, complete in 10 minutes. Asterisk, the power is building. The drill sergeant is still screaming. When I say 1, you shout soldier. When I say 2, you shout mentality. Struggling to hold the pose, Hyun-wook grits his teeth. He's back at level 1, weak, pathetic, but armed with knowledge. 1. Soldier. 2. Mentality. The chant echoes endlessly under the brutal sun. Hours later, the scene shifts. Roll call. The monotony of army life is wearing them down. An officer barks orders, coordinating the second squad of the 3rd platoon. Hyun-wook sighs, bored out of his mind. He never imagined he'd have to relive this nonsense. Even stray cats eat better than they do. Suddenly, a voice calls out. Hyun-wook steps forward as corporal, but a shadow blocks his path. "Hold on, we have unfinished business." Exhausted, Hyun-wook frowns. "Training is over." The man smirks, his face punchable and arrogant. "Who said anything about training? Look at this loser." The man sneers. Hyun-wook's eyes narrow. He remembers this face. Sang-wook, the scum of the unit. Sang-wook steps into his personal space. "Since F-ranks can't level up anyway, why don't you do my squad's work? You've got free time. If something goes wrong while we cover for you," Sang-wook laughs. "Will you take responsibility, Corporal?" The other soldiers snicker, enjoying the show. They think the corporal is an easy target. They have no idea who they're messing with. The officer's gaze burns with irritation, but Hyun-wook remains unmoved. Internally, however, He questions the depths of his own past failures. Rage contorts the man's face. He barks, "What kind of look is that? Do you have a death wish, soldier?" Mana surges as he extends his arm, weaving glowing magic circles into existence. Behind Hyun-wook, the squad recoils in sheer terror. "Do you really want to test me?" The officer hisses, his aura flaring. "I am a D-rank hunter. You are nothing." Hyun-wook takes a steadying breath, a mocking smirk cutting across his face. "We'll do it," he says coolly. "But first, feed us." "Excuse me?" The officer snaps. Hyun-wook gestures to the onlookers. "Look around. Starving your subordinates? People might mistake that for abuse." Hyun-wook leans in, his voice dripping with false concern. "Imagine if strange rumors tarnish the bright future awaiting the great Song-wook." Realizing his reputation is held hostage, Song-wook grits his teeth. His plan has failed. He has no choice but to agree. Since the corporal begs, he sneers, trying to save face. "Eat. But you'll work with the same desperate speed you devour that food." The humiliation continues. After the task, Sang-wook is forced to praise Hyun-wook's squad. He coughs loudly, trying to mask his bruised ego while glancing at the others. The awkward silence is too much. "What are you staring at?" he roars at the bystanders. "Get to the mess hall. Now, go eat." Junho. "I'm not hungry," Hyun-wook says, turning his back. His squad mate watches him go, confusion and worry clouding his eyes. Even Sang-wook watches the retreat, eyes narrowed. Something about the corporal. He seems like a completely different man. Once out of sight, Hyun-wook ducks behind a wall. He bites his lip until it nearly bleeds, suppressing the rage. Slowly, he exhales. "I handled it," he mutters. "I stayed calm." Memories of Tracy flash through his mind. Compared to the torture that lunatic inflicted, dealing with Sang-wook is child's play. A blue window chimes. The system speaks. Asterisk user can now manipulate 1 additional gram. Asterisk. Asterisk, petty squabbles are a waste of time. Asterisk, he realizes. Asterisk, I need to catch up to him. Asterisk. But staring at the status screen, reality hits hard. His capacity has only increased by a single gram. He swipes several spoons from a tray. Asterisk, I have to be discreet. Asterisk, he decides. Asterisk. No one can know I'm leveling up my psychokinesis. Asterisk. Back in the cafeteria, chaos erupts. "Where the hell did all the silverware go?" soldiers shout, checking empty bins. "Junho, we've got a problem. The spoons are gone." Meanwhile, outside in the shadows, Hyun-wook is doing the unthinkable. He is consuming the metal. Using his ability, he compresses the metal, swallowing the spheres one by one. Ugh, Hyun-wook grimaces. The pure taste of cold steel. The system updates. Asterisk. 13 minutes until absorption complete. Capacity increased by 1.25 grams. Asterisk. He lifts his bayonet. Asterisk. 140 grams. Asterisk. To wield this with lethal force, his current telekinetic strength is woefully insufficient. Frustration sets in. Cartridges are 1 gram, spoons are 1.25. At this snail's pace, regaining his former legendary power will take an eternity. Asterisk. Is this my only path? Asterisk, he wonders. Fist clenching. Asterisk, I have 3 days before the event triggers. 3 days to prepare for war. Asterisk. His eyes sharpen with resolve. He must defeat the level 1 boss. As his focus narrows, his backpack begins to hover in midair. Focusing past the sheath in his uniform, Hyun-wook grasps the bayonet with his mind. A faint, ethereal aura envelops him as the metal obeys his will. He extends a hand, a dangerous smile playing on his lips. "Watch closely," he whispers to the empty air. "I'll show you what a true specialist can do." 3 days later, 3rd Brigade, 1st Battalion. The Namsan Station, Post 5. The countdown is over. Inside the guardhouse, the silence is heavy. Junho sits opposite his corporal, watching Hyun-wook with unconcealed confusion. Hyun-wook stands like a statue, gaze fixed on the distance. He glances at his watch with surgical precision, sparking more curiosity in his subordinate. "Corporal," Junho starts hesitantly. You seem different lately. It is exactly 4 o'clock, 4:05 in the morning. Does my change bother you?" Hyun-wook asks. "No," Junho answers instantly. Meanwhile, Hyun-wook's eyes are locked on the system window. Asterisk notification. Manipulation capacity increased by 6 grams. Asterisk. Asterisk, total capacity. 1,359 grams. Asterisk, Junho stammers on. "I mean, you've changed for the better, sir." Suddenly, Hyun-wook steps forward, closing the distance. The air tightens, and Junho freezes in nervousness. "Do you trust me?" Hyun-wook asks abruptly. "Yes," Junho squeaks. Hyun-wook's gaze turns icy cold. "Is that the truth?" Junho. "Yes, sir." The subordinate affirms again, only to gasp as Hyun-wook suddenly cocks his weapon. Click. Before he can react, space tiers open. A portal manifests nearby, unleashing a horde of nightmare creatures. They rise, sniffing the air for prey. The beasts lock their sights on the army camp below. Inside the barracks, unaware of the impending doom, the soldiers sleep peacefully. A creature opens its maw to unleash a deafening roar, but steel is faster. A bayonet tears through the air, striking the monster with the force of a cannonball. The beast crashes to the ground, black blood pooling as a foul stench fills the air. Standing at the gate, dagger floating, is Hyun-wook. Invisible threads of psychokinetic energy dance from his fingertips, tethering the floating blade to his will. Dozens of glowing eyes fixate on him. Hyun-wook offers them a chilling smile. "I never thought I'd say this," he laughs softly. "But I'm actually happy to see you ugly bastards. I've been waiting 3 long days for this moment." He prepares to slaughter them all, but suddenly, something else catches his eye. The beast staggers back to its feet, leaning heavily on its blade. Hyun-wook twirls his dagger with practiced ease, scoffing that a failed surprise attack proves this trash is still stuck at level 1. The bayonet becomes a dangerous blur of spinning steel in his grip. This might be his second life, but patience isn't a virtue he carried over. Doing the same tedious grind twice? He absolutely hates it. The monster roars, charging blindly. Hyun-wook narrows his eyes. If this thing drops bad loot, it dies for nothing. The creature leaps with maw wide open, but a spinning blade decapitates it in midair. The headless corpse crashes to the dirt. It never stood a chance to defend itself. Asterisk, thwack, asterisk. The bayonet embeds itself deep into a tree trunk. The remaining horde growls, eyes burning with fury at their comrade's slaughter. A crimson crystal rolls onto the grass. Levitating the prize into his hand, Hyun-wook smirks. He knows exactly what this future holds. Without hesitation, he pops the object into his mouth. Even the monsters freeze, utterly baffled by this insanity. Hyun-wook chews loudly, recognizing the metallic tang. It is unmistakably mana steel. The goblins watch in sheer disgust as this human devours their treasure like a snack. System alert. Absorption complete. Quantity unknown. Mana capacity is increasing. A blue status window flickers into view. A realization strikes him. If he consumes every item that drops, the difficulty of this hellish life will plummet to 0. Hyun-wook casts a terrifying glare at the horde. The monsters flinch, trembling before his predator-like gaze. He yanks the dagger from the tree with a sharp crack. His grin widens maniacally. The real mukbang is about to begin. Time rewinds to a moment before the carnage. The metallic click of a weapon cocking echoes in the silence. Suddenly, a deafening roar shakes the forest. The corporal clamps a hand over his subordinate's mouth. He whispers urgently he can feel the metal vibrating. The private's eyes go wide, sensing metal without seeing it. Jang-woo suggests reporting it, but Hyun-wook shuts him down immediately. Who would believe a lowly rank F can sense an invisible threat? The young soldier trembles, his voice barely a whisper. Then, what do we do? The corporal grabs the boy's shoulder. He demands a promise. Hold the post and tell no one. He is going in alone. Back in the bloody present, Hyun-wook vibrates with adrenaline. If the military intervenes, the government steals his loot. Unacceptable. The horde charges, screaming for blood. My feast begins now. Hyun-wook roars, diving straight into the sea of enemies. The air hums as he manipulates his dagger with his mind. Claws slash through empty air. The monsters strike shadows as the protagonist dances through their attacks effortlessly. Steel spins like a buzzsaw. With a casual flick of his wrist, Hyun-wook sends the bayonet flying into the crowd. It slices through an Achilles tendon with surgical precision. One by one, the monsters collapse, crippled and helpless. But high above, a pair of eyes watches. Hidden in the canopy, a monster adorned with bone necklaces seethes with rage. While the crippled goblins writhe in the dirt, another wave attempts to rush Hyun-wook. Scream louder, he laughs, his tone dripping with sadism. But a sudden strike from the flank catches him by surprise. No. He was ready. His magnetic grip expands. A discarded sword leaps from the ground into his hand. Asterisk clang. Asterisk Hyun-wook deflects the blow, sending the goblin's weapon flying. The pack closes in. The creature panics, reaching for its blade too late. A silver flash, and its head separates from its shoulders. The corporal resets his stance instantly. The headless body gushes dark blood, collapsing in a heap. He slashes again, not to kill, but to terrify. Maximum fear yields better drops. Another red crystal hits the ground, and the horde recoils in horror. I died once to a backstabber, Hyun-wook screams, his eyes glowing with trauma and rage. How dare you try that on me? His voice drops to a demonic growl. Attack me from behind again, and I will eat you alive. The monsters bristle, hair standing on end like frightened alley cats. The fear has taken root. As the grunts retreat, Hyun-wook sighs. Appetizers are done. Where's the main course? He scans the right flank, nothing but trash mobs. Frustrating, he turns, searching for the heavy hitter. The boss is growling somewhere, but the young hunter cannot pinpoint the location yet. High in the tree, the leader observes. It is cunning, patient, and absolutely livid at the massacre below. It is no ordinary beast. It is a goblin shaman. Hyun-wook spots the crystal near his foot. Time to eat, he announces loudly, crouching down. It is a trap. The boss sees the opening. His fingers brush the crystal. He knows the shaman cannot resist this moment of weakness. It thinks it is smarter than the grunts. A crazed smile splits Hyun-wook's face. Prey is down. Come out and play, boss. Asterisk, snap, asterisk. The shaman crushes a talisman, unleashing a dark spell, but Hyun-wook senses the mana shift instantly. He is ecstatic. Asterisk. Boom. Asterisk. The earth explodes upward. Stone spikes erupt from the ground, impaling the surrounding goblins in a gruesome display intended for him. Meanwhile, at the distant barracks, lights flicker. A soldier looks up, face pale. Platoon leader. Did the ground just shake? The shadowy figure questions his subordinate's courage. His voice drips with venom as he vows to slaughter him if he dares disturb his slumber for such nonsense again. Back on the blood-soaked battlefield, carnage reigns. Countless monsters hang impaled on jagged spikes, completely skewered by the boss's devastating area attack. The survivors stand frozen, their minds unable to process the slaughter. High above, perched atop a towering tree, the boss observes his handiwork. He unleashes a triumphant roar, convinced of his victory, but a voice cuts through the celebration. The protagonist announces his presence, leaving the boss completely stunned. Hyun-wook launches a fallen sword. It spins through the air like a deadly propeller, screaming toward its target. But the shaman is ready, raising his staff. Steel clashes against wood. With a precise strike, the shaman manages to deflect the projectile away. Perched casually on a monster's impaled corpse, Hyun-wook sighs. He laments that his throw was perfect. In response, the creature erupts into manic, insane laughter. But the boss is in for a shock. The protagonist reveals it was all a deception while expertly handling his bayonet. The shaman realizes the true danger too late. A sharp metallic clang rings out through the silent forest. The corporal watches in sheer disbelief at the impossible sight before him. The boss had stopped the blade cold. With raw, terrifying strength, he grips the protagonist's dagger with nothing but his bare hand. Fury explodes in the monster's eyes. He glares daggers at Hyun-wook, while dark blood drips from his wounded palm. Smiling in the face of death, the protagonist admits his surprise. He acknowledges the feat of blocking his attack one-handed, yet calls the monster trash in the very same breath. The insult lands. Unamused, the boss locks eyes with the human boy, his grip still tightening around the blade. Hyun-wook levels his rifle and commands the beast to descend, threatening to slice them all down. But a quick glance around reveals the harsh truth. He overplayed his hand. A horde of monsters encircles him from all sides. Panic sets in as he wonders how to handle the mob now that the boss has joined the fray personally. To make matters worse, the boss's presence acts as a catalyst. The lesser monsters shake off their fear, rallying their spirits for a renewed assault. Disaster strikes. The system blares a warning. Mana depletion. He has burned through too much, leaving him with a critical 40% reserves. Hyun-wook curses under his breath. His mana is the fatal bottleneck. Pushed to the brink, he realizes he has no choice. He unlocks his weapon's limiters. The boss raises his staff high, dark energy swirling as he prepares to unleash a devastating blow. Frustrated, the protagonist roars back. If he cannot devour the boss, they will both perish together. He vows to eat the monster and return to his post, prompting a terrifying grin from the beast. Suddenly, Jaemo's voice pierces the chaos, screaming for the corporal. Startled, the protagonist whips around, scanning the battlefield for his comrade. The boy keeps shouting, desperate to find Hyun-wook. The shaman sees the opening instantly and barks an order. The horde charges forward. Hyun-wook grits his teeth in irritation, aiming his weapon. Pure terror washes over Jaemo as he sees the stampede rushing straight for his throat. A goblin lunges for the kill, but the protagonist's voice booms out, commanding the boy to duck immediately. Trusting his leader, the boy drops. The corporal fires, forcing the creature to dodge. Anticipating the move, the protagonist hurls a sword to intercept it. The monster blocks the blade, but it's not enough. Hyun-wook leaps through the air, jamming his weapon directly into the creature's gaping maw. He pulls the trigger without mercy. The monster's head explodes. The corporal lands behind the corpse, fighting to regain his balance. He spins, aiming at the next target. But to his shock, the battlefield is empty. Only he and his subordinate remain standing. The dimensional portal gapes open, yet not a single monster is in sight. His bayonet stands lonely, embedded in the earth. Mentally, the protagonist admits defeat in this skirmish. Fury bubbles up as he realizes the enemy is far more cautious and cunning than he predicted. Suddenly, static bursts from his radio. Loud voices report heavy gunfire and confirm the location. Sector 5 post. Cornered by circumstance, the corporal activates his comms. He begins the grim task of reporting the open portal. He informs command that the hostiles are goblins, and they have retreated from the initial zone. His eyes drift to his trembling subordinate. Still simmering with annoyance, the protagonist grabs the radio again. He states firmly that there are 0 casualties. The barracks acknowledge the report. The order is absolute. Defend the post at all costs. The voice repeats the command, emphasizing that the 5th post must not fall. Hyun-wook realizes the clock is ticking. Reinforcements are on their way. Meanwhile, a formidable figure strides down a corridor. Subordinates promise readiness in 5 minutes. It is the armored paladin, Lieutenant Suna. The protagonist's mind races. If she arrives, history will repeat itself. She will slaughter the monsters, close the portal, and steal the glory. If that happens, all the loot belongs to the army. His mind flashes to a legendary artifact, the adamantium. That single item was the key to his past glory. It was the artifact that crowned him with the legendary title, Emperor of Steel. If he misses this chance, the next window won't open for 4 long years. If he fails now, he is doomed to repeat the tragic fate of his past life. Frustration burns in his veins. He decides to take it all for himself. Hyun-wook swears he will finish this hunt before the lieutenant arrives. He scours his memory. Goblins require a living sacrifice. The boy asks what is happening, but the protagonist is deep in deduction, tracking their path. He calculates quickly. For a goblin hunting party, the city ruins are too dense for a ritual. He arrives at a terrifying conclusion. Just then, a scream erupts from the radio. Someone yells that they are under attack. From the 6th post, they spot the goblin horde. A sinister glimmer among the trees leaves the corporal and his subordinate, stunned, frozen. Noticing this, a predator's grin spreads across the protagonist's face. He barks into the radio, identifying himself as the 5th post. He boldly offers to back up the 6th, but the radio crackles with disdain. The voice dismisses them, sneering that there is nothing a lowly E-rank can do. As the insults fly, Hyun-wook simply lowers the volume. Jae-mo tries to stop him in a panic. He warns this isn't just about the brig, it is a one-way ticket to a court-martial. Hyun-wook cuts him off cold. The 6th post is filled with archers and mages. In other words, glass cannons with 0 close combat skills. But the private hesitates. What difference does it make if Hyun-wook goes into that hell alone? Hyun-wook points a finger right at the boy. He replies, "I am not alone. I have got you." Jae-mo blinks, wondering if his ears are playing tricks on him. Static screams from the 6th post paint a grim picture. Corporal Young-hak has already been taken down. It is a massacre. Dozens of goblins swarm the perimeter. A terrified soldier curls up, shielding himself while begging for his corporal. On the ground, the mage gasps. His barrier is shattering. Beside him, a comrade screams into the radio for salvation. Then, confusion. Why has the battlefield suddenly gone dead silent? Outside, gravity shifts. Rocks levitate ominously. The goblin shaman is weaving his dark magic, hurling stone fragments like missiles. Cowering under the assault, the soldiers tremble. What nightmare is coming for them next? The grim truth hits them both. It is a monster raid. Once the post falls, they will be dragged to an altar and have their hearts ripped out while still breathing. Despair takes over. The corporal turns his rifle on himself. His comrade wrestles the gun away, but the man insists ending it now is mercy compared to the torture ahead. Watching the scene unfold, the young soldier breaks down in tears. Above the post, the sky fills with stones again. The boss prepares to wipe them off the map. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the static. It commands him to load a fire arrow and aim for the light. The order repeats, louder this time. Load fire. Aim for the light. The boy obeys but argues back they need a whole squad to make a dent. Meanwhile, the soldier watches the wall of stone rushing toward him, paralyzed by fear. The archer screams in frustration. He cannot see a target. Who or what is he supposed to shoot? But then, through the chaos, a beam of light cuts through the darkness. Hyun-wook is riding a goblin like a steed, flashlight beaming. He shouts for the archer to just aim. He will handle the trigger. With a sharp smirk, he crooks his finger in the air as if pulling an invisible trigger. The boy's crossbow fires on its own accord. Shocked, he stammers that the trigger pulled itself. The flaming bolt threads the needle, striking the monster Hyun-wook is holding. The beast roars, clawing at the shaft. Asterisk. Boom. Asterisk. The goblin explodes into gore. A blue system window pops up. Mana consumption increased by 1%. Hyun-wook grins. This strategy saves his precious mana, but the victory is short-lived. From above, a terrifying pressure descends. The shaman has locked onto them. The boss twists his hand, curving the floating stones toward the post. Hyun-wook leaps, barely dodging the bombardment. The strike gouges a massive trench in the earth. Ignoring the destruction, Hyun-wook bellows at the trembling archer to reload. "Aim for the light," he commands again. High on the cliff, the boss glares down, surveying the battlefield. It becomes a rhythm of death. One by one, goblins fall to the devastating combo of the hunter and the archer. Watching his army crumble, the shaman's fury boils over. Deep in the forest, J-Mo trembles. He wonders how a grunt like him can survive this boss. Surely, the moment he signals, he is dead meat. But the scene before him says otherwise. The battlefield is a sea of fire, the goblin horde decimated by his corporal's insane strategy. The boy realizes the truth. Hyun-wook said he would create a distraction, but at this rate, he is going to solo the entire portal. Suddenly, a goblin spots him. It lunges at the soldier. J-Mo freezes, his mind going blank. Asterisk clang. Asterisk Hyun-wook appears from the shadows, deflecting the blow with his dagger. His flashlight snaps onto the target. He dances around the creature. Snap. The trigger activates. Another arrow finds its mark. As the goblin burns, Hyun-wook rushes past his subordinate. He points silently. J-Mo nods, understanding the order he will cover with the rifle. J-Mo stares at the back of the man. Is this really his corporal? The boss stands alone, his minions reduced to ash. Hyun-wook decides the warm-up is over. Glancing at his status window, he calculates. Will the coward finally make his move? The system blares a warning. Only 12% mana remaining. Frustration ripples through Hyun-wook. He realizes the truth: the boss is not just watching. He is waiting for him to run dry. He knew the grim truth. If his mana ran dry here, it wasn't just his life on the line. It would be a death sentence for every single one of his comrades. Just then, a desperate cry pierced the air. "Save me, please." The goblin shaman grinned wickedly, holding a jagged blade to Jumbo's throat. I did everything you said, Corporal. I'm sorry." Jumbo sobbed, paralyzed by fear. Kang-wook didn't waste breath on words. He simply raised his bayonet, eyes locked on the target. The shaman didn't flinch. Instead, he pressed his staff closer to the soldier's neck, drawing a bead of blood, while chanting a curse in the guttural goblin tongue. Fury ignited in Kang-wook's chest, but he forced himself to stay cold. He cut the mana flow to his metal manipulation. Instantly, two goblins sensed the opening and lunged from his blind spot. He gritted his teeth against the backlash. "You're making this difficult, Jumbo," he muttered. The two ambushers leaped, claws bared for the kill, but Kang-wook just smirked. Ignoring the attackers behind him, he pointed a single finger at the shaman. Checkmate. His finger twitched. Jumbo's rifle, lying forgotten on the ground, suddenly roared to life. The weapon floated and fired blindly, a hail of bullets forcing the monster to recoil and drop his hostage. The shaman shrieked, coughing up dark blood as bullets found their mark. Kang-wook didn't hesitate. He weaved through the ambushers' attacks, charging straight for the boss. Jumbo scrambled away, collapsing safely beside the dying monster. "I'm alive. I'm okay," he stammered, frantically checking his limbs. "Good," Kang-wook called out, a savage glint in his eye. "Then you'd better have a healthy appetite." He hurled a spinning dagger at the fleeing shaman. Asterisk. Clang. Asterisk. The blade struck true, but the shaman's strange, leathery hide deflected the steel as if it were nothing but a pebble. Warning. Mana at 9%. The system's red text flashed before his eyes. Kang-wook frowned. Asterisk. Why did it only harden the skin on its back? Asterisk. Terror consumed the shaman. The creature didn't care about fighting anymore. It scrambled desperately toward the glowing dimensional portal, clawing its way to salvation. "Oh no, you don't." Kang-wook saw the trajectory. He wound up his arm, bayonet ready. "You really think I'm letting you leave?" Kang-wook roared, sprinting with everything he had. But the distance was too great. The monster was inches away from the swirling vortex. The beast reached out, fingertips brushing the portal's edge. But then, something caught the light. A decorative cord on the shaman's neck gleamed. Asterisk. Metal. Asterisk. Warning. Mana at 7%. He didn't care. Kang-wook thrust his open palm forward, then clenched it into a fist and yanked back with all his might. The invisible grip took hold. The boss froze in midair, jerked backward by its own necklace. Even as Kang-wook's reserves hit rock bottom, there was no room for mercy. Kang-wook hauled on the magnetic tether, dragging the thrashing monster across the dirt. Escape was no longer an option. With the enemy pinned to the ground, Kang-wook drew his final blade. Game over. He launched the dagger for the kill shot. Mana. 1%. Asterisk. Just die already. Asterisk. The dagger buried itself in the shaman's skull with earth-shattering force, sending a tremor through the dungeon floor. Mana. 0%. The tank ran dry. Kang-wook collapsed, gasping for air. His skills were as sharp as his past life, but this weak rank F body couldn't keep up. Suddenly, the gloom of the dungeon was banished by a blinding brilliance. He squinted against the glare. Asterisk. Sacred light? Asterisk. The rescue team had arrived, led by that Times woman. Ignoring them, Hyun-wook dragged himself to the shaman's corpse. He had to secure the loot before they saw. Got it. He dug a pulsing gem out of the monster's chest, wiping off the gore. Behind him, a scout screamed, "Portal located! Secure the perimeter! Freeze! Hands in the air or we shoot!" The soldiers barked. Hyun-wook locked eyes with them, shrugged, and shoved the entire bloody crystal into his mouth. "Identify yourself. Name and rank." With goblin blood dripping from his lips and a manic grin, he turned. "Corporal Hyun-wook. At your service." "We have a survivor here," a medic shouted. "Get a stretcher. Move, move." The squad looked nervous, eyeing the open rift. "The dungeon isn't closed yet. There have to be more monsters. Stay sharp." Lieutenant Yu-na sheathed her blade, skeptical. 4 regular soldiers took down a dungeon boss? Impossible. She surveyed the carnage. Every goblin corpse bore the same surgical, lethal wounds. Her eyes widened. Asterisk. This wasn't a squad battle. This was a one-man massacre. Asterisk. Absorption complete. The system chimed in Hyun-wook's ear. Warning. Due to low constitution, assimilation will take 9 hours. As the medics hauled him onto the stretcher, a satisfied smile played on his lips. Asterisk. Totally worth it. Asterisk. Item analysis. Enchanted star metal. New abilities unlocked based on absorption mass. The rewards were rolling in. Yuna watched the bloody corporal being carried away. Baffled. Asterisk. He just survived hell. So why is he grinning like he owns the world? Asterisk. Congratulations. Legendary item consumed. Passive skill acquired. Absolute metal sense. You can now detect all metallic resonance within range. Hyun-wook's eyes snapped open. The feeling was familiar. Intoxicating. Finally, he whispered. "I'm back." "Hostiles approaching Sector 6, a sentry screamed. Yuna drew her blade instantly, but Hyun-wook didn't need eyes anymore. He could feel the iron in their blood, the steel in their hands. He clenched his fist, feeling the world vibrate around him. Hyun-wook let out a low laugh. The Emperor of Steel has returned. A few days later, the barracks of the 3rd Brigade were buzzing. A group of female soldiers huddled together, whispering about the impossible rumor. "Did you hear? The recon squad was basically dead meat." Then this rank F corporal steps in and absolutely slaughters the entire goblin nest solo. "No way," one soldier scoffed, waving her hand. "That's pure fantasy. A rank F? Impossible." Nearby, a soldier was retching into a bin, face pale. It was Sang-wook. He wiped his mouth, glaring at the gossips. "You think it's a joke? You think I'm making this up?" Another survivor stiffened, saluting nervously as an officer walked by. "It's true," he hissed, eyes wide with lingering fear. "Keep your voice down, or he might hear you." The heavyset bully leans his weight onto the terrified boy, sneering that the sergeant did not even acknowledge the salute. Yet the rookie is lowering his hand anyway. Trembling with fear, the soldier snaps back into a salute. It is the archer, the very same private our protagonist saved earlier. The sergeant glares, demanding the chubby lackey's name. "I am Wook, sir," he stammers. Sergeant Sang-up barks an order. "Take 3 men and charge the portal immediately." But Wook recoils, whining that it is a suicide mission. The sergeant's eyes narrow. He claims he has never seen grunt soldiers take down a boss monster and a horde. To him, their survival was nothing but dumb luck. And if it was just luck, then a disobedient rank F soldier is a liability, a cancer to military discipline that must be excised. The large man erupts into maniacal laughter, his grip tightening around the poor boy's skull like a vice. Sang-up whispers to Anel that they cannot let this slide. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the barracks. The protagonist stands in a stark, blindingly white corridor lined with ominous doors. Inside the battalion commander's office, the air is heavy with tension. A figure stands rigid, offering a sharp, disciplined salute. Hyun-wook introduces himself, stating he is here to resolve the incident. But internally, frustration boils. He wonders if his plan failed, why else would they drag him here? The atmosphere is suffocating. To his side stands the female lieutenant, a formidable rank B paladin radiating power. Next to her is Lieutenant Min-gi, a rank C mage. The commander's voice cuts through the silence, asking if it is true that he disobeyed the direct order to hold his position. He demands to know if Hyun-wook truly faced the portal's first wave alone. This is Hyun-wook, the king of the Namsan Mountains, a powerful rank B warrior. Hyun-wook's mind races. One wrong word implies a court-martial. All he wants is to quietly stand guard and survive, not face a military tribunal. He chooses honesty. The protagonist admits the charge, explaining that when the portal surged, he had no choice but to respond immediately. The commander scoffs. By all logic, a soldier of his rank should have been torn to shreds in that chaos. The spiritual pressure is crushing. Hyun-wook realizes if he has to report here often, his easy military life is over. A faint, calculated smile touches his lips. Hyun-wook speaks up, his voice steady. He claims he feels wronged, deceived, even by the battalion commander himself. "How dare you?" Lieutenant Min-gi lunges forward, but Commander Kang-wook raises a hand. "Halt." Stunned, the mage retreats to his station. The commander's gaze bores into the protagonist, heavy and unblinking. "Explain yourself," he demands. The corporal stands tall. He reminds Kang-wook of the words he repeats during every training session, a creed spoken without fail. "Do you not remember, sir? You always say that in the anti-monster unit, rank does not matter. Whether rank A or rank E, we are all capable of slaughtering trolls. You said that even a rank F like me has value on the battlefield. I might struggle against a troll, but I can kill a goblin. If I had not disobeyed the control center, every soldier at the 6th post would be a corpse right now." Internally, Hyun-wook smirks. The rational defense is done. Now, he launches his emotional assault. He invokes another of Kang-wook's famous speeches. "For a true soldier, ranks do not exist. We fight with everything we have." The protagonist declares he acted as a true soldier and a disciple of the commander, a man he respects above all others. "I used the tactics from your brutal training. I endured the humiliation of being a rank F solely because of your leadership. It was my admiration for you that kept me going. I fought to honor the unit you built, but seeing you dismiss my desperate struggle, it feels as though my entire military existence means nothing." He hits a nerve. Years ago, when Kang-wook was a second lieutenant, he nearly died fighting orcs when the portals first opened. Yet, he returned without hesitation, becoming a founding member of the anti-monster troop. He is a warrior to his core. The protagonist drives the point home. "I admired you. I risked my life for my comrades, just as you would have. Is that grounds for a court-martial?" The commander crosses the room in a stride, grabbing Hyun-wook by the shoulders. "Is that truly what you believe, soldier?" Feigning fear, the protagonist nods. "My name is Hyun-wook, sir." Suddenly, the wild-eyed commander makes a shocking offer. "Become my executive officer." Ding. The system interrupts. Absorption complete. You have acquired the skill. Physical transformation. Time seems to freeze. The protagonist and the commander lock eyes in total silence. The lieutenants stand agape, a mix of embarrassment and shock. But the commander, tears well up in his eyes as he nods approvingly. On the inside, Hyun-wook is sweating bullets. It is a cocktail of fear and sheer astonishment. He stares at Kang-wook, questioning his own hearing. Did he just get promoted? Later, Hyun-wook is found in the training room of the 3rd Brigade. He moves with rhythmic calm, racking weights in their proper places after a workout. Panting heavily, he realizes the irony. He tried to avoid the guard post and the tribunal, only to land in an even bigger mess. He is doomed. But he is not alone. The chubby Wook and Sergeant Sang-up watch from the shadows. Sang-up, eyes glinting with malice, gives a silent signal. Hyun-wook recalls Lieutenant Min-gi's protest. A rank F has never become an executive officer in history. The protagonist silently thanks the lieutenant for stalling the promotion. It is better to live unnoticed like a rat than to stand in the spotlight. Wook steps forward, puffing his chest. "Hey, Corporal, are you done with that bench?" Hyun-wook doesn't even look up. Not yet. But then, a sharp realization strikes him as he observes the details more closely. Catching the twisted grin plastered on the burly man's face, Hyun-wook demands to know his scheme. Won-sok sneers, mocking that having their famous hero lift such pathetic weights is a disgrace to the entire unit. Tension ripples through the gym, drawing curious eyes from every corner to the brewing conflict. The protagonist's gaze shifts, locking onto a specific group snickering in the shadows. It's the surgeon. The pieces click together. He orchestrated this entire charade, hoping to drown the protagonist in public humiliation while the crowd mocks him. Hyun-wook steels himself. If he retreats now, the cycle of bullying from his past life will only repeat itself here. He intended to keep a low profile, but fate has other plans. He tells Won-sok that his patience has run thin, and the big man showed up at the perfect time to be a punching bag. He challenges the brute to a duel right then and there. Sang-ok and Won-sok freeze in shock, while whispers explode across the room. Two soldiers are about to throw down. They finally step into the iron cage. With ice-cold composure, the protagonist secures his gloves. Won-sok follows suit, cracking his knuckles. He grins maliciously, promising to teach the rookie a painful lesson. He charges like a rhino, swinging a massive left hook. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the base, a conversation turns to Choi Yun-jun's sudden vacation. A high-ranking officer admits his excitement, having heard rumors that the boy possesses the potential to become a legendary sword saint. A subordinate tries to temper expectations. While Ma Young-oh is the current ace, the future holds a different kind of monster. Intrigued, The officer decides not to leave empty-handed. He asks the lieutenant to accompany him. They need to see this potential firsthand. Back inside the cage, the air whistles as the protagonist weaves through a barrage of strikes. Planting his feet firmly, he drops his center of gravity, letting a lethal blow sail harmlessly overhead. He evades every attack with terrifying ease, but the relentless pressure finally backs him into a corner against the steel bars. Seizing the opening, his opponent rushes in for a crushing finisher. Even the protagonist feels a flicker of surprise at the sheer aggression. The crowd gasps, bracing for the sickening sound of bone breaking. But in a blur of motion, Hyun-wook rolls across the mat. He rises instantly, now standing ominously behind his confused attacker. He flicks his fingers in a come-get-me gesture. Won-sok's face turns purple with exploding rage. As cheers erupt from the onlookers, Enel notes that the stage is perfectly set for Mr. Ma Young-oh's arrival. He asks for an assessment, noting that Won-sok's raw power is undeniable. However, the keen eyes of the observer focus elsewhere on the supernatural speed of the boy dodging every single hit. Ma Young-oh scoffs. What use is power if it can't land a target? It's a clear sign of inexperience. Yet, one connection would mean instant knockout. Watching his pawn fail, Surgeon Sung-ok boils with fury. He screams from the sidelines, cursing Won-sok's clumsiness and ordering him to end this farce immediately. The crowd turns hostile, shouting at Won-sok to stop playing around. Their money is on the line. Won-sok panics internally. His limbs feel like lead. Gritting his teeth, he forces another attack against the protagonist. But he doesn't realize the truth. Hyun-wook is manipulating the very metal in his boots. With a subtle hand gesture, the protagonist commands the steel. He anchors his opponent's feet to the floor as if they were rooted by gravity itself. Balance shattered, Won-sok stumbles. Hyun-wook sidesteps the clumsy punch effortlessly, leaving the big man terrified of his own body. To Won-sok, it must feel like fighting in a deep swamp. A cold, sadistic smile plays on the protagonist's lips. "Wait!" Won-sok stammers, panic rising. "My legs. Something is wrong." Hyun-wook tilts his head. "Why the sudden excuse? Is the fight not going your way?" Humiliation ignites fresh rage. Roaring like a bull, Won-sok curses, screaming that an F-rank trash has no right to look down on him. He triggers his ability, blasting a shockwave across the cage. The sudden burst of power catches the interest of the watching officers. Suddenly, Won-sok enters berserk mode. His muscles swell, veins pop like snakes, and his eyes burn with a demonic red glow. Hyun-wook doesn't flinch. He clenches his fists, shifting into a true combat stance, his gaze piercing through the beast before him. Ma Young-oh realizes this is no longer a spar, it's a slaughter. Yet, the boy standing against the monster hasn't taken a single step back. It is a clash between a rampaging buffalo and a leopard hiding its claws. The sheer size difference is overwhelming. The lieutenant grins at the entertainment, while the berserker screams that he warned the rookie this wasn't a game. "I'll end you." Won-sok vanishes from sight, reappearing instantly to deliver a catastrophic blow. The impact is devastating. Hyun-wook is launched through the air, slamming violently against the steel cage. The surgeon cheers, "That's my boy!" The crowd nods in agreement. It was inevitable. After all, Won-sok is on a completely different level, or so they think. The crowd gasped, their whispers dying out instantly. He wasn't called the future ace for nothing, but Won-sok clutched his wrist, grimacing. It felt like he had just punched a wall of solid steel. Shock rippled through the room as the dust settled. The protagonist stood there, completely unscathed. At the last second, he had activated his steel body skill. A cold, confident smile played on Hyun-wook's lips. He calmly explained that he hadn't just blocked the hit. He had transmuted his very flesh into impenetrable metal. "Now," Hyun-wook declared, his eyes cold, "it's my turn." He taunted the giant to bring it on, but the steroid-pumped bully just scoffed, spitting insults at the rank F trash standing before him. Roaring with fury, Won-sok launched another haymaker, but the corporal wasn't there. He moved like a ghost, slipping past the blow with terrifying ease. "Wasting mana on someone like you is a tragedy," Hyun-wook muttered. Still, power surged through his leg. Asterisk, crack, asterisk. A devastating low kick shattered the giant's stance. Hyun-wook unleashed a flurry of strikes, his voice calm amidst the violence. "You guys are all the same. You think muscles alone make you strong? A beatdown is the only medicine you understand." The crowd went dead silent. Hyun-wook began to dismantle the giant, driving him into the dirt with brutal precision. Even the medic watched in disbelief, his jaw hanging open. The lieutenant's eyes narrowed in approval. Hyun-wook had finally stopped hiding. The beast had revealed his claws. The blows kept raining down, relentless and heavy. Ma Young-ho watched with grim satisfaction. The leopard has finally bitten the buffalo's throat, and if he is a true predator, Young-ho added darkly, he won't let go. He needs to choke the life out of him right now. But Won-suk wasn't finished. With bloodied vision and adrenaline pumping, he roared and hoisted Hyun-wook up with a single arm, winding up a skull-crushing punch. "I don't know what cheap trick you're using," Won-suk growled, his face a mask of rage. For a split second, fear flickered in Hyun-wook's eyes as he stared down death. "Die!" the giant screamed, slamming him toward the concrete with earth-shattering force intended to break every bone in his body. Terror gripped the corporal's heart, but combat instinct took over. Mid-air, Hyun-wook twisted his frame, locking onto the enemy's arm with impossible agility. Agony exploded through Won-suk's shoulder. His fist hovered inches from the ground, frozen. Hyun-wook had executed a flawless armbar, completely immobilizing the monster. Through the haze of pain, the giant realized the truth. A flying armbar? This wasn't luck. This rank F trash was a martial arts expert. Young-ho nodded, impressed. If that punch had landed, Won-suk would have snapped his own arm on the floor. That kid. His reflexes are insane. But the battle wasn't won yet. Hyun-wook gritted his teeth, veins popping on his forehead as he struggled to keep the thrashing monster subdued. The lieutenant analyzed the scene rapidly. A normal human can't overpower a physical enhancement user. Unless, is this the result of overstimulation? Won-suk sneered through the pain, his ego refusing to accept reality. "Look at you, struggling like a rat fighting for its life. You think you can break me?" Won-suk roared, trying to rain down punches, but Hyun-wook just screamed back, torquing the joint even harder, eyes burning with determination. The giant howled in genuine agony now. Desperate, he pried his hand open, shaking his limb violently to throw the protagonist off balance. It worked. Hyun-wook slipped, but he didn't fall. With impossible agility, he pivoted off the giant's head, spinning around him like a top. In the blink of an eye, he was on Won-suk's back. His arms snaked around the throat. Rear naked choke locked in. It was time to end this. The lieutenant grinned, leaning forward. He knew it. His assessment of the boy had been spot on from the beginning. Muscles can be enhanced, but arteries? Those are still human. Cut the blood flow, and even a monster falls. It was simple biology. Suddenly, a manic grin spread across Hyun-wook's face. He wasn't just choking him. He activated his body transformation skill again, right there. Won-suk clawed at the arm around his neck. It felt like an iron bar. How could his immense strength fail him against this insect? System alert. The system screamed a warning inside Hyun-wook's mind. He was using the transformation on an area far larger than his current limit. Agony surged through Hyun-wook instantly. Electric shocks tore through his nerves, a violent backlash punishing him for his arrogance. Critical warning. The status window flashed red. Continued use would result in total body collapse. He was destroying himself to secure the win. "Medic! Shouldn't we stop this?" a spectator yelled, panic rising in the room. "That giant is too proud to tap out. He'll die before he quits." Hyun-wook's vision blurred from the pain of the skill penalty, but he looked down at Won-suk's struggling form. This has to be enough of a lesson. The medic bit his lip, sweat dripping down his face. The situation was spiraling out of control, and he was powerless to intervene. Won-suk's world was fading to black. Losing? To him? The shame burned hotter than his starving lungs. He couldn't be humiliated in front of everyone. "I am the future ace." His mind shattered. Rage fueled a new evolution. His muscles began to swell uncontrollably, rejecting defeat. Hyun-wook gasped as the body beneath him expanded. The strength pushing back against him was becoming godlike. The fear was returning. *RIIIP. Won-suk's uniform shredded as he doubled in size. The floor cracked under the pressure. The man was gone. Only a berserk monster remained. Both fighters were dancing on the edge of oblivion. Limit broken versus limit broken. It was a battle of pure will. Young-ho watched with a twisted expression. Size doesn't matter if the blood stops flowing to the brain. Can he hold on long enough? Who was the hunter? Who was the prey? Both roared, pouring every ounce of life force into this final, desperate struggle. Suddenly, Won-suk's face turned a deep, violent purple. His eyes rolled back into his head. The oxygen was gone. Boom. The giant collapsed like a falling skyscraper. Dust and debris exploded outward, forcing the crowd to shield their eyes from the impact. Silence reigned as the dust settled. The lieutenant stared at the victor standing over the fallen giant. "There," he whispered. "That is the true predator." Looking down at the unconscious giant, Lieutenant Ma Young-ho realizes the truth. That wasn't a fight. It was a massacre. The boy standing over his opponent is a genuine wild beast. Several soldiers rush to check on Won-suk, but panic sets in. The man is a mountain of muscle, even unconscious. His sheer weight makes moving him an impossible task. Jamo sprints toward the protagonist, his face beaming with admiration. "I knew it," he screams. "I knew you would win." He ignores the others, trying to hold him back. fussing over the corporal's condition. Hyun-wook looks past him, locking eyes with Sung-wook. The bully flinches and immediately looks away, unable to handle the pressure. The fear is palpable. Sang-wook is terrified of what this monster might do next. Suddenly, the lieutenant steps forward, demanding the protagonist's attention. "Identify yourself," the officer commands. Hyun-wook snaps to attention, though his eyes remain bored. "Corporal Hyun-wook, First Company." "Lieutenant Ma Young-oh," the officer replies, his voice steady. That was an impressive display. He extends a sleek, black business card. "Ever heard of the Special Guerrilla Unit? We could use a killer like you." A ripple of shock goes through the crowd. Soldiers whisper frantically. "The Black Tigers? The lieutenant is from the Black Tiger Unit?" Disbelief washes over the squad. The scout didn't just offer a spot. He offered a ticket to the absolute elite, the best AMT unit in the entire military. Hyun-wook scratches his head, feigning humility. "I'm sorry, sir. I'm just an F-rank player." Ma Young-oh scoffs. "Ranks are limits set for civilians. We need warriors, not numbers." Internally, Hyun-wook clicks his tongue. This is becoming a headache. He is extremely irritated. Everyone wants a piece of him now. The lieutenant raises an eyebrow, his patience thinning. "How long are you going to make me hold this card, soldier?" Hyun-wook's mind races. If he refuses now, he makes a powerful enemy. The Black Tigers aren't people you say no to without consequences. Deciding to play it safe, he takes the card. "I'll keep my distance for now," he thinks. Out loud, he offers a crisp salute. "Thank you for the offer, sir. I will give it careful thought." From the shadows, a sergeant watches the exchange, his fists clenched. Pure jealousy burns in his eyes. He glares at the pair, furious that a nobody like Hyun-wook is getting the spotlight. Later, the scene shifts to the battalion commander's office. Commander Kang-wook leans back in his chair. "So," he asks, "how is the Black Tiger unit holding up these days?" Ma Young-oh sighs, the exhaustion evident in his voice. "Always the same, sir. We are critically understaffed." The commander nods knowingly. It's the guilds. They snatch up the best talents before the ink on their registration dries. High rank, low rank, it doesn't matter to them. Suddenly, the air in the room grows heavy. They lock eyes. Commander Kang-wook smiles, but it doesn't reach his eyes. "Be honest. You came here for Sergeant Young-jun, didn't you?" Ma Young-oh doesn't flinch. "You are correct. His talent is undeniable." He pauses, a glint of mystery in his gaze. "But I heard a rumor while I was here." The tension spikes again as their stares collide. "Is Young-jun on leave?" Ma Young-oh asks casually. "Because thanks to his absence, I stumbled upon a very interesting soldier." The commander's interest is piqued. He remembers the report about the recent duel. The Black Tiger operative stays silent, watching Kang-wook closely, waiting for the realization to hit. Kang-wook crosses his arms, leaning forward. "Who is this hidden dragon you found?" Ma Young-oh smirks. "Corporal Hyun-wook." Through the office window, the commander observes the training field. Down below, Hyun-wook is running laps, while Jae-mo tries to tackle-hug him in a display of pathetic adoration. Kang-wook picks up his phone, his voice dropping to a serious whisper. "I need a full background check." Subject: Corporal Hyun-wook. Dig up his past. Everything. On the field, Jae-mo finally catches up, grabbing Hyun-wook's arm. "Teach me. Make me strong like you." Hyun-wook shoves him away, cursing. "Get lost, you tick." The boy is relentless, chasing after him. "I want to be just like you, Hyun-wook." The protagonist stops, looking back with cold eyes. "Why would you want to curse like that?" On the phone, a mysterious voice agrees to the commander's request but issues a chilling warning. "Be careful, Lieutenant. Some stones are better left unturned." Down on the track, the hero looks anything but legendary. Hyun-wook runs with a clumsy, flailing gait, looking like a total amateur. Watching from above, Kang-wook mutters an apology to the unsuspecting corporal. "This isn't personal, kid, but my greed, it might just destroy you." A wide, ominous grin spreads across the commander's face. Meanwhile, in the city center, the nightlife is buzzing with ignorant bliss. A mother chats with a street food chef, unaware of the horror looming. Her son tugs her sleeve, pointing into the darkness. "Look, Mom! A monkey!" She laughs, walking toward the alley. "A monkey? Here?" She peers into the shadows, but her smile vanishes. That isn't a monkey. It is a rat the size of a wolf. The little boy freezes. Terror grips his heart. The creature turns, and a glowing crimson pentagram burns on its forehead. The mother screams, but it is too late. Behind the beast, space tears open. A portal. Countless monsters pour out like a plague of locusts. Back at the base, Hyun-wook stands in the armory, surprised. Lieutenant Yun-ho guides him in. "The commander believes in your potential," she says flatly. "He granted you leave and access to the armory. Though, your squad leader thinks you're garbage." Hyun-wook shrugs, inspecting a rack of blades. "He's not wrong. In my past life, I was lazy. Apparently, Old habits die hard. He picks up a sword, the steel glinting in the light. I don't care if the leader believes in me or not. Opinions don't win wars. It's all in the past, he murmurs. The attendant watches him, puzzled by his strange confidence. She narrows her eyes. Are you really that lazy? The goblin corpses from the last attack. They all had the exact same blade mark. You held the line alone. That takes precision, not luck. Hyun-wook ignores her analysis. He grabs a short, nondescript blade. This one. It's perfect. He gives the weapon a test swing. Asterisk. Whoosh. Asterisk. The air sings. Yunho looks confused. That rusty thing? Don't just pick a weapon because I'm watching, she scolds. Choose properly. Hyun-wook smirks, gripping the hilt. I'm not playing around. I genuinely like this one. This was the Cloud Blade. A relic capable of absorbing moisture and conjuring a mist that mimics human form. Even the protagonist admits it looks like scrap metal now. But make no mistake, this very weapon once forged the legend of Yoongjun, the Sword Saint. Its true name is the Black Hand of the Cloudmaster, born from the ancient myths of Dangan, where 3 gods of time descended upon the mortal realm. There was the Lord of Wind, the Master of Rain, and the Master of Clouds, whose dark appendage became known as the Hand of Darkness, but its true terror lies in full release. Hidden blades materialize from the mist, summoning a storm of devastating lightning. A confident smile plays on his lips. With absolute mastery over steel and thunder, he knows nothing in this world can stand in his way. The lieutenant hesitates, asking if this rusted artifact is truly reward enough for his heroic feats. But he simply nods in satisfaction. He cuts the conversation short, declaring there is simply no time to waste on other choices. Suddenly, a deafening boom shakes the area, startling even Yuna. The control tower screams a warning. A dungeon portal has ripped open in Akawan. Chaos erupts instantly as the soldiers scramble to prepare for war. The protagonist's expression darkens. Yuna watches him closely, unnerved by how Hyun-wook remains perfectly calm, as if he knew this nightmare was coming. At the city perimeter, a blockade of knights stands guard, barring civilians from the danger zone. Striding through the streets comes a figure clad in glamorous, shining armor, flanked by his own personal entourage. The regular army soldiers whisper in awe. It's the Blue Flower Guild, the elites sent as reinforcements for this specific gate. They scoff, muttering that the guild's flashy weapons and armor are nothing more than overpriced fashion statements. One soldier grumbles that selling just one piece of that gear could buy an entire building in the rich district of Gangnam. Suddenly, another military squad marches into view, their atmosphere grim and ready for violence. Captain Kenwick briefs the team. The enemies are kobolds small in stature, but their mastery of weapons makes them lethal. A rookie casually rolls up his sleeves, but Hyun-wook barks at him immediately, ordering him to maintain full discipline while on duty. Jam-mo whines, asking why they need to be so serious when the monsters aren't even here yet. The corporal snaps back, asking if he wants his eyes gouged out while he's still breathing. Terrified by the threat, the boy stammers a refusal. Hyun-wook commands everyone to check their gas masks. This is not a drill. A mocking laugh cuts through the tension. An elite soldier approaches, sneering that the trash squad is pretending to have a strategy meeting. Jam-mo hangs his head in shame, crushed by the insult. Seeing his subordinate humiliated, a fire of genuine anger ignites in the protagonist's eyes. Kenwick warns the elite that these kobolds escaped containment, and masks are vital. The arrogant elite scoffs, waving him off. He claims he can handle some small fry on his own. He spits on the ground, declaring he has no need for advice from the bottom of the barrel. Hyun-wook warns him to remember those words. The elite laughs, mocking him as the commander of the useless squad, leaving the soldiers demoralized. Hyun-wook's patience snaps. He turns to his squad, his voice commanding and sharp, ordering them to pull themselves together right now. He acknowledges the insults, but reminds them that with their lives on the line, there is no luxury for self-pity. The steel in his voice works. The squad straightens up, their resolve hardening behind their leader. He lays out the plan. Kobolds are small ambush predators. He orders motion sensors placed in the sewers and tight crevices. They have 20 minutes to secure the perimeter. The protagonist shouts for Jam-mo, who jumps to attention instantly. The other soldiers whisper about how intense and anxious their leader seems today. Back at the supply depot, Jam-mo looks confused, unsure why he was singled out. Hyun-wook stares at his subordinate in heavy, ominous silence. Flustered, Jam-mo asks what's wrong. Hyun-wook opens his mouth to speak, but a dart strikes his neck. A paralytic poison instantly floods his veins. He collapses to the ground, helpless. Suddenly, one of the sewer manholes they were securing explodes. A chain reaction triggers, every manhole bursts open. The soldiers scramble, covering their faces to escape the sudden cloud of toxic gas. But thanks to their leader's earlier orders, they are ready. They slam their gas masks into place. Kobolds surge from the smoke. They descend upon the soldiers who are agonizing on the ground, paralyzed by the initial poison wave. Hyun-wook can only watch in horror. A massive shadow looms over him. It's the dungeon boss. The monster stares down, its pupils dilating with bloodlust. The kobold raises a jagged dagger for the kill. Immobilized and helpless, the protagonist can only stare death in the face as the blade descends. Suddenly, a body flies through the air, intercepting the blow. It was Jammo. He takes the hit, shouting to ask if the corporal is okay, despite blood pouring from his own eye. The kobold watches them from the poisonous mist. Amused, the monster's mask begins to glow with searing heat. Gathering every ounce of his willpower, Hyun-wook screams for Jammo to run. Confused and panicked, Jammo begs Hyun-wook to put on his mask. But before he can finish his sentence, the boy's head is severed from his body. A blood-curdling scream tore through the chaos of the battlefield, the corporal's voice breaking as he cried out for his fallen soldier. But the nightmare of the past dissolved into the present. Junmo stood before the protagonist, asking what was happening with a confused look on his face. Gazing at the young man, Hyun-wook felt a heavy weight in his chest. In his previous life, this subordinate had died a gruesome death protecting him from the kobolds. Soldiers reported that the sensor installation was just beginning, but Hyun-wook knew the truth. The real massacre would not happen at the front, but here, at the rear guard. He called out Junmo's name with grim determination. The boy stiffened, vowing to follow any order given, no matter the cost. Hyun-wook's instructions were precise. He would send a signal later. When that moment came, Junmo had to gather the squad and evacuate the operation area immediately. The soldier blinked, utterly bewildered by the strange command. Meanwhile, a military truck tore through the city streets at breakneck speed. Panic flickered in Junmo's eyes as he asked if this was desertion. Hyun-wook's expression remained as cold as ice. No, this was a tactical necessity. Across the city, the main force conducted a ruthless sweep, hunting for survivors and exterminating any monsters in their path. Intelligence estimated the enemy force at 200 kobolds. The squad was stepping straight into a zone saturated with volatile magic. The operation commander barked the order. Armand? Reacting instantly, the soldiers flooded into the warehouse, weapons drawn and ready for blood. Reports came in that the infiltration at Point P was complete. It was time to tighten the formation and prepare for the slaughter. High above, the control tower gave the green light. The attack squad unleashed their mana, activating the magic circles. Shield bearers locked their defenses, forming an impenetrable cage. Above them, arcane circles glowed with power as the kobold horde surged forward. The monsters shrieked, a wave of claws and teeth. Dozens of them launched crude weapons at the squad, hungry for human flesh. Hold. The leader's voice was steady even as the beasts closed the distance, their foul breath filling the air. Wait for it. Now. The command fell like a guillotine. Soldiers struck in unison while the magic circles rained down a hellstorm of fire. The tactic was flawless. In a single instant, the front line of monsters was incinerated, reduced to nothing but ash and bone. Meanwhile, Hyun-wook drove his squad relentlessly. Zones 2 and 5 were secured with sensors, but they needed to move faster. He marked a critical spot on the ground with tape. Suddenly, Lieutenant Min-ki approached, sneering as he asked what Hyun-wook thought he was doing. Hyun-wook saluted, explaining he was fixing the sensors by the manual. The lieutenant looked at the aluminum tape and scoffed, calling it garbage work. In the distance, the Blue Flower Guild members continued their blockade, preventing civilians from entering the danger zone. Min-ki stepped closer, his voice dripping with venom. He told the protagonist to stop acting important just because of a minor kobold portal. He mocked them, stating the first platoon would start the real work in 20 minutes. The support team should just shut up and collect the detoxifiers. Hyun-wook's eyes narrowed. He stated firmly that their mission from the vice commander was to intercept any monsters leaking from the rear guard. It was a critical task to protect the civilian area. But the lieutenant clearly didn't care about strategy or safety. Min-ki glanced around, his ego bruised by the pushback, his face twisted in irritation. This upstart was taking himself too seriously. He stepped into Hyun-wook's personal space, asking if the soldier had forgotten his rank just because the battalion commander showed him a little favor. He shoved Hyun-wook's helmet aggressively, reminding him who ran the barracks. Unfazed, the protagonist simply stated his name and rank. The lieutenant tapped the helmet again, harder this time, mocking Hyun-wook's lack of portal experience. Irritated, Hyun-wook repeated his name, his voice dropping an octave. Min-ki's face went red. He asked if a lowly soldier dared to lecture him, demanding Hyun-wook wipe that defiant look off his face. Suddenly, a subordinate rushed over, breathless. She begged the second platoon leader to stop, signaling an emergency. Min-ki spun around and realized it was Sim-ha, the platoon vice leader. His attitude shifted instantly as he asked what was wrong. Hyun-wook smirked internally. He had provoked Min-ki on purpose to draw her out. She was the lieutenant's one weakness. Min-ki stammered, asking why she was there. Sim-ha ignored him, delivering the message. The battalion commander was summoning soldier Hyun-wook. Even Hyun-wook was caught off guard. Meanwhile, High atop a skyscraper, a red-haired woman surveyed the city through the wind. Beside her lay a sniper, scope trained on the streets below. They were watching two targets, Sang-ho and Hyun-wook. Back on the ground, Simha whispered to Hyun-wook, telling him to ignore the lieutenant. But Hyun-wook hesitated, citing his unfinished work. She insisted, promising to finish the sensor setup herself. Go to the commander. Hyun-wook nodded, entrusting the task to her. As he walked away, he checked the time. The clock was ticking down to disaster. What exactly was the battalion commander planning? A soldier questioned if it was wise for Simha's squad to remain there. She silenced him. It was a direct order from the top. Being a soldier meant absolute obedience. Orders were not suggestions, they were absolute law. Inside the temporary command post, the commander welcomed Hyun-wook. Beside him stood Ma Young-go. Both men stared at the protagonist with intense focus. Confusion swirled in Hyun-wook's mind. Why was the first lieutenant here? And why was a mere support soldier in a private meeting with the battalion commander? The commander dropped the bombshell. Hyun-wook would replace the absent Yeon-jun. He was now leading the first attack platoon into the heart of the portal. Hyun-wook's mind races, bordering on panic. In his previous life, the commander never even spared him a glance. So why is fate rewriting itself now? Nerves threatened to shatter his composure. There's no time to hesitate, he needs to get his act together, immediately. He snaps to attention and calls out to the second lieutenant. Hyun-wook argues his case desperately. Since arriving, he's only led the support squad. Thrown into command now? It puts the entire platoon in the grave. Inside the makeshift command center, Commander Kang-wook's eyes are cold as steel. This is an order. Hyun-wook can do nothing but grit his teeth in frustration. Suddenly, a transmission crackles from Team Delta. The boss has exited the kobold nest. Zones 2 and 3 are ordered to high alert. Dread washes over Hyun-wook. His squad is next on the chopping block. If he doesn't move now, the entire rear guard will be slaughtered. He grinds his teeth. Decision made. He has to leave, no matter the price. He whirls back to the commander. Sir, I have something to say. Kang-wook stares him down. Speak. A heavy silence hangs in the air. Meanwhile, Yoon-ha watches the support squad from the shadows. She spots him sprinting through the alleyways and frowns in confusion. What is he doing? Hyun-wook runs like his life depends on it because it does. Support squad. Gas masks. Now. Hyun-wook screams. Before they can react times. Boom. Asterisk. A deafening roar tears through the air. Sensors shriek uncontrollably. Panic seizes every soldier in the vicinity. Just like in his nightmares, toxic gas spews from the sewers. Explosions rock the ground, sending Hyun-wook flying. Seeing the world swallowed by poisonous purple mist, fury ignites within him. He clamps a hand over his mouth. It's happening faster than I remembered. Asterisk. Flashback. Asterisk. Moments earlier. Inside the command tent. The commander waits. Hyun-wook meets his gaze. I heard rumors, sir. On your first mission, you lost your entire platoon. The first lieutenant freezes, his face pale with shock. Hyun-wook presses on. That is why the men doubt this order. They can't believe you'd entrust an attack platoon to a corporal from the useless support unit. His voice drops, heavy with accusation. Do you consider us disposable, Commander? Misunderstanding, Kang-wook replies smoothly. My personal elite squad will be right behind you. Hyun-wook cuts him off. If it were just my life for an order, I would give it gladly. Inside, his gut twists. He can't say the truth that he knows times the future. That he knows this is a death trap. But if I lead strangers, casualties are guaranteed. I appreciate your high expectations, sir. But if the cost is my comrades' lives, I will disobey. Kang-wook says nothing, his expression darkening like a storm. The lieutenant steps forward, warning sharp in his voice. Soldier, insubordination in wartime is a capital offense. Asterisk, I know that. Asterisk, Hyun-wook screams internally. Asterisk. But if I don't move now, everyone back there is dead meat. Asterisk, a tense pause. Then, Kang-wook waves his hand. Fine. Return to your original support mission. Hyun-wook blinks, surprised by the easy concession. But the commander isn't finished. However, I have a condition. As a soldier, you will face the consequences of refusing a direct order. Prepare yourself. Asterisk. Back to the present. Asterisk. The world is a toxic haze. Hyun-wook scrambles to find his squad, jamming his gas mask onto his face. He curses under his breath, furious at the delay. He reaches into his inventory pouch and withdraws the cloud blade. He douses the blade with water from his canteen. The system chimes. 25% capacity absorbed. The weapon hums with power. The gas is too thick. Visibility is 0. A cold pit forms in his stomach. Did he arrive too late? Straining his eyes through the poisonous smog, he prays to any god listening. Asterisk. Please, Jumbo, tell me you got everyone out. Asterisk. A scream tears through the mist. A soldier falls, impaled by a crude, rusty pickaxe. "Jumbo, help," the man cries. Hyun-wook spots them. In a flash, he steps in, weapon raised to shield his comrade. "You ugly bastard." The soldier on the ground fires his rifle blindly, trying to drive the beast back. The kobold screeches, startled by the resistance, and vanishes back into the mist. The soldier frantically presses his hands over his teammate's gushing wound. "Get behind the barricade," Jumbo roars over the chaos. "And don't leave Min-tae behind." "I've got him!" A trooper drags Min-tae's limp body across the concrete, leaving a gruesome trail of blood. The platoon vice leader stands frozen, eyes wide with terror. "Get a grip," Jumbo shouts, trying to snap her out of it. He can't blame her. She's barely 20, and this is her first taste of real hell. Even Jumbo's hands are trembling as he speaks. The reality settles in like a heavy stone. In a war like this, individual strength feels meaningless. "Jumbo!" a soldier screams, panic rising in his voice. "We're dry. That was the last magazine." Fear grips his heart. The boy trembles, questioning every choice, wondering if they have even a 1% chance to survive this nightmare. In the face of death, he asks himself, asterisk, what would the corporal do? Asterisk. A soldier cries out Min-tae is down and needs urgent medical aid. No time to waste. Someone frantically rips open their inventory backpack. "We are out of ammo." The troops scream in despair. But Jumo grips his hammer tight. He shouts, "Support team, now is your chance." The boy realizes the truth. Kobolds are drawn to shiny objects. He grits his teeth. He will be the decoy. "Everyone, fall back with Seon-ha. Now," he commands. The girl freezes, eyes wide with confusion. "What are you doing?" Jumo raises his hammer high. "This is an order from your vice leader. The blue flower is outside the evacuation zone. Therefore, when I give the signal, you run. Don't look back. Run for your lives." He knows his electrical power is weak, pathetic, even, but if it can save them, it is enough. Raising his hammer, he charges into the darkness. The plan works. The monsters lock on to the dazzling light. The entire Cobalt horde turns, abandoning the battlefield to hunt him down. "Go, this is your chance," he screams. Behind him, the soldiers scream his name in horror, watching him sprint toward death. The beasts close in. Jumo laughs bitterly to the squad. "If the corporal were here, he would use my pathetic power as bait anyway. I'm just doing what he would do." But suddenly a flash of steel. The protagonist, Bayonet, tears through the shadows. He slices through the horde with godlike speed. The impact is so violent that Jumo stumbles, crashing headfirst into Hyun-wook. "Watch it, you idiot," Hyun-wook curses, sword raised high. "I heard every word you said. System alert. Cloud ability purifying toxic gas. Absorption rate, 100%. He moves in silence, his blade dancing through the mist. Collapsing to the ground, the boy stares up in shock. The corporal. He actually came back. Hyun-wook calls his name. Tears stream down Jumo's face. "I was just copying you, sir. I thought you had always carried me, so I wanted to help." Hyun-wook smiles, a rare, genuine expression. "You did good. Thank you for staying alive." Jumo breaks down, sobbing uncontrollably. But the reunion is short-lived. The kobolds are still advancing, hungry for blood. "I am truly proud of you," the protagonist admits. "Because of your incredible courage, I get to enjoy this magnificent feast." His expression twists into a sadistic grin. A beautiful meal, served on a silver platter. Time to devour everything eagerly. He spins his bayonet, activating the cloud blades. Steel flashes, blood sprays. He carves through the monster ranks effortlessly. He does not even take a step. Every cobalt that approaches is instantly obliterated. Essence crystals rain down like a glittering fountain. Silence returns to the battlefield. Then, the unpredictable man starts laughing maniacally. "Delicious. This is absolutely delicious." "Sir, are you talking about the monsters?" Jumo asks, terrified. Even the remaining kobolds freeze, sensing a predator far worse than them. Hyun-wook sighs. He cannot consume the crystals with his subordinate watching. The monsters stand paralyzed, staring at Hyun-wook in pure terror. The protagonist frowns, looking around. Wait, where is their leader? Suddenly, the pentagrams on the monsters' foreheads ignite with ominous light. Hyun-wook's gaze snaps to the horizon. The kobolds turn in unison, looking the same way. Hyun-wook narrows his eyes. "You have got to be kidding me." A blood-curdling scream pierces the air. Before Jumo can react, the monsters turn their backs and sprint toward the sound. Damn it. Hyun-wook takes off running. The squad is in danger. High above on a rooftop, the commander's emergency squad watches. The situation is critical. The mist is making everything impossible. The lieutenant barks orders, "Attack squad. Target the blue flower sector. Wipe out anything crawling out of that poison." "Ma'am?" a soldier asks, confused. "Why the sudden change? Are you going somewhere?" Yuma realizes the truth. The corporal knew this would happen. I need to verify something, she says, eyes grim. Without hesitation, she leaps straight into the toxic zone. Below, the platoon vice leader screams for salvation. A soldier desperately pumps Min-tae's chest. Seon-ha, pull yourself together. We need a healer now. Crash. The barricade splinters. The wounded drag themselves forward, using their own bodies to hold the line. The boss monster has arrived. It raises a hand, casting a dark spell to drag the survivors into its grasp. Its head ablaze with hellfire, the beast tears through their magical defenses. The barrier shatters like glass. Hold the line, they scream, but it is hopeless. The horde is swarming over the walls. The creatures rush in, weapons raised, eager for the slaughter. They close their eyes, accepting their fate. This is the end. But suddenly a voice roars from the mist. Get away from them, you filthy rats. Hyun-wook charges, manipulating the very seal itself. Don't you dare touch my property. The blade screams toward the boss's skull. But the monster is fast, canceling its magic instantly to dodge the fatal strike. However, physics bends to the hunter's will. The dagger curves sharply in midair. Panic sets in as the boss scrambles to escape. It realizes death is closing in with every second. Leaping again, the creature barely manages to evade the razor's edge. It lands clumsily, fighting for balance. Then, a realization strikes. The precious vase it guarded is cracked. Fury ignites in the monster's eyes. The flames on its head vanish, and suddenly, the pentagrams on the other kobolds' foreheads blaze with ominous light. They scatter. Hyun-wook flinches at the sudden shift. In a synchronized blur, the monsters leap away, creating a wide perimeter around the protagonist. They raise blowguns in unison. A deadly rain of darts whistles through the air, targeting him and Jono. His cloud blade dances, deflecting the frontal assault. But it's a trap. Attacks launch from his blind spot, leaving the boy exposed. Get down! Hyun-wook screams. His subordinate drops instantly. With a surge of will, the protagonist unleashes his metal control, knocking the projectiles aside. He tries to turn their own thorns against the kobolds, but the strain is too much. His control slips, and his bayonet clatters to the ground. The weapon lands right at the feet of the leader. The kobold stares him down, but Hyun-wook realizes the truth. This thing isn't the real boss. It is merely a dark mage. Hyun-wook fires his weapon while mentally commanding the cloud blade to keep the pressure on. The truth hits him. The mage is puppeteering its own kind. Intimidation is useless against mind-controlled slaves. Fighting here with Jono is suicide. Run for the safe zone, he commands, pointing toward the protection box. They sprint for their lives. The air fills with the hiss of blowguns again as the corporal and his subordinate near the barricade. Another volley of poison darts cuts through the air, chasing them from behind. Hyun-wook's power flares, sweeping the metal darts away. Following Jono's lead, he vaults over the barrier to safety. A final dart thuds harmlessly into the cover. The boss mage stands motionless, glaring with pure hate as Hyun-wook purifies the toxins around him. A low growl rumbles from the beast's throat. Music. A mocking grin stretches across its inhuman face. Cut it close, Hyun-wook mutters. He turns his attention to the squad, assessing the grim situation behind the barrier. Relief washes over the soldiers at seeing their corporal alive. But the news is bad. Jono reports that Mint has already blacked out. Why tell me? Hyun-wook snaps. The one person who can save him is standing right there. But Shiana was broken, curled in a corner, trembling in sheer terror. Rage spikes in Hyun-wook. A soldier is dying, and she's doing nothing. She is trapped in a panic attack. Hyun-wook grits his teeth. He is helpless without her. She is their only lifeline. If she freezes now, they all die. He steps forward, his voice cutting through her fear. Vice leader, Surgeon Shiana. The title jolts her. The fog of panic lifts slightly, and she looks up at the corporal with bewildered eyes. Hyun-wook stands over her, his expression cold as stone. Do you want everyone here to rot? Pull yourself together. Now. His voice drops, heavy with meaning. Tell me, Shiana, isn't it exhausting living a life full of regrets? His words strike a chord. Golden light erupts from her, manifesting as ethereal chains rising above the barricade. The magic flows, knitting her comrade's wounds. Hyun-wook watches the vice leader closely. How is the boy? Critical blood loss because I hesitated, she admits, sweat beading on her brow. But I will not let him die today. A faint smile touches the corporal's lips. Good. He activates his steel manipulation. I am borrowing everyone's daggers. Wait, seriously? Jono asks. Hyun-wook rolls his eyes. Relax. I will return them, mostly intact. Meanwhile, inside a sleek luxury car, a mysterious figure watches the chaos. Understood. Things are getting entertaining. The call ends. A massive spider rests on the woman's shoulder like a pet. Looks like I need to pay a visit, she purrs. To console myself, she orders the driver forward. Back on the battlefield, Hyun-wook strides confidently through the poisonous smog. His eyes lock onto the target, the X he had marked earlier with tape. The horde snarls, hundreds of eyes fixed on him. Blades begin to orbit Hyun-wook like a storm of steel. The boss watches from the shadows. Pentagrams blaze with power. With a blood-curdling shriek, the kobold army charges. Hyun-wook raises the cloud blade, hovering the arsenal of daggers above him. He looks down at the monsters. They think he's crazy for coming alone. They don't know this is his domain now. Using the mark as 0 point, his sensors are already active. It ends now, he declares. He doesn't care about the pawns. He is hunting the puppet master pulling the strings. Thus, he triggers the pulse of his metal. Detection ability, scanning every atom of steel in the vicinity. Anything unrecognized in this zone is a target. The radar pings. Got him. He locks onto the boss. With zero hesitation, the corporal launches his assault. Metal control activates instantly. The system chimes with a limit. 2 kilograms and 959 grams. The cobalt boss narrows his eyes, sensing the threat. But it is too late for his minions. The blades carve a bloody path through the horde. Some try to dodge. Others die before they can even blink. One lethal dagger flies straight for the boss's throat. The creature reacts instantly, weaving a spell of defense. Dark energy explodes outward, attempting to swallow the blade in shadow. The dark mana succeeds, freezing the weapon in midair. Hyun-wook watches coldly, finally locking his sights on the true target. Got you. He pushes his mental energy to the limit, driving the attack forward. The Cobalt realizes one blade was hard enough to stop, but a storm of steel is coming. Panic sets in, and the monster unleashes a guttural roar to summon aid. Hyun-wook flinches as the air grows heavy. With a surge of dark authority, the boss arrests every single blade in motion. Burning rage radiates from the Cobalt boss's eyes. Undeterred, the protagonist extends his hand and crushes his fist tight. "Give them back, you filth!" Hyun-wook curses, straining against the magic to rip his bayonets free. But the system screams a warning, *error. The daggers are affected by weight beyond current capacity. Suddenly, the runes above the monsters' heads flare with blinding light. They raise their blowguns, and a rain of poison darts fills the sky. Damn it. Hyun-wook realizes he is wide open. He spins around, desperately covering his vitals, just as the swarm hits. Thud, thud, thud. The darts riddle his arms completely. The kobolds watch with glee as the human drops to his knees. His concentration breaks, metal control deactivates, and the floating blades clatter uselessly to the floor. The boss sneers, dropping his shield power. He points a claw at Hyun-wook, the kill order. The horde charges, salivating for fresh meat. The corporal's arms look like pincushions, completely pierced by the darts. He grits his teeth. "You almost made me think it was over." Just like last time. He stands tall. With a flex of muscle, the darts are rejected from his skin, falling to the ground. "If I hadn't evolved my body, I would be dead." The Cobalt boss takes a step back, terror replacing triumph. The fallen bayonets tremble and rise toward Hyun-wook. They begin to rotate, spinning faster and faster until they scream like propellers. Rot in hell. As the horde rushes in, the wall of spinning steel flies out to meet them. "Die," the boy commands. The bayonets become a meat grinder, shredding the front line in an instant. The rotation amplifies the carnage. Combining with his cloud blade art, he generates a massive cutting tornado of gore and steel. The wind pressure is so immense it blasts the poisonous fog right out of the entire zone. The corporal stands amidst the havoc, untouchable. The boss is frozen not by magic, but by pure, primal fear. Hyun-wook locks eyes with the Cobalt Dark Mage. He beckons with a bloody hand. "Playtime is over. Let's settle the score." The monster snarls, furious that this human refuses to die. It unleashes the jar on its back. A catastrophic explosion of venom erupts, whipping into a deadly purple whirlwind. Even the cloud blade struggles against this gale. Hyun-wook fights just to keep his footing. "You think this stops me? Do you know what I went through to be the last one standing?" Metal detection, on. The poison fog becomes irrelevant. His vision shifts, highlighting every scrap of iron in the vicinity. Shooting the daggers is pointless. He realizes. He will just catch them again. He needs a clean kill. He tracks the boss's position through the metal adornments on its body. Wait, why isn't he moving? Suddenly, the ground splits. A massive root shoots straight for him. The dark mage is rooted to the spot, channeling earth magic through physical contact. Snared, the root coils around Hyun-wook's leg, dragging him in. The monster growls, savoring the sight of his helpless prey. It hoists him high above the poison cloud, winding up like a pitcher. Whoosh! The monster hurls him into the sky. Then, gravity and magic yank him back down. Bam! He smashes into the earth with bone-shaking force. Dust settles, silence reigns. The monster relaxes, dispelling its magic. The kobold cackles, convinced of his victory, but a voice cuts through the dust. "Hey rat!" Hyun-wook rises from the crater. "You think that's funny? You actually dare to laugh?" Body fortification took the brunt of the impact. His eyes burn with cold fury. "How many times? Will you trash make me remember my past?" The dark mage stops laughing. Irritation flares as it coils its muscles to strike. Asterisk zoom, asterisk the monster vanishes. Hyun-wook's eye flares with azure light, tracking the movement. It weaves through the crates and trucks like a phantom. In a heartbeat, it is right behind him. The monster strikes with blinding speed, its blade slicing the air where the protagonist stood a fraction of a second ago. Kang-wook barely manages to dodge, the wind of the attack grazing his skin. He lands perfectly, instantly regaining his balance, and locking his gaze on the enemy. Rage blazes in Kang-wook's eyes like wildfire. He demands to know if that insect truly dared to ambush him, asking if the mage knows the price of attacking him from behind. Furious, he unleashes the cloud blade, a swirl of deadly mist slashing toward the monster. The creature flinches, caught off guard by the sudden ferocity. Kang-wook activates body transformation in his leg, muscles swelling with explosive power. He delivers a devastating kick to the monster's face, declaring that this beast is long overdue for a beating. The impact is catastrophic. The kobold is launched like a ragdoll, bouncing violently across the rocky ground, unable to halt his momentum. As Kang-wook stalks toward his fallen prey, his voice drops to a chilling whisper. He reveals that he has been dreaming of this exact vengeance since the moment he returned. The kobold struggles to rise, terror filling its eyes. The corporal looms over him, sneering that the creature should feel honored to be the first victim to fall. A cruel smile twists Kang-wook's lips. He notes that with the creature's mask shattered, its magic is useless. He declares, it is time to settle the score once and for all. The boss screams in despair as the psycho bayonets materialize in the air, flying toward him from his blind spot. The blades shred through flesh and bone, spinning like meat grinders. The leader's weapon clatters to the floor, the ringing sound signaling his absolute defeat. The jar carrying the poison source crashes down, shattering into 1,000 useless shards. The protagonist mocks the trembling beast, asking if he is too weak to stand, or if death is already claiming him. Suddenly, his hand clamps over the monster's mouth. Raising his blade high, Kang-wook asks if the kobold has any idea how many years he spent crippled because of this very creature. He proclaims that the monster will die, pierced by the blades of his men, the very soldiers this beast slaughtered in his past life. The memory of Juno's final moments floods his mind. Dedicating this strike to the subordinate who died saving him, he plunges the blade deep into the enemy's chest. The boss frantically tries to grab the blade, but a strange, dark resonance begins to hum from the sword. A system notification rings out. The cloud blade is devouring the blood of the elite monster, overflowing with an unknown, volatile energy. The creature writhes, gurgling in pain. Using his metal control ability, Kang-wook commands the blade to hold firm, telling the beast he isn't allowed to die just yet. The blade creeps upward, inching toward the monster's skull, fueling the creature's desperate terror. Vowing that this is payback for the scar carved into his face in the previous timeline, Kang-wook forces the dagger down with crushing weight. Steel meets bone, slowly slicing through the center of the monster's skull. The screams are cut short, leaving only the silence of a dead creature pinned to the earth. The system announces that the sword has absorbed the mysterious energy, unlocking latent powers that were previously sealed. Kang-wook exhales a long, heavy sigh. The weight on his shoulders lifts as he realizes he has finally rewritten the first nightmare of his past. The poisonous fog still clings to the air. Suddenly, a heavy object drops from the monster's corpse with a metallic thud. Kang-wook's eyes widen in shock. Lying there is the Devil's Medallion, an artifact granting the apocalyptic power of the demon race, Hellfire. Staring at the cursed item, Kang-wook is bewildered. Why would a treasure of this magnitude appear here? This medallion belonged to a legendary figure. It was called the Inferno Medallion, the source of the undead army that became humanity's living hell. It belonged to the worst villain in history, the Necromancer, a figure shrouded in mystery, known only for his terrifying growth trait. In his past life, Kang-wook had barely survived the raid on the Blue Lava Golem's workshop to get a mere fragment. He collected only one Inferno relic back then. His mind races. Why is the true, complete medallion here, in this low-level dungeon, at this exact moment? Irritation bubbles up as he realizes there are variables he doesn't understand. He notices the toxic gas finally beginning to dissipate. Deciding he needs to consume the medallion immediately to secure its power, he reaches out. But suddenly, a voice calls his name. Kang-wook freezes, a mixture of shock and instinctual fear spiking his pulse. Behind him stands Yuna, her sword leveled at his throat, demanding his true identity. He turns slowly, cursing internally. How much did she see? Before he can answer, another presence emerges, a woman with a spider perched on her shoulder. She applauds slowly, remarking that the battle was impressive. She introduces herself as Catherine, the leader of the Blue Flower Guild's attack unit. Flashback to the split second before the lieutenant questioned him. The protagonist had used his manipulation ability to instantly hide the medallion in his back pocket, moving faster than the eye could follow. Back in the present, Hyun-wook feigns ignorance, asking what she is talking about. That was when Catherine stepped out of the shadows. The masked woman claims she watched the entire fight and was thoroughly impressed. She turns to Yuna, recognizing her as the third daughter of the paladin captain, noting how much she has grown. Hyun-wook is surprised, and a flicker of annoyance crosses his face at the interruption. Yuna stiffens, introducing herself formally as the captain of the 1st Battalion of the 3rd Brigade, warning that this area is restricted to civilians. However, Catherine completely ignores the warning, her focus entirely on the corporal. She steps forward and hands him a business card. This is the second daughter of the Guildmaster of Blue Flower, South Korea's strongest guild, and an A-rank player. Yuna watches in confusion, stunned to see that Hyun-wook doesn't even reach out to take the card. The woman stares at him, her voice dripping with arrogance as she asks if he truly doesn't realize who stands before him. Hyun-wook bites his lip, suppressing a bitter laugh. How could he possibly know? The irony is suffocating. Out of all the catastrophic villains who eventually annihilated humanity, she is the one nightmare he couldn't forget. Even if he tore the memories from his mind, the image of Yuna flashes before his eyes, her desperate screams, her body shielding him, her final command that he must survive at all costs. He remembers screaming at her to move, but Yuna refused, declaring she would be his shield even unto death. And in a cruel twist of fate, that is exactly what happened. He can still see it vividly, Yuna's body being devoured by a swarm of insects under the crimson moonlight, and floating above that carnage, bathed in the blood-red glow, was her, Hina, the woman who took everything. Snapping back to the present, Hina's voice cuts through his trauma. She asks if he is blind to the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity standing right in front of his face. Hyun-wook clenches his fists until his knuckles turn white, his body trembling with suppressed rage. The lieutenant steps in, barking that this is a restricted military operation zone, and ordering the woman to leave immediately. Hina takes a deep breath, clearly irritated by the interruption of mere insects. She scoffs, remarking that soldiers really should learn their place. She demands to be addressed properly, revealing her identity as the department chief of the legendary Blue Flower Guild. Sparks fly as the two women glare at each other, their hostility palpable. Hyun-wook stands between them, mentally groaning at how incredibly uncomfortable this situation has become. Suddenly, the tension is broken by the roar of an engine. An army jeep tears toward them, screeching to a halt. A figure steps out, commanding instant authority. The adjutant attempts to report the situation to the battalion commander, but Commander Hyun-wook raises a hand, silencing her. The commander's sharp eyes scan the battlefield. He notes the scattered corpses of the Dent Kobolds and pauses at the sight of the boss monster, a blade buried deep within its chest. Sweat beads on Hyun-wook's forehead. As the commander analyzes the scene, the protagonist feels a knot of dread tighten in his stomach. He mentally screams that this is the end of his quiet life. Commander Hyun-wook turns his gaze toward the corporal, his expression unreadable and terrifyingly serious. Hyun-wook feels his soul trying to escape his body. He realizes with sinking despair that no one can save him now. He has to face this monster of a commander alone. To everyone's shock, the commander's face softens into a smile. He expresses his pleasure at seeing Hina again, and asks how she has been. He even offers gratitude for the guild's assistance. However, his tone shifts instantly. He reminds her firmly that, since this is a military operation area, unauthorized entry is strictly unacceptable. Hina clicks her tongue, commenting that soldiers are always too rigid for their own good. She sighs, muttering that she almost had what she wanted. With a seductive smirk, she kisses her business card and slides it into Hyun-wook's tactical vest. She whispers for him to call her, but before he can react, the commander barks his name, forcing him into a crisp salute. Hyun-wook declares that, effective immediately, the boy is appointed as the temporary squad commander for this operation. His first order is to prioritize the rescue of any remaining survivors. Hyun-wook panics internally, wondering what on earth the commander is thinking. Once this mess is resolved, he knows he will be dragged in to report every single detail to the major. Externally, however, the corporal shouts his acceptance of the mission. As she turns to leave, Hina casts one last grim look over her shoulder. The sheer pressure in her gaze sends a genuine shiver of fear down the protagonist's spine. 1 week has passed since the incident with the 3rd Brigade. The system notifies him that the absorption of the infernal medallion is finally complete. A surge of power runs through him. He can now manipulate exactly 3 kilograms and 458 grams of metal with his mind. But inside the men's restroom, a sudden red warning window pops up. It alerts him that a fire breath chamber is forming within his stomach, warning that the user is about to experience excruciating pain. Just then, the door swings open. Junbo walks in, calling for the corporal, only to ask what Hyun-wook is doing to be making such strange, strained noises in a stall. Hyun-wook, who is literally on the verge of spitting fire, chokes out that it isn't what Junbo thinks. He desperately asks if he can just show him later. While Hyun-wook practically transforms into a human lamp inside the stall, his subordinate stands outside, completely stunned by the glowing light leaking from under the door. The reality of the mission sets in. The Cobalt Portal, which everyone had severely underestimated, had caused catastrophic casualties. But thanks to Si-eun's miraculous recovery, the critical soldier was stabilized and safely transported to the military hospital. In the wake of the tragedy, Hyun-wook makes a pivotal decision. He will stop shouldering everything alone. Instead, he will train his team members until they are strong enough to defend their own lives. He notes with a sigh that this decision brought two unforeseen headaches. As Si-eun greets him with a blushing smile, he realizes the first problem. The surgeon has been pestering him relentlessly since that day. She calls out to him sweetly again. The protagonist sighs, asking what the platoon vice leader wants this time. Watching from the side, Lieutenant Min-hee glares at them, her eyes burning with furious jealousy. And then, there is the second problem. The commander has officially asked him to abandon his conscript status and become a non-commissioned officer. At this point, the absurdity of his life doesn't even surprise him. Kang-wook had claimed the Itaewon operation proved Hyun-wook's potential. He spoke of his dream to foster a military culture where rank matters less than a warrior's true belief and strength. Hyun-wook politely says he will think about it during his vacation. Internally, however, he is screaming, wondering if that brute of a commander has lost his absolute mind. 3 weeks later, the day of his long-awaited vacation finally arrives. In a public restroom, another unsuspecting man is shocked to see a blinding light erupting from one of the stalls. The system chimes with a celebratory tone, congratulating Hyun-wook for fulfilling the special conditions required to awaken a new ability. He has acquired the Fire Breath Chamber. The skill boosts absorption efficiency by 50 to 250% and grants the active ability to spit scorching fire. Sitting there, the protagonist notes with relief that he can finally end the weird rumors about why he spends so much time in the bathroom. A short time later, he stands before the sink, splashing water on his face. Staring into the mirror, his expression darkens. He admits that with his current level of power, he might not be strong enough to handle the next portal that fate throws his way. The commander faces a frantic mob. They demand to know if he intends to abandon the station to its doom. The crowd screams for the truth, questioning if the authorities have any intention of saving the people trapped inside. Meanwhile, deep within the station, chaos reigns. Screams of terror pierce the air as a pool of blood spreads across the floor. Hyun-wook realizes the cold, hard truth. He could actually die here. This vacation isn't just for rest. It is a desperate mission to rewrite history and change the future. Elsewhere, the platoon vice leader steps into the shadows. She pulls out a cigarette, savoring a rare moment of peace she hasn't felt in years. But the flame refuses to spark. Seona frowns, frustration building as she flicks the lighter in vain. What is wrong with this thing? Suddenly, she locks eyes with Hyun-wook. Both freeze, stunned by the unexpected encounter. The formidable vice leader clears her throat. Do you have a light? Asterisk. Crap. Asterisk. She mentally kicks herself. She just unintentionally exposed her true, rough personality to a subordinate. Fast forward to the train ride. Seona sits beside Hyun-wook. The air between them is thick with suffocating awkwardness. She glances at him, trying to break the tension. First vacation, right? Your parents must be thrilled to have you back home. Her words hang in the air. Hyun-wook replies flatly. My family died when I was young. Seona stiffens, instantly paralyzed by guilt for bringing it up. Hyun-wook notices her reaction, the panic in her eyes. He decides to throw her a lifeline. I was lonely at first, but I found people I consider family now. Seona's curiosity piques at his words. Memories of his past life flood back. He recalls the battalion praising him. Lost in thought, Hyun-wook wonders. Were they friends, colleagues, or something more? A faint smile touches his lips. Comrades in arms. Yes, that sounds exactly right. He steps off the train at Yeongdeung-po Station. He has 4 days and 3 nights. That is all the time he has to prepare for the apocalypse. Step 1. Acquire massive wealth. He eyes a billboard for Blue Tree, noting the owner is already a multimillionaire. Staring at the advertisement, Hyun-wook narrows his eyes. He knows the truth about Gordon, a tyrant who washes dirty money through the underworld, buying influence, players, and legendary artifacts like candy. Through this ruthless strategy, Gordon gradually seized control of every major network. In the end, the biggest reason for Hyun-wook's past defeat was money. Matching Gordon's billions is impossible right now. But he doesn't need to beat him, yet he just needs enough to survive the game. Hyun-wook knows exactly where the gold rush will begin. If he invests now, before the world catches on, A small sum will snowball into an empire. But he can't do it alone. He needs a proxy. Someone loyal. Someone who honors even the smallest promise with their life. Voices raised nearby interrupt his thoughts. I don't have the money. Stop trying to force me. A thug has another man by the collar, shaking him violently. Shut up and just take the extra shifts. The white-haired victim trembles. Being an event guard is a cursed job. It's humiliating. They suddenly spot Hyun-wook. The white-haired man sneers. Well, look who it is. The Tin-Can controller. Been a while, hasn't it? Hyun-wook recalls their first meeting. Won-chul had smiled then, claiming to be an awakened individual too. It's a pleasure to meet you, he had said. Back then, the naive Hyun-wook had smiled back, genuinely happy to find a peer. Returning to the present, Hyun-wook scoffs. Are we really close enough to be happy about seeing each other? He walks right past the bully, greeting only the chubby victim. Hey, been a while. The chubby guy blinks, terrified. Hyun-wook, why are you here? Won-chul's face twists in disbelief. Have you lost your mind? Did you delete your memories along with your fear? Rage boils over. Maybe I need to refresh your memory about where you stand in the food chain. A dark memory surfaces. Young Hyun-wook, proudly levitating small toys with his telekinesis. The other kids weren't impressed. Is that it? Do something cool. Won-chul had laughed the loudest. He's not awakened. He's just a loser. Concentration broken, the objects fell. But not because of fatigue, because a fist smashed into his face. Hyun-wook had taken the beating on the floor. Won-chul spat on him. Claim you're awakened again, and I'll kill you. Just like that day, Won-chul winds up for a strike. But now, he is a C-rank fighter, a legitimate threat. Should I school you like the old days? The chubby guy begs him to stop, but Won-chul grins maniacally. I'll make him beg for his life. Just like old times. He glares at the bystander. Get lost, unless you want to die along with this trash. To everyone's shock, Hyun-wook doesn't flinch. He steps forward. Go ahead, try to land a hit. Hyun-wook's eyes turn cold. Kill me? Try it if you can. Won-chul snaps. Screaming curses, he launches a lethal charge. A massive fist flies toward Hyun-wook's face. He doesn't move a muscle. Suddenly impact. Not on flesh, but on an invisible wall. Wind explodes outward. A simple pen hovers millimeters from Won-chul's eye. Held by absolute force. A box cutter floats at his ankle. But that wasn't all. The air shimmers as countless blades materialize, all aimed at one target. Checkmate. Hyun-wook's eyes flashed with cold intensity. He admitted he might not win today, but he promised Woo-chul one thing. He would unleash a killing intent so heavy, it would feel like an entire military battalion was sieging him. The threat was palpable. Hyun-wook could snuff out his life as easily as a veteran close combat specialist. As the invisible blades of mana inched closer to his throat, terror finally gripped Woo-chul's heart. Suddenly, the heavy atmosphere shattered. A third party burst into the room, shouting for Woo-chul and insisting they leave immediately for the upcoming event. Confusion washed over Woo-chul. He blinked, and the deadly blades hovering in the air clattered harmlessly to the floor. Trembling, he stammered, asking what on earth was happening. Instantly, Hyun-wook flipped the script. He began wailing dramatically, begging for mercy and promising to do better. Then, in a move that stunned everyone, he pulled Woo-chul into a tight, brotherly hug. Whispering in his ear, Hyun-wook brought up a humiliating secret. He mentioned a certain poor recruit expelled from the White Tiger Guild, not for lack of skill, but for wetting his pants and fleeing his very first mission. The words struck like a physical blow. A suppressed memory forced its way to the surface of Woo-chul's mind, the shame of abandoning his teammates in cowardice. Rage flared in Woo-chul's eyes, hotter than before. He demanded to know how this nobody knew his darkest secret. Hyun-wook just smirked, casually noting his loose lips, and dared him to fight an F-rank hunter with witnesses watching. Then, the playful facade dropped. Hyun-wook's voice turned to ice as he whispered the ultimatum. He would preserve the reputation Woo-chul cherished so dearly, but the price was simple: he had to disappear from Hyun-wook's sight. Later, the scene shifted to the humble office of the Hope Guild. 3 recruitment cards sat on the table, representing the first step of a legendary plan. Kisu, the chubby guild member, stared at the documents in disbelief. His eyes went wide as he asked Hyun-wook if these stock predictions were real. Could these numbers truly skyrocket to such astronomical heights? Hyun-wook remained silent, his gaze steady and calculating. Finally, he gave a single, confident nod. It was true. For Kisu, this wasn't just an investment. It was a once-in-a-lifetime ticket to the top. Meanwhile, at the event site, boredom plagued the guards. They grumbled about the endless standby duty, wondering if they should risk entering a portal just to feel the thrill of battle at least once. The man who had interrupted the fight earlier approached Woo-chul. He noticed the lingering tension and asked what had happened back in the room. Before he could answer, a senior officer stormed in. His voice boomed across the area, demanding to know why they were slacking off and causing a commotion in his sector. The officer stopped directly in front of Wu Chul's acquaintance. With a sneer, he demanded to know who was in charge of this chaotic squad. The older man barked orders, listing off zones A, B, C, and D. He mocked them ruthlessly, stating that if they lacked the intelligence to read a map, they should at least have the ears to listen to commands. That was the breaking point. Wu Chul, his mind already fractured by Hyun-wook's blackmail, snapped. He threw a devastating punch that connected squarely with the older man's jaw, sending him flying backward. The subordinate froze, eyes bulging in pure shock. But Wu Chul didn't stop. Like a beast unleashed, he pounced on the fallen officer, raining down blow after brutal blow. Blood sprayed into the air, mixing with fragments of asphalt. The surrounding hunters could only watch in horrified silence as the scene descended into madness. Finally standing up, panting heavily, Wu Chul barked orders to his men. He told them to spread out and find one specific target. With insanity burning in his eyes, he declared his new mission. He was going to kill Hyun-wook. Back at the guild, Ki-soo was still reeling from the shock. If those stocks soared as predicted, their lives would change forever. It was a golden ticket he never expected to hold. He looked at Hyun-wook with apologetic eyes. He admitted that, logically, it was hard for a sane person to believe such outrageous claims without proof. Hyun-wook nodded, understanding perfectly. To the outside world, this information was impossible to obtain. He even asked if Ki-soo suspected this was a trap to exploit the guild. Leaning forward, Hyun-wook asked a crucial question. Based on everything Ki-soo had seen so far, did he consider Hyun-wook a man worthy of trust? Ki-soo didn't hesitate this time. He replied with logical certainty that he did trust him. Unable to reveal he was a regressor with future knowledge, Hyun-wook simply looked him in the eye and swore it was all true. To seal the deal, Hyun-wook pulled out his phone. He showed Ki-soo a private conversation log with a military official. It was a discussion with a battalion commander regarding a vacancy for a non-commissioned officer. Ki-soo stared at the screen, asking breathlessly if this connection was genuine. Hyun-wook confirmed it. Then, he made his biggest move yet. He handed over a bank card containing 20 million won, the entire inheritance left by his parents, entrusting his financial future to Ki-soo. The guild leader watched the exchange, deeply moved. It was clear that the protagonist wasn't just playing games, he was placing absolute faith in Ki-soo. But for Hyun-wook, this wasn't a gamble. He remembered his past life, where Ki-soo was the only soul who had comforted him when he lost his friends and hit rock bottom. Back then, Ki-soo had shared a piece of wisdom. Everyone has talents, but society only values the flashy ones they call superpowers. He had encouraged the powerless Hyun-wook not to blame himself, urging him to survive until the world recognized his hidden worth. This investment was more than business, it was gratitude. Ki-soo had been the only family to a lonely man in a ruined future, and now Hyun-wook would repay that kindness 1,000-fold. Suddenly, the narrative shifted to the grand scale. A massive starship materialized in the sky above the city. Hyun-wook explained that humanity was on the brink of encountering beings from another dimension. This contact would change everything. The alien technology gained from these interactions would become the critical turning point in the devastating war of the portals. Hyun-wook revealed his true objective. His unique abilities were the key to stopping the catastrophic waves of monsters that threatened to annihilate mankind. But he couldn't do it alone. He needed a specialist, someone like Ki-soo, who could negotiate with these otherworldly beings and secure the technology needed to save the world. The scene transitioned to the smoke-filled blacksmith's alley of Yongdongpo. Hyun-wook stood before a merchant, casually asking the price of a monostone. This was the second phase of his preparation. He needed to locate the 7 legendary dwarf craftsmen and forge his first master-grade artifact. Unbeknownst to the crowd, Hyun-wook scanned the area. He wasn't looking for ordinary smiths. He was hunting for the hidden masters who had transcended human limits. He entered a rundown shop. The grumpy old man behind the counter barked at him, warning him to buy only what was on the shelves and not to snoop around for anything special. This was Jong-do, an eccentric genius expelled from the blacksmith guild for his volatile personality. He was exactly who Hyun-wook was looking for. Hyun-wook's gaze locked onto a weapon in the corner. It was forged from orichalcum, a metal as rare as it was powerful. To the untrained eye, it looked rough and unfinished. But Hyun-wook knew the truth. This spear would one day pierce the heart of the dragon Tarax. It was the weapon of a legend. The shop door swung open, and a girl strutted in, sniffing the air. She loudly sneered that the place smelled like poverty. The old craftsman immediately snapped, scolding her for speaking such trash to a customer. She scoffed, retorting that the landlord called them that too. But the moment her eyes locked onto the protagonist, her arrogant words died in her throat. Hyun-wook recognized her instantly. It was Basile, a comrade in arms from a future that hadn't happened yet. 4 years from now, after the old master's death, she was destined to inherit his legacy. She would become a legendary smith, far surpassing even her teacher. Basile's eyes scanned Hyun-wook like a predatory scanner, calculating the astronomical value of his gear. Instantly, her attitude flipped 180 degrees. With a polite smile, she chirped, asking what he would like to buy. Internally, Hyun-wook chuckled. Her shameless greed for money was exactly consistent with her personality as a dwarf. After piling up a mountain of items, Basile tallied the bill. 18 million won. She joked that he wasn't just a customer. He spent money like a corrupt mayor. The old man frowned, confused. He asked why Hyun-wook was buying magical materials when he wasn't even a mage capable of using them. Basile cut him off instantly, telling her grandfather to shut his mouth. She insisted that a customer like Hyun-wook surely had his reasons. Hyun-wook praised the quality of their goods, promising to return. As they said their goodbyes, Basile waved eagerly, encouraging her new favorite wallet to come back any time. A shadow crossed Hyun-wook's heart as he remembered her tragic death in the previous timeline. He apologized silently. Unlike his other comrades, he truly needed her skills. But this time, he swore to protect her. Later, in front of the gray motel, a man stood by a car, watching the scene with cold indifference. Inside his room, Hyun-wook gripped one of the enchanted stones he had just bought. His declaration was absolute. By the end of this vacation, he would force his body to evolve. He needed to drastically increase his resistance to poison and the volume of metal he could control. Poison resistance and metal manipulation were the keys to his survival. The system chimed with a notification. It was absorbing the poison-infused enchanted metal. Once complete, his tolerance would rise. Normally, this process would take weeks, but Hyun-wook didn't have weeks. With his airspace ability, he would force the process to accelerate. He swallowed the mineral. Focusing all his internal heat, he ignited his flames. The stone began to melt within him, kickstarting a violent absorption. He stoked his internal furnace, boosting the absorption speed by 250%. But power came with a price: pure, unadulterated agony. The system screamed multiple alerts. His veins glowed beneath his skin like molten lava, burning with a yellow intensity. Despite the hellish pain, Hyun-wook grew irritated. He snapped at the system, shouting that he already knew the risks. He had to consume it all and endure the torture to get stronger. 2 agonizing days passed. Outside, the motel staff whispered to Wang Yul that the kid hadn't stepped out of his room once. Inside the motel room, a single window stood open, letting in the breeze. The status window flashed the results. Poison resistance, level 2, achieved. Manipulable metal capacity, 17 kilograms and 499 grams. Sparks danced around his body. Traces of his manipulation power fused with his airspace ability, forming a crackling electrical aura. Hyun-wook sighed. Level 2 resistance wasn't as high as he hoped. However, he could now telekinetically control around 60 daggers at once. Suddenly, the system pinged again. He had undergone his first latent breakthrough. He acquired a new skill: Metal Break. With this power, he could dismantle almost any equipment instantly. It was enough for now. Suddenly, his senses flared. Something was approaching the door. He turned to face the entrance, waiting calmly. A split second later, Wang Yul burst through the door. Wang Yul scoffed, annoyed that the protagonist didn't even flinch. He sneered, asking if Hyun-wook had been cowering in there the whole time. Hyun-wook replied with ice-cold calm. He explained that as a soldier, he had government restrictions to follow, and asked Wang Yul to simply leave. The man burst into manic laughter, dismissing the warning as nonsense. Wang Yul charged forward, screaming, "Do you think you're going to die?" He threw a lethal punch straight at Hyun-wook's face, yelling for him to drop dead. But at the last second, Hyun-wook activated his body transformation. Clang! Wang Yul recoiled, stunned by the metallic sound. Fear crept into his eyes as he stammered, "What kind of body is that?" Hyun-wook coolly suggested they move the fight. He pointed out that destroying the motel would only bring unnecessary trouble for both of them. Meanwhile, guests from other rooms peeked into the hallway, terrified. They whispered, wondering if a dungeon portal had opened nearby. Wang Yul yanked his hand back, cursing vividly. He glared at Hyun-wook, calling him a piece of scrap metal. Enraged, Wang Yul roared, asking how a brat dared to bluff against him. He launched a ferocious kick. Hyun-wook dodged effortlessly, replying that 2 days ago it was a bluff, but not anymore. Hyun-wook hardened his body into steel. He drove a devastating counterstrike into Wang Yul's stomach. The attacker collapsed, screaming in agony. Hyun-wook looked down at him, his voice devoid of emotion. He said he only had one question to ask. He leaned in, whispering that this pain was nothing compared to what Wang Yul had done to him in the past. He demanded to know why the man was going this far. Wang Yul sneered, blood on his teeth. He accused Hyun-wook of arrogance just because he landed one lucky hit. "Don't look at me with those eyes," he spat. A powerful vortex of wind began to swirl around Wang Yul's leg. The pressure was immense, surprising even Hyun-wook. Hyun-wook shouted over the howling wind, asking if he was insane. "Can't you see civilians are getting caught in the crossfire?" Still consumed by rage, Wang Yul laughed maniacally. He said it had nothing to do with him. Hyun-wook watched in disbelief as the situation spiraled completely out of control. Realizing the killing intent is locked solely on him, Hyun-wook's mind races. He needs a plan to minimize the collateral damage to the building before things get ugly. Thinking fast, he dashes toward the window. Won-chul roars from behind, his voice dripping with malice, demanding to know where the rat thinks he is scurrying off to. Hyun-wook vaults into the open air, attempting to take the fight outside. But Won-chul isn't letting him go that easily, unleashing a devastating strike right at his back. Asterisk. Boom. Asterisk. A massive explosion rocks the room. Hyun-wook absorbs the brunt of the shockwave, but the raw force hurls him violently out of the building. The bedroom wall is obliterated, reduced to dust. In a frenzy of bloodlust, Won-chul leaps out after him, screaming that today is the day he dies. Free falling through the sky, Hyun-wook remains calm. He instantly activates his steel body ability, hardening his skin against the wind. Channeling energy into his legs, he manipulates the metal around him. Won-chul strikes mid-air, but Hyun-wook counters with a seamless chain of skills. Won-chul's eyes widen in shock. How is he changing his trajectory in mid-air with absolutely nothing to push off of? Defying physics, the protagonist twists his body to dodge the lethal barrage, landing gracefully on the opposite side of the street. He might not be able to fly like he did in his past life, but combining body transformation with metal control makes him just as agile as any aerial striker. Won-chul hovers above, scoffing. He claims that whatever cheap parlor tricks the military taught him won't be enough to save his skin today. The protagonist weaves through the air, barely dodging a strike that slams into the earth with a thunderous crash, cracking the pavement. Civilians start to gather, whispering about the chaos. Won-chul sneers, mocking him, asking if he plans to keep dodging like a frightened rat forever. Seething with irritation, the villain bellows for Hyun-wook to stop running and face him like a man. A barrage of fists rains down. The shock waves are so intense they generate gale force winds, actually lifting nearby cars off the ground. Bystanders scream in panic, warning others to stay away from the ground floor. The authorities have already been called to the scene. As a soldier, Hyun-wook is in a bind. He can't use full power or endanger civilians without ruining his secret plans for the station portal. Won-chul sticks the landing, regaining his balance on the asphalt with a heavy thud. Phones are out, recording every move. Won-chul laughs darkly, realizing Hyun-wook is hesitating because of the audience. He suggests wiping out the nuisance. Dark energy surges around him as he powers up his high-grade equipment for a devastating area attack. Hyun-wook throws his arms wide, his voice booming. He warns that there are innocent lives in the building, and he won't let it fall. He firmly declares that these civilians have absolutely nothing to do with their personal grudge. They're all just garbage anyway, Won-chul roars. He charges blindly at both Hyun-wook and the building, daring anyone to stop his rampage. That was the last straw. Hyun-wook vows to end this man's career as a player. A chilling blue energy begins to swirl in his eye. The energy manifests into dual glowing circles. Using this newfound power, he targets the structural weakness of his opponent's gear. Asterisk. Snap. Asterisk. As Won-chul swings, his own armor begins to twist and crush inward. Hyun-wook's metal bending has taken total control of the battlefield. Steel bites into flesh. Blood sprays across the concrete as a gut-wrenching scream of pain echoes through the city streets. Won-chul crumbles to the ground, frantically clutching his mangled leg to staunch the bleeding. What? What did you do? He gasps, crawling backward in pure terror. The protagonist steps closer, his voice cold as ice. I'll ask you one last time, why go to such lengths? Won-chul spits back, sneering through the pain. If an insect stings me, naturally, I crush it. Hyun-wook stares down at him with contempt. Someone with such a twisted god complex doesn't deserve the title of player. In his mind, the conclusion is clear. Trash like Won-chul always end up becoming the true villains of this world. Even now, Won-chul denies reality, claiming Hyun-wook is weak. Instantly, a shard of metal levitates, hovering millimeters from the villain's jugular. Hyun-wook issues a final decree. Never appear before me again. Next time, it won't just be your leg that you lose. Won-chul trembles with a mix of rage and fear. He growls that Hyun-wook should thank God for his military status. It's the only reason he is sparing a comrade. Sirens wail in the distance. Moments later, the police swarm the scene to restore order. The official Awakened Task Force report is filed. The conclusion? Hyun-wook was merely acting in self-defense to stop a rampage. An agent notes that all witness accounts match. Hyun-wook is lucky, especially since Won-chul is notorious for being a loose cannon in the community. The officer shakes his head in disbelief. It is the first time he has ever seen a low-ranking official walk away from a fight like that without a scratch. Hyun-wook offers a humble, innocent smile. He claims it was sheer luck that the enemy's calf armor just happened to malfunction and burst. As he is released, Hyun-wook reflects. He used to hate his F-rank classification, but right now, it is the perfect camouflage to avoid suspicion. Suddenly, another officer intercepts him, holding a data pad. "There is something you should know," he says gravely. "The analysis is complete." The officer reveals that the enemy's armor had absolutely zero manufacturing flaws or defects. The officer narrows his eyes. It makes no logical sense for an F rank to crush C rank armor, let alone win a fight flawlessly. But outside, Hyun-wook is already moving. In the blink of an eye, he vanishes into the city, leaving only questions behind. A hurricane in human form, he tore through the city streets, leaving a vortex of wind in his wake. As the landscape blurred past, memories of his past life flooded Hyun-wook's mind. The news footage flashed in his memory. Beyond the horrors of the first 3 waves, this specific catastrophe stood alone as the ultimate nightmare. Public trust had shattered. Experts screamed for answers, exposing the fatal cracks in the government's portal response system. But unlike the previous 2 gates, Hyun-wook was flying blind here. No memories to guide him, no strategy to rely on, just the chaos of the unknown. Of all the hellscapes he had witnessed in his former life, the Seoul Station massacre was legendary for its absolute brutality. Doubt gnawed at his resolve. Was his current strength enough to change fate? Or would he be crushed like the rest? He considered staging a false alarm to clear the civilians, but one wrong move could ruin everything. Then, amidst the rush, a realization struck him like lightning. There was a shadow lurking here, a hidden villain waiting for the chaos to bloom. If that enemy remained in the shadows, the future would never change. Hyun-wook stood frozen in the crowd. 2 minutes. That was all that remained until hell opened its gates. Suddenly, a familiar voice cut through the tension. Vice Platoon Leader Seo-na appeared, gasping for air. Fury blazed in her eyes as she demanded to know why he was at the police station and why he dared to ignore her calls. Hyun-wook's mind raced. In his past life, she wasn't here. Had his actions rippled through time and altered history this much? 1 minute, 60 seconds before the world's worst dungeon break. Yet, Seo-na continued her lecture, oblivious to the impending doom. She yelled that a broken phone was no excuse he should have reported in immediately. Hyun-wook tuned out the noise. There was no time to explain. The plan to save them all had to start times now, * 0 hour. He swung his heavy bag to the floor and scattered a handful of metal spheres. Seo-na recoiled, startled by the sudden metallic clatter. Commuters froze, staring at the strange objects. Whispers of lunatic and crazy rippled through the confused crowd. Seo-na's confusion turned to frustration. She demanded answers, but he offered only silence and strange actions. His command was sharp and absolute. "Run for the gas masks when I give the signal." Seo-na stood paralyzed, her mind struggling to process the bizarre order. The crowd's confusion shifted to anger. These spheres were blocking their path, and patience was wearing thin. Then, the nightmare began. A crack in the ceiling split open, spewing a vile, venomous fog into the station. The crack tore wide open, expanding into a gaping dimensional portal. The crowd could only stare, paralyzed by the sudden supernatural horror. From the abyss, a beast with gleaming black scales descended. Hyun-wook screamed the signal. "Seo-na, get to the masks." Nearby, a heartbreaking scene unfolded. An older woman bid farewell to a younger girl, urging her to leave quickly. The girl protested, wanting to walk her mother to the train. But the mother refused. Her voice soft but firm, she didn't want her daughter to be burdened. Sorrow filled the girl's voice. "When will I see you again?" she asked. She never saw the encroaching darkness behind them. In a blink, a black mass surged between them, solidifying into an impenetrable barrier. The girl recoiled in terror, separated in an instant. She screamed for her mother, but her voice was swallowed by the void. A massive black sphere engulfed the station, sealing them inside. This was the event of misfortune, a death trap designed by fate itself. Entry was easy, escape was impossible. The rules were simple: survive hell for 6 hours, or slay the boss to break the seal. Back in the chaos, Hyun-wook didn't hesitate. He pointed the terrified girl toward the emergency cabinet. "The gas masks. Go." As the beast fully emerged from the rift, Hyun-wook sprinted into action, his voice booming over the screams. "Do exactly as I said." A colossal spider crashed onto the station floor, shattering concrete and hope alike. The monster screeched, and the stampede began. Humanity reduced to a frantic herd, trampling one another to escape. But Hyun-wook moved against the tide, charging straight toward the predator. He locked eyes with Seo-na. "Save yourself first. Grab a mask and don't look back." Her shock snapped into soldier's instinct. "Don't screw with me," she yelled. "I am a soldier of the Republic. I don't survive alone. I may be non-combat, but I will save these people." Her eyes burned with resolve. "I trust you, Corporal. As your superior, I order you. Survive at all costs." Hearing her command, a faint, confident smirk tugged at the corner of Hyun-wook's lips. Corporal Hyun-wook, acknowledging orders, he declared, accepting the weight of the mission. Elsewhere, an older official scoffed. Commander Kang Seop, do you truly pin your hopes on a mere F rank? The commander's reply was ice cold. I don't believe in paper evaluations. The general bristled, his face twisting with irritation at the insubordination. Ranks are just predictions, Kang Seop argued. But look around. The hidden gems are dying while the elites hide. General Jung-gil narrowed his eyes. Are you lecturing me, Commander? This was General Jong-gil of the 3rd Brigade, rank 31 in all of South Korea, a titan among men. Kang Seop quickly lowered his head. Not at all, sir. But the general pressed on. Veterans are fleeing to civilian guilds. If I promote an F rank now, who will be left to lead? Tell me, Commander, the general growled. What exactly is rotting inside our military? He rants that he could tell the whole world the AMT needs to be disbanded immediately. Tangguk stays silent, clearly unsettled by the outburst. Jungle chimes in, admitting the commander might see potential in the guy, but a bug is still just a bug. He answers a sudden phone call, his tone impatient as he demands to know what is happening now. A voice on the line drops a bombshell. A portal has cracked open at Sioux Station. It is a catastrophe event. Both men freeze, horror washing over their faces. Inside the station, chaos reigns. The guards are burning through their abilities, desperate to halt the dungeon boss. One soldier screams at the team leader. He has never seen a spider monster like this in any field guide. The beast raises a massive leg to crush him. The officer freezes, paralyzed by fear, while a teammate recklessly charges in to save his life. He tackles his colleague just as the limb comes crashing down. The impact shakes the ground, causing another soldier to stumble. They roll to safety, landing just inches away from the impact zone. Breathless and terrified, Manu roars a command. Stop the fire attacks. He orders a switch to ice magic as he raises his shield and draws his blade. The squad obeys instantly, activating the freezing rune. Manu triggers a skill called Eruption, unleashing a devastating blast of frost against the beast. The strategy works. The ice slams into the creature, immobilizing the boss for a precious few seconds. The team leader, standing over his fallen comrade, realizes the ice is brittle. It will not hold forever. He needs to take out one of its eyes while it is trapped. Manu shouts for the squad to maintain the spell. He is going in alone. His sword erupts with light. Manu launches himself toward the giant abomination with suicidal bravery. The boss ignores the others. It locks its gaze onto the charging soldier and snaps its attention toward him. Manu screams a war cry, preparing to strike. But the spider shatters the ice. It shakes off the restraints in a single violent motion. The maw of the beast opens wide. A soldier screams for Manu to use his shield. He raises his guard just as metallic spheres whistle through the air. Momentum shifts instantly. Hyun-wook manipulates the spheres, blasting the team leader backward and saving him from certain death. The giant spider screeches, searching for the intruder. Standing amidst the floating spheres is Hyun-wook, looking like a legend in his long trench coat. The protagonist begins his death march toward the boss, fear completely absent from his eyes. Hyun-wook declares there is no time to hesitate. He uses his telekinesis to twist the creature's carapace, treating this battle like a mere test of his new powers. He strains to crush the spider with invisible force. Suddenly, the system flashes a warning. His mana is plummeting at an alarming rate. The energy spheres split apart in the monster's eye as his reserves drop to 76%. With a sickening crunch, he utterly destroys the armored spider's core. The guard captain watches, jaw dropped in disbelief. The other soldiers are equally stunned. They realize the impossible is happening. His attack is actually working. Internally, Hyun-wook smirks. With this overwhelming power, he can stop the wave. He tells himself he could end it now. But the boss twitches, trying to move again. Hyun-wook's eyes narrow. He decides he will claim every single reward from this portal for himself. He shouts at the monster like a psychopath, taunting it to fight back. He commands it to use every ounce of strength it has, vowing to crush its body and consume its willpower. The spheres launch another assault. Hyun-wook mocks the beast, wondering if its insides are as tough as its steel-plated shell. He forms an iron spiral with the spheres, grinding them inside the creature. The monster screams in agony once more. He asks how it feels to have its organs blended. The boss roars, but for the first time, the monster looks terrified. The giant spider collapses. It hits the ground with a thunderous crash, lifeless. The guard captain is trembling. He just witnessed a single man dismantle a boss monster using nothing but a distinct ability. He stammers that he has seen many rankers in portals, but never anyone this fearless. He wonders if he is looking at an S-class player, the kind of absolute power they only hear about in legends. But in the shadows, a man with a scarred nose is fuming. He snarls that this stranger is ruining his entire mission. Suddenly, the team leader steps forward. He introduces himself as Manu, head of Sioux Station, and asks the burning question. Is Hyun-wook an S-rank? Hyun-wook denies it cold. He warns them not to relax. The first wave is not finished yet. As if on cue, two more giant spiders erupt from the darkness. Hyun-wook analyzes the situation. There is no doubt left. He declares that he will be the one to close this so-called Su portal. As he unleashes a massive swarm of spheres again, heavy military trucks roar toward the portal zone. The battalion has finished their briefing. The real army is gathering. An officer orders them to prepare the red ground. A member of the Blue Flower Guild smirks, noting that this scene always brings back memories. His companion shifts the strategy, desperate for a solution. He asks if gathering every mage-class player to bombard the barrier with attack spells could shatter the capsule. The man shakes his head grimly. Impossible. This is not arcane magic. The only way to breach this wall is to overwrite the system itself. But without a player possessing such a code-breaking ability, they are helpless. They have no choice but to wait for the timer to hit 0. Meanwhile, the roar of rotors fills the air outside the station. Military choppers descend. From one, a soldier lands. From another, a woman steps out in high heels, radiating authority. It is the commander himself, flanked by the guildmaster of the Blue Rose Guild. He demands the numbers. How many of her guild members are below level 15? She retorts coldly, questioning if he truly intends to send a rescue team into that meat grinder. Her voice drips with disdain. To send low-level players inside is not a rescue mission. It is a death sentence. The commander's eyes blaze with fury. 800 civilians are trapped in that abyss. How dare she weigh the lives of soldiers heavier than the people they swore to protect? Furthermore, he reveals a secret card. He has an ace already inside the zone. Deep within the barrier, the protagonist unleashes his crushing power. Gravity slams down. He obliterates the carapace of another spider, crushing it instantly. But suddenly, a razor-sharp leg slashes toward him from the shadows. Instinct takes over. Activating body transformation and metal control simultaneously, he yanks his own body backward in a defy-gravity dodge. Mid-air, he barks a command to the guards. Use the runes, freeze it now. He orders them to replicate their earlier success. The team leader doesn't hesitate. Do it. In unison, the squad unleashes a freezing eruption. Ice encases the massive arachnid, paralyzing it instantly. The protagonist raises a shield, narrowly blocking the backlash of the frost explosion. But the nightmare isn't over. Another beast lunges from the blind spot, targeting a female soldier. It leaps, claws extended to claim its prey. Eyes on me, you filth! The protagonist roars, drawing the insect's aggro. He launches his spheres, intercepting the attack. Impact! He knocks the beast aside, saving the girl in the nick of time. His aura flares as he declares himself the monster's sole executioner. Metal spiral technique. The spheres spin violently against the monster's exoskeleton. The beast shrieks as it is drilled into and torn apart from the inside out. Silence falls as the creature collapses, twitching in a pool of ichor beside the guard. Chaos erupts again. The spider the soldiers had frozen breaks free during the distraction. The ice shatters into a million shards. The protagonist doesn't flinch. Back for more? As he channels his power, the system pings a warning. Mana reserves at 63%. The monster freezes not from ice, but from pure terror. It feels the overwhelming pressure of a superior predator. He pushes his limits. Energy condenses into twin circles within his eyes. The power surge drains him further. Mana drops to 39%. With a devastating blow, the final spider is exterminated. The adrenaline fades, leaving a heavy fatigue in his bones. Watching from the shadows, the villain trembles. Why is a player of that caliber riding a subway? He curses his luck, realizing his debut mission is on the brink of failure. The system quest flashes before the villain's eyes. Objective: spread the armored spider's venom. Create nests. Penalty for failure: death. The man curses silently as doom approaches. Across the platform, the survivors huddle together. The rest of the station is eerily silent. The battlefield is clear. Cheers erupt from the crowd. Believing the first wave has ended, they celebrate prematurely and call for the guards to regroup. The soldiers bow their heads to the protagonist. We would be dead without you. They ask for the name of the high-ranking hero who saved them, but the boy says nothing. He turns, fixing them with a gaze so terrifying it chills their blood. Confusion spreads, except for one soldier who blushes, captivated by his strength. The team leader steps forward nervously. Is something wrong, sir? His mind races. Where is he? In his past life, the memories were clear. The villain was hiding among these very guards. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the tension. The surgeon appears, calling out to him. In the heat of battle, he had completely forgotten her existence. She addresses him as Corporal. A bystander mutters in confusion, wondering why a ranked player is serving standard military duty. She reports swiftly. Civilians evacuated to the rune circles with narrow choke points. She stares at the carnage. Did you stop the wave? Alone? She demands a full situation report. But internally, he grits his teeth. I don't have time for this interrogation. The team leader asks for the corporal's true rank. The protagonist cuts him off coldly. Rank doesn't matter. This might be a double portal. The color drains from their faces. Double portal? The words hang in the air like a death knell. He turns away. He cannot waste seconds hunting a villain in a haystack of 800 people. He must stay one step ahead. Outside, the commander appoints Lieutenant Min-hee as field leader. Min-hee steps up, introducing himself as the leader of the 2nd platoon. The crowd murmurs in disbelief. Him? But he hasn't even reached level 15. A C rank in charge of this disaster? The whispers sting. Min-hee's expression tightens, visibly irritated by the public doubt. The commander silences them. Focus. He admits the heavy burden on his heart, but the mission stands. They must enter the abyss to save the civilians. The troops salute, obeying the command. But then, a surprise order. The commander calls Min-hee back. I want a full report on everything regarding Corporal Hyun-wook. The lieutenant froze, his mind reeling. Was the commander truly speaking of Hyun-wook's legendary achievements? Back within the containment capsule, a second rift tore open the fabric of space. A skeleton emerged from the void, a gruesome hole bored straight through its skull. A holographic system window materialized with a bizarre update. The monsters would not register this entity as a target. Rage flared within the skeleton's empty sockets. Why aren't they attacking? It hissed. The answer was simple. Every single beast was already dead. It checked its 3 directives. The first mission had failed. The second was brutal. Slaughter at least 500 civilians by any means necessary. I must endure, the villain muttered to himself. Completing this grants me the rank of a true villain. But suddenly, a living nightmare hurtled toward him. The protagonist had arrived. Instinct took over. The villain instantly generated thick, gnarled roots, weaving a defensive cocoon around his body. A sadistic grin split the man's face. What are you doing? He feigned innocence. I am merely a railway guard. Hyun-wook wasn't fooled. You hid among the flock to slaughter the sheep later, he retorted, his voice cutting through the lies. You really twisted your brain to pull off a stunt like that, Hyun-wook scoffed. It has been a long time, Jusop. The villain faltered, genuine confusion clouding his eyes. Who are you? Have our paths crossed before? A chilling smile played on Hyun-wook's lips. I know you better than you know yourself, he whispered. You petty little villain. Terror finally dawned on the man's face. I don't know what you're talking about, he stammered, panic rising. But you shouldn't have spoken the word villain out loud. He quickly regained composure. I've seen your mental manipulation, he analyzed. You must be a high-ranked player. I understand your confidence, the villain sneered. But rankings mean nothing when elemental compatibility is involved. Those tiny metal marbles are useless against me. But even as he gloated, Hyun-wook was gathering a scorching heat deep within his chest. Hyun-wook opened his mouth, a swirling sphere of flame illuminating the darkness. Let's see if your compatibility accounts for this. Memories of a ruined future flooded back. In the past timeline, this monster had decimated the city with his cannibal tree, its roots ensnaring helpless victims. In that past life, the villain had mocked the great Emperor of Steel. How long will you cower in the shadows? Are you just going to watch as my forest devours them all? He had taunted. A wounded Hyun-wook had been forced to watch the massacre in silence. Where did all that bravado go? Ju Se-up asked in the flashback. Back in the present, Hyun-wook's eyes hardened. I understand now. Hyun-wook blurred into motion, weaving through the enemy's strikes with impossible speed. The villain gasped. What kind of movement was this? The hunter became the hunted. In a heartbeat, Hyun-wook closed the gap, his metal spheres hammering against the villain's wooden shield like hail. The protagonist's senses flared. Razor-sharp roots were launching a sneak attack from his blind spot. He flowed like water, combining abilities to evade. The man recoiled in shock. Why is this maniac rushing straight at me? Suspended in midair, Hyun-wook pointed a finger. His metal spheres obeyed, curving violently toward the villain's exposed flank. Desperate, the man managed to erect a hasty barrier, sweat pouring down his brow as he barely deflected the blow. Do whatever you want, the villain screamed, confident in his defense. You can't touch me. But the boy was already clinging to the very shield meant to protect him. Hyun-wook grinned like a demon. This would. It should be fuel enough. You fool, the man spat. You still don't grasp the nature of my power. Getting closer only seals your doom. He seized Hyun-wook's limbs. My ability is the cannibal tree. I will digest you whole. But then, smoke began to curl from the protagonist's lips. Simultaneously, Hyun-wook's skin hardened, his arms transmuting into impenetrable living steel. Ju Se-up panicked. Why isn't the tree eating him? In that moment of hesitation, a roaring fireball materialized in Hyun-wook's mouth. Absolute terror seized the man. Fire? Where had this inferno come from? Wait, he shrieked, desperate to bargain. I'm on a mission. Spare me, and I'll give you all the rewards. Everything. The villain's mind raced. Asterisk. No one refuses a deal like this. I can evolve and clean up this mess later. Asterisk. The flames in Hyun-wook's mouth intensified, glowing white-hot. Funny, he rasped. You tried that same trick in my past life. The villain trembled as death stared him in the face. Past life? What? Hyun-wook commanded, and unleashed the breath of the dragon. Meanwhile, a notification pinged for Mindy's squad. Asterisk, entry authorized. Asterisk. The commander addressed his troops, voice grim. We're going in blind. Prepare for anything. They steeled themselves to cross the threshold. The system flashed a crimson warning. Asterisk, danger zone. Once you enter, there is no return. Asterisk. Fear gripped one of the soldiers immediately. Looming before him was the colossal corpse of a giant spider. Shut your mouth, Jumbo, the lieutenant hissed. A voice called out from the shadows. Who goes there? Rescue team, the leader announced. The chief of guard stepped forward, disbelief in his eyes. A rescue team? Really? Above them, the massive rift that birthed the spiders still swirled ominously. The lieutenant scanned the area, confusion growing. Where are the casualties? I don't see a single injured civilian. The guard burst in, breathless. He reported that thanks to the intervention of a lone AMT member, the civilians had already been successfully evacuated. Min-woo immediately pressed for answers. Is it a soldier? Is she injured? The guard shook his head, explaining that the mystery woman was currently securing the shelter. The non-answer only fueled the lieutenant's rage. But the chief of guards cut in, his voice trembling but firm. We are simply following Hyun-wook's direct orders, sir. Junho's eyes widened with recognition. Did he have spiky hair? And a smile that sends shivers down your spine? Min-woo's expression darkened as he confirmed the description. Know your place and shut your mouth. Min-woo snapped at the boy. The subordinate clamped his mouth shut, visibly chafing under the disrespect but forced to obey. Min-woo turned on the chief, asserting dominance. I am in command now. And let me remind you, that hero you're following is nothing but rank F trash. The chief narrowed his eyes, his demeanor shifting to icy seriousness. If that's so, how did you enter, Lieutenant? You know the rules. Only level 15 or lower can breach the capsule. Min-woo scoffed, puffing out his chest. I know exactly who I'm dealing with. I am an elite rank C. I have no obligation to take orders from a bottom feeder. Besides, Min-woo sneered, gesturing to his team, we are a specialized rescue squad. If we don't know how to extract these people, no one does. For now, we secure the perimeter, Min-woo ordered. We build a barricade at the narrowest choke point and wait out the timer. That is the strategy. But the plan was dead on arrival. Sona rushed toward the team leader, panic etched on her face. Sir, we have a massive situation unfolding. Vice leader. Min-woo stepped forward, feigning concern. Are you unhurt? He puffed up again. I came here personally to ensure your safety. Sona brushed past him, ignoring his posturing entirely. That doesn't matter right now. The civilians. They've discovered the existence of the second portal. The color drained from Min-woo's face. Chaos erupted among the survivors. You used us as bait, they screamed. Why hide the double portal? The soldiers struggled to hold back the tide of outraged civilians. That guard was telling the truth. A man shouted above the din. We're just meat shields meant to buy you time, aren't we? Who told you that? Sona demanded sharply. The man pointed a trembling finger. A guard. The one with the scar across his nose. Meanwhile, deep in the shadows, Hyun-wook stood over the battered form of Byun. I made all the preparations. Byun wheezed, blood dripping from his lips. This was no surprise. It was difficult, but necessary. Stop whining, Hyun-wook said coldly, his eyes devoid of mercy. I have a schedule to keep. He raised his weapon. Just die already. Do all you villains read from the same cliché script? Hyun-wook sighed. But before he could finish the job, a blinding pillar of light exploded in front of him. A rift tore through the air, revealing a portal not of this world. Beyond the veil lay a pristine sky, where a majestic golden radiance beckoned. From the light descended two figures, beings of breathtaking beauty resembling angels. As they approached, Hyun-wook felt his depleted mana surging back to full capacity in an instant. They circled him in a mesmerizing dance, their presence alone knitting his wounds and restoring his vitality. They drew closer, enveloping him in their divine aura. But instead of awe, a twisted grin spread across Hyun-wook's face. A blue holographic window materialized before his eyes. System alert. Hidden scenario initiated. Hidden quest. The bearer of light. The objective. Become the morning star, the guardian of humanity. The angels reached out, their gentle hands attempting to guide him into the portal. The system's voice echoed in his mind. Asterisk. Accept this destiny. Walk the path of the morning light and save this world. Asterisk. Do you accept? Hyun-wook didn't hesitate for a microsecond. His eyes gleamed with defiance. My answer is obvious. He spat. I refuse. The serene expressions on the angels' faces shattered. They froze, blinking in utter disbelief at the human who dared reject paradise. "Are you certain?" the system queried. "Absolutely," Hyun-wook countered. "In the end, you're just another faction. The bigger the reward, the tighter the leash. I won't be a puppet. This power isn't a gift, it's a curse," he reasoned darkly. "One wrong step, one misused command, and a guardian becomes a tyrant faster than any villain. Just look at history," Hyun-wook scoffed. "Gordon Frey, the worst traitor humanity ever knew. And what was he before he fell? A guardian. Now, how many times do I have to say no?" Hyun-wook growled, his patience thinning. The golden-haired angel stared down at him, her gaze shifting from benevolence to cold judgment. The red-haired angel looked ready to strike him down where he stood, fury radiating from her form. Slowly, the divine portal began to collapse, sealing the heavens away. As the light faded and the room returned to darkness, Hyun-wook cracked his neck. Good riddance. He turned his attention back to the grim reality, activating his skill. He reached into the pile of bleached bones and retrieved a gleaming object. Item acquired. Akashic cabinet key. Level 2. This was it. The artifact Jugap had been desperate to find. A key not just for treasure, but a necessary component for the villain's grand design. "Perfect," Hyun-wook murmured, pocketing the key. "I'll hold on to this. It's just the tool I need to exterminate every last insect that gets in my way." Back at the shelter, the chief of guards stepped into the crowd. He pointed to his own face, the only one bearing a scar. "Listen to me. The man you spoke to. That scar was a fake. Are you sure?" The civilians pressed, fear clouding their judgment. The man in the suit stood his ground. "I swear it. That rumor did not come from me." "It doesn't matter," a voice cried out. "You hid the second gate from us. Fake scar or not, the fact remains we are just disposable shields to you." From the shadows, Hyun-wook clicked his tongue. Asterisk. That bastard Byun. Asterisk, he thought. Asterisk. Even in death, his lies are causing chaos. Asterisk. He watched as Min-woo tried vainly to assert authority over the mob. Hyun-wook's eyes narrowed as he observed the scene. Despite the incompetence, the lieutenant hadn't abandoned the station. He was holding the line until the bitter end. "How can we trust you?" the crowd roared. "A rescue team with only 6 people? You expect us to believe you can save us all?" "Hey!" a voice cut through the panic like a blade. Hyun-wook stepped into the light, commanding instant attention. "What is all this noise about? Do you idiots have a death wish?" Hyun-wook bellowed, silencing the room. "The second wave is coming. If you keep bickering, every single one of you will end up as monster chow. We're in this mess because you people panic." Hyun-wook glared at the instigator, his aura flaring. "You say you can't trust us? Fine. Do you have any other way to survive? Because from where I'm standing, I'm your only hope." The mob falls silent, crushed by his overwhelming presence. Hyun-wook's voice cuts through the noise. He declares that the railway guards wagered their very lives. Isn't that enough blood spilled? His eyes sweep the crowd, cold and judging. He demands to know if a single soul among them has risked death for another. Min-hee hisses, cursing Hyun-wook under her breath. How dare he lecture the citizens like a king? She demands to know where he's been cowering this whole time. His answer is calm but devastating. He didn't hide. He just solo cleared the second dungeon gate. Si-yeon gasps, while Jumbo frantically calls for the medic. The guard chief realizes the truth. This suffocating pressure. It's the hallmark of an S-rank awakener. But the lieutenant snaps, spewing curses. He calls it a shameless bluff, refusing to believe one man could achieve the impossible alone. Hyun-wook ignores the insult. The second wave is imminent. He orders the civilians to take cover. The soldiers and platoon leader fall in line instantly, and even the chief bows his head, addressing him as Sir. Min-hee watches in disbelief. Is this really the same surgeon she knew? He commands the battlefield with the absolute authority of a commander. Back at the first gate's ruin, Jumbo hands over the legendary Cloud Sword and the vice leader's spellbook. Hyun-wook rallies the troops, eyes on him. He informs them that the situation has changed. He has critical intel that will decide their survival. Hyun-wook drops the bomb. These spiders don't exist in any database. The next wave will be an unknown nightmare, yet the pattern feels off. The guard chief nods grimly. He sensed the anomaly too. Based on the first wave's mutation, Hyun-wook deduces the worst. The next evolution brings poison. Venomous monstrosities are coming. The lieutenant seethes with jealousy, furious that the vice leader and guards are taking orders from a nobody. Hyun-wook continues, unfazed. Gas masks are mandatory. The plan is to lure the beasts to the open platform, containing the lethal poison spread. With the stage set, Hyun-wook lays out the tactical blueprint. The gate roars to life. The second wave begins as arachnids flood out. Hyun-wook takes point, he is the bait. He surges forward, grabbing every ounce of aggro. He weaves through razor-sharp legs, a blur of motion. It works. The giant spiders stumble into the boarding area, disoriented and vulnerable. The guard and rescue teams lie in wait. This is the kill zone. They strike while the monsters are exposed. There is no cover here, no place for the beasts to hide. They are sitting ducks. Just like before, the strategy hinges on crowd control. Freeze their legs and wait for the opening. Frost runes detonate, locking the monsters in place while the squad rains fire. But chaos strikes. Hyun-wook explicitly warned them to keep their distance. A spider breaks formation, lunging at a soldier. Panic grips the man. He freezes, staring death in the face. Hyun-wook intercepts. He unleashes his metal unfolding arts, screaming as he tears the monster's carapace apart with bare hands. Black blood sprays like a geyser. The armor is gone. Attack now. The team unleashes hell on the exposed flesh. Critical hits land one after another. The squad focuses fire, bringing the behemoths crashing down. Now for the ace in the hole. For maximum damage, the platoon and vice leaders take the high ground. Minhee watches, stunned. She can hardly believe she is fighting alongside the elite Si-yeon. With the platoon leader's teleportation support, she can pour 100% of her mana into shredding the enemy's defenses. The vice leader acts as a mana battery, refueling the lieutenant. Endless teleportation is now possible. She glances at the platoon leader, the expert in risk management. Is the plan solid? He smirks, his pride stroked. The strategy is perfect. It promises victory with minimal casualties. Hyun-wook nods. He leaves the rear guard in the capable hands of the rescue captain. Silence falls. Every unit holds its breath, waiting for Hyun-wook's signal. Suddenly, the portal screams, generating violent gales. Round 2. Incoming. Hyun-wook roars. A massive shadow plummets from the rift, slamming into the earth. The impact creates a shockwave so violent even Hyun-wook has to shield his face from the debris. A sinister grin spreads across Hyun-wook's face. Everything is proceeding exactly as he predicted. The system window flashes. Survive for 6 hours, or defeat the boss. This isn't just another mob. Its armor is thicker, its aura suffocating. Hyun-wook realizes the truth. This is the dungeon boss. The creature rises on 2 legs, towering over them a grotesque mockery of a human form. The nightmare has finally arrived. The boss monster is here. Hyun-wook yells for a retreat, but the quest demands a kill. The platoon leader panics, mind racing to regain control of the chaos. "Hold your positions," he screams, while telling Hyun-wook to draw the aggro away from the civilians. The boss monster ignores them all. Its multiple eyes lock onto Hyun-wook. It lets out a bone-chilling growl. It knows who the real threat is. With a deafening roar, the boss unleashes a scream directly at him. Suddenly, a memory flashes through his mind. This monstrosity wasn't supposed to spawn until after the second wave. The soldiers below buckle under the crushing pressure of the beast's aura. Meanwhile, Hyun-wook's mind races. Why has the future changed so drastically? Every single soldier covers their ears, desperate to block out the earth-shattering noise. A heavy realization hits him. This anomaly. It is likely his fault. The colossal spider strikes. By a hair's breadth, Hyun-wook manages to evade death. Boom! The impact is so devastating that the entire cavern trembles violently. He has to act now. If he hesitates, it won't just be defeat. It will be total annihilation for everyone. The protagonist activates his metal distortion ability. He unleashes a quick strike. His mana instantly drops to 72%. A system window pops up with a grim notification. The attack was ineffective. The beast's resistance is far greater than his breaking force. The monster launches another strike, aiming to end the boy's life instantly. But Hyun-wook triggers a chain of abilities. He weaves through the air, barely dodging the spider's massive leg. He dances through the storm of attacks, inching closer to his target. Below, the sergeant notices something strange. That last blow, it shattered one of the stone pillars instantly. Hyun-wook realizes his iron skin fortification won't be enough to tank a direct hit. Suspended in midair, a crazy idea sparks in his mind. His eyes lock onto the debris. The monster really did destroy that support pillar with a single hit. The boss interrupts his thoughts with a vicious lunge. Reflexes take over. He executes a skill combo and slips past the attack. He lands on the spider's leg and starts sprinting up the limb. It is a suicide mission, but it is the only card he has left to play. Gathering momentum, he launches himself high into the air. Minhee screams at him from below. What is that lunatic doing? He yells for Hyun-wook to stick to the plan and lure the beast away. But mentally, Hyun-wook remains calm. He knows the lieutenant will understand his intent. His mind drifts back to a conversation from the past. The protagonist had thanked him back then. He admitted he only survived that day thanks to the lieutenant's teleportation ability. He told Minhee he was lucky to have him as a partner, and he wasn't bluffing about memorizing every strategy in the manual. The lieutenant had scoffed at the compliment. He claimed that simply memorizing books isn't enough to master the battlefield. He said true battle strategy cannot be learned from paper. Knowledge without experience just rots inside your head. To surpass the limits of his teleportation, he needed to understand every tactical nuance. Each tactic he developed was born from a desperate struggle to survive. Back in the present, the lieutenant wonders what the boy is actually planning. Alongside Siona, he watches the chaotic duel from the sidelines. The protagonist's mana continues to plummet. It is already down to 45%. Hyun-wook grins. With Min-hee's tactical genius, he will definitely figure out the real plan. His mana drains further to 32%. Gasping for breath, Hyun-wook barely evades another lethal strike. Crash. Another pillar bites the dust. Several supports are now gone. The platoon leader's eyes widen. He finally understands. The boy isn't just dodging. He is baiting the monster into destroying the pillars. He rips off his mask. That guy is absolutely insane. The lieutenant turns to Sona and demands she transfer her maximum mana output to him immediately. She asks why. Confused, he shouts that he needs to create the largest teleportation zone in history. Meanwhile, the sergeant sprints toward the final standing pillar. Hyun-wook's mana hits 27%. The boss raises both massive forelegs, charging up a catastrophic blow. Boom! The ground completely shatters beneath them. The protagonist loses his footing. Debris flies everywhere. Pain shoots through his body as sharp rocks batter him from all sides. But he grits his teeth and scrambles toward the pillar. He looks up. The boss is hurtling straight toward him for the kill. Hyun-wook activates body transformation. He turns his entire front into solid steel. His mana reserves hit critical, only 3% left. The impact is monumental. The pillar snaps in half, and Hyun-wook is launched like a ragdoll. His steel defense shatters completely. He slams into the cavern wall, creating a massive crater. Rumble, the entire dungeon begins to collapse. Through the pain, he smiles. He did it. Every single pillar holding up the structure has been destroyed, but the monster cannot know the roof is about to fall. Dragging himself out of the crater, he makes a resolve. He must serve as the ultimate bait. Min-hee screams, calling him a lunatic and begging him to move. But Hyun-wook stands his ground, right where he landed. The event boss charges at him. Suddenly, the lieutenant opens a portal directly beneath the monster's paws. He grits his teeth, shouting that he can't hold it for long. Hyun-wook yells for Min-hee to finish it. Or they all die. The platoon leader roars, pouring every ounce of his strength into the spell. Power explodes from his hands. A gigantic portal rips open, swallowing the monster whole. The beast falls right back into the trap zone. The boss looks up, confused, and then it sees it. The entire ceiling is coming down on top of its head. The protagonist smiles through the dust. He knew the lieutenant would deliver perfectly. As the world caves in, he whispers that he is proud of his partner. Min-hee breaks down, screaming for him. He calls him a psychopath, his voice cracking with emotion. Seo-na finally grasps the sacrifice and screams his name in desperation. As darkness closes in, memories of his past life surface once more. In the memory, he speaks to Yuna. He recounts the many comrades they have lost. A heavy question weighs on his soul. Is he truly fit to be a leader? The woman looks at him in silence. Suddenly, her voice cuts through the haze. She calls out his name. In the flashback, Yuna's voice drips with disappointment. She calls him pathetic, demanding to know who crowned him leader. She asks the question that haunts him. Do you even trust yourself? The protagonist tears his eyes away from the memory. Reality crashes back in. The dungeon is collapsing around him, and he is still wedged tight in the crumbling wall. Hyun-wook apologizes to the void. He checks his status, only 3% mana remaining. With a desperate heave, he throws himself headfirst toward the abyss below. As he falls, the fragment of the past burns brighter. He feels the phantom sensation of Yuna grabbing him by the collar, shaking him awake. Her voice echoes in his mind. Don't carry the weight of the world alone. Look at them. Look into the eyes of your comrades. He snaps his eyes open. It isn't the cold, hard ground waiting for him. It is Seo-ah and the platoon leader, ready to catch him. Disbelief washes over him, but instinct takes over. He reaches out, extending his hand toward her in a leap of faith. The lieutenant strains, barely keeping the dimensional portal open. The moment Hyun-wook passes through, the gate slams shut as the girl catches him. Behind them, the station section disintegrates into dust. The alarms blare. The system flashes a blood-red warning. The event boss has spawned. Outside, the media frenzy begins. Reporters demand a statement about the boss's appearance and the military's response. Director Kang-sok grits his teeth. The situation is spiraling out of control, and his irritation is visible. A subordinate whispers a warning to Hannah. The chief says, "One more slip-up, and you're finished. Your position is hanging by a thread." She realizes the truth. Her brothers are sabotaging her, setting an ambush. The commander notes the tension, his eyes narrowing. He looks displeased. Hannah snaps at the room, commanding everyone to stop staring. "I'll make the call. That is all I need to do." Fury burns in her chest. Of all the people she could call, why did it have to be him? She scrolls to a contact saved as Crazy Dog. Back inside the dungeon, the safe zone is gone, buried under rubble. The vice platoon leader screams at Hyun-wook. Are you trying to kill yourself? I really thought we lost you. Hyun-wook feels a spike of anxiety. The future has shifted. The timeline he knew is dissolving, and his knowledge might no longer save them. He stays silent, lost in thought. The lieutenant takes his silence for arrogance and explodes in anger. He curses at the protagonist. Who do you think you are? If you hadn't stepped in, my men would be dead right now. The man's voice cracks with emotion. Tactics are built on promises. You have to trust that your comrades will follow you to hell and back. Minwoo stares him down. Did you really think fighting alone was the answer? Do you truly not trust us? The words strike a chord. Hyun-wook remembers Yuna's lesson from his past life. A genuine smile finally breaks across his face. The vice platoon leader steps in, scolding the lieutenant. Enough. This isn't the time for lectures. Hyun-wook turns to Minwoo. Thank you. Because of you, I know exactly what we need to do. The lieutenant looks confused. Hyun-wook's eyes gleam. The boss is coming from below. But I've found a way for us all to survive. The platoon leader tries to take charge again, suggesting a solo approach. But they need a real strategy. And he begins to formulate a plan. Hyun-wook cuts in, completing the thought. The monster has iron skin. We use electricity, but it requires total teamwork. He commands the room. Listen up. From this moment on, the kill belongs to Junho. The young tank trembles, nervous. Me? Does it really have to be me? Outside, the press swarm Kang-sok. Director, what is the fate of the people trapped inside? Give us a statement. They demand details for their headlines. Kang-sok keeps his cool. The secondary rescue team has already been deployed. The reporters are skeptical. A team of level 15 soldiers against a boss? Deep in the wreckage, the monster rises from the debris. The beast scans the ruins, hunting for survivors. It lets out a low, terrifying growl. It roars a sonic boom that ripples through the air. The power is so immense that Hyun-wook and the squad struggle just to stay standing. But then, a distraction. High above the monster's head, a massive circle of water magic begins to coalesce. Minwoo gives the signal. Release. The guard team, hidden behind the rubble, unleashes the water orb. The water crashes down, soaking the monster completely. Instantly, they activate the amplification rune. Hyun-wook shouts the order. Now, shock him. Junho slams his warhammer down, unleashing a torrent of electricity. The current surges through the wet iron skin. The damage is catastrophic. The beast shrieks in agony as the lightning fries its nerves. Junho calls for the next step. Hyun-wook yells back. Hold the line! Wait for the ice rune to charge. Suddenly, a voice booms across the battlefield. Stop! An invisible force slams everyone, guards and soldiers alike, face first into the ground. Even the lieutenant is pinned. The pressure is suffocating. Even the boss monster freezes, terrified by the presence. Outside, Kang-sok smirks. The second team isn't a squad. It is one single S-rank player with no level restrictions. The king of Tazen's fist. Han Tae-sok, the Fist King, second strongest in Korea, 9th in the world. He looks down at them. You all worked hard. The S-rank steps forward, radiating absolute confidence. He declares that he will handle everything from here on out, ordering everyone else to stand down and rest. Hyun-wook instantly recognizes this overwhelming pressure. This is the true authority of an S-rank, the legendary lazy tiger, Tae-san. He sneers, declaring he refuses to share his table with weaklings. His warning is clear. If anyone dares to touch his prey, they are as good as dead. Hyun-wook's mind races. His knowledge of the future has already deviated, so his original plan was just to survive for 5 hours. But Tae-san's unexpected arrival changes everything. In the previous timeline, Tae-san was an S-rank player unbound by level restrictions. He was only thrown into this catastrophic event at the very last second. After single-handedly clearing the portal, he rose to fame as the Invincible fighter. That legend was born after he acquired the secret armor of Manon and Mur. But in this timeline, Hyun-wook refuses to let history repeat itself. Tae-san roars, threatening to slaughter anyone who tries to steal his reward. But Hyun-wook just stares back, a calculated smirk forming on his face. He has no intention of handing over the prize. With a twisted, sadistic smile, the madman realizes something thrilling. It is actually Tae-san who is on the menu, and Hyun-wook is ready to devour his favorite meal. The dungeon boss lunges, aiming a lethal blow at the global ranker. But Tae-san casually blocks the attack with a single punch. He scoffs, admitting the monster has some fight in it, but reminds the beast that he is in a league of his own. Suddenly, his gear erupts with blinding light. Boom! The impact sends the enemy flying. The giant spider crashes into the wall with such force that the onlookers have to shield their faces from the shockwave. Tae-san pauses, genuinely surprised. The monster hasn't suffered a single scratch. He admits the creature is far tougher than he imagined. He leaps into the air, his fighting spirit igniting. He realizes he's actually getting competitive. He unleashes another strike, blazing a trail of fire through the air. As he charges, a massive beam of golden light screams past the boss. It misses the beast's head by inches. Taeson growls, warning the spider that resisting will only make its death more painful. He lands a devastating blow. A massive shockwave ripples outward, shaking the very foundations of the area. The force is so violent that the nearby soldiers are dragged back by the sheer pressure of the impact. Amidst the thick cloud of smoke, Seo-ha holds on to Hyun-wook. Her voice trembles as she asks if he is all right. Although his mana is restored, Hyun-wook is in critical condition. Yet, he calmly assures the vice leader not to worry. He doesn't plan on using his body to fight. He breaks free from her grasp, his eyes locked on the battle. The lieutenant demands to know what scheme he is plotting now. In the distance, Taeson is laughing hysterically. He pummels the monster, smashing the boss over and over with his bare fists. The giant spider's carapace is nearly pulverized. But suddenly, ominous blue electricity begins to crackle from the monster's chest plate. Taeson recoils, confused. He doesn't understand what is happening. Without warning, the monster's chest explodes outward. The S-Rank is dragged backward, struggling to find his footing. Suddenly, Hyun-wook appears beside him, using his metal manipulation ability. Taeson glares, asking if the kid has a death wish. He had already warned him about touching his prey, but Hyun-wook retorts, asking if the S-Rank isn't being a little dishonest in his dealings. Taeson demands to know what he means. Hyun-wook coldly states that it was the Fist King who interrupted their hunt first. The lunatic scoffs, asking if the brat really thinks they could have defeated the boss without his help. While they speak, the protagonist secretly prepares his move. Irritated, the global ranker questions his audacity. Taeson dashes forward, desperate to reach the kill before the boy does. Hyun-wook mocks him. Taeson arrived after the crisis was over, yet wants to play the hero? He won't allow it. The S-Rank closes the distance, inches away from the protagonist's blade. He pushes his speed to the limit, determined to land the final blow first. He winds up for the kill. Hyun-wook strikes at the exact same moment. Both attacks land with a millisecond difference. The giant spider shudders and begins to collapse backward. Taeson lands one more hit, and a massive explosion erupts, swallowing them both. Even Hyun-wook struggles to stand his ground against the blast. A system notification pops up. The boss has been defeated. The area restrictions are lifted. Breaking news flashes across screens everywhere. 5 minutes after the Fist King entered, the monster was destroyed. With a deafening rumble, the event barrier begins to dissolve. Reports claim the situation at the station is dire, but as doubt fills the air, a little girl spots a familiar face and runs toward her mother. She cries out, asking if her mother is okay, checking frantically for injuries. The woman collapses into an embrace, apologizing for making her worry. The little girl bursts into tears, realizing the nightmare is finally over. As they hold each other, the news anchor announces a shocking update. A miracle has occurred. Against all odds, everyone at Sioux Station has survived. A system notification pings in the air. The giant venomous iron spider lies dead, but Hyun-wook stares at the screen, annoyance twitching in his brow. Congratulations on placing second. The system mocks him, offering a consolation prize for merely assisting in the boss's defeat. However, the cloud sword is still embedded deep within the monster's carcass. Suddenly, a mysterious, unknown energy surges from the beast, flowing directly into the blade's steel. The text changes before his eyes. Rank 1 contribution confirmed. The true reward drops the legendary secret armor of Manon and Mlur. The jewel on the necklace pulses with an ethereal blue light, humming with power. He checks the equipment tab. It's a heroic-grade artifact, a growth-type armor that levels up through battle and grants subspace inventory. Hyun-wook grins. He successfully defended the station and secured the ultimate loot. A perfect victory, but not everyone is happy. Taeson's face twists into a mask of pure fury. "You brat! Explain yourself!" Hyun-wook casually swallows the item into his inventory. "Reward?" He scoffs. "You should be grateful you even secured second place." After all, Hyun-wook adds coldly, "I was the one doing all the heavy lifting from the start." "Bullshit," Taeson roars. "Killing the boss is 7% of the total contribution." "You did nothing." His aura flares violently. "I spent 6 months in isolated training for this. I came all this way, and I demand compensation." The pressure in the room drops as Taeson steps closer, his voice dripping with menace. "How exactly do you plan to pay me back?" Hyun-wook sighs, unimpressed. "You want to talk to me about wasted time? I had to re-enlist in the army and do this entire nightmare all over again." The self-proclaimed King of the Fist unleashes his spirit energy. "Do you have any idea who you're messing with, kid?" "Taeson, stand down." A voice cuts through the tension. Asterisk compensation? Asterisk Hyun-wook thinks. Asterisk. If we rewarded people based on actual work, your life wouldn't be enough to pay me. Asterisk. Taeson snaps. Boiling with rage, he charges forward. "You absolute lunatic." Hyun-wook doesn't flinch, he simply closes his eyes. Suddenly, Battalion Commander Kang-yuk and Hannah burst onto the scene. Stop! Hyun-wook's eyes snap open. He is genuinely shocked. What is she doing here? Commander Kang-uk steps forward, his expression severe. The portal is closed, King of the Fist. What do you think you're doing? A sly smile spreads across Hyun-wook's face. Asterisk. Perfect timing. Asterisk. He snatches the last piece of equipment. Thanks for the gift. It was a pleasure. Taezen stands there, dumbfounded, as Hyun-wook turns to leave. Without looking back, he walks away, leaving the raging global rancor and the blue flower heiress in the dust. Corporal, report, the commander barks. Hyun-wook salutes instantly. Private first class. Hyun-wook, no serious injuries, sir. Get back here, Taezen bellows. Shut your mouth. Hannah's voice cracks like a whip. Her eyes are cold. I don't know what happened here, but the eyes of the entire nation are watching us. Cause a scene, she warns, and not even your guild will be able to salvage your reputation. Suddenly, the crowd parts. Make way, the general has arrived. But then space warps. A new portal begins to tear open. An old man steps out of the void, walking straight toward Taezen. The general bows slightly. King of the Fist, surprised to see you still here. Taezen ignores him, eyes locked on Hyun-wook with murderous intent. Even the bystanders can feel the heat of his rage. Hannah shivers. The pressure radiating from the old man is suffocating. The brigade general frowns. Is there an issue here? Even the guildmaster's daughter is involved? Hannah shakes her head. No, sir, the portal is closed. The old man smiles, but it doesn't reach his eyes. If the Blue Flower Guild says so, then there is no problem. Asterisk monster, asterisk Hannah thinks, trembling inside. The commander hastily salutes the general. She turns on Taezen. Look at this mess. I told you to clear the second wave without destroying the station. Was it too difficult for you to handle it cleanly? She hisses, questioning his competence. I didn't destroy it. Taezen snarls. I wasn't even the one who took first place. Hannah freezes. What? Taezen waves his hand dismissively. Forget that. I fulfilled your conditions. His voice drops to a growl. Now, fulfill your end of the bargain. With a massive boom, he leaps away, shattering the concrete beneath him. Hannah is left reeling. Asterisk. An S-rank failed to place first in a level 15 dungeon? Asterisk. Her mind races. Asterisk. Then who took the top spot? Asterisk. The general reviews a file, puzzled. This doesn't add up. His official record says he controls 300 grams, but this report, his power output, is impossible. Hannah follows the general's gaze. The realization hits her like a truck. Asterisk. It was the corporal. Asterisk. The general closes the file, his F-rank classification. It has to be a mistake. Hannah is stunned, unable to comprehend that he is still just an F-rank. General Jun-yeol, however, narrows his eyes, demanding a far more detailed report. The woman clutches her head as a migraine sets in, overwhelmed by the impossible situation. Meanwhile, the general and the corporal distance themselves from the others. Hyun-wook observes the old man with heightened vigilance. He knows better than anyone that General Jun-yeol is not a force to be trifled with. This is a man whose raw power alone has earned him the terrifying title of a living nuclear weapon. But it is his intellect that is truly lethal. He was the one strategist the necromancer feared most, surviving countless assassination attempts through sheer cunning. Interrupting his train of thought, the general barks an order for the corporal to report. Hyun-wook freezes, realizing the interrogation has begun. In a heartbeat, he snaps to attention. As he suspected, the old man's intuition is sharp. He already senses the discrepancy between the official record and the boy's abnormal performance. Controlling his voice, Hyun-wook reports that he successfully eliminated a second elite-tier monster during the operation. Simultaneously, a system window flashes before his eyes. His stats have skyrocketed in real time. His telekinetic capacity has evolved from a meager 300 grams to a staggering 17 kilograms, unlocking a host of new active skills. The general muses that an achievement system is far rarer than standard quests. Hyun-wook panics internally. The world must never know that an F-rank can evolve. Jun-yeol offers a sly smile, suggesting that perhaps they should consider these mysterious achievements as a variable in the equation. Hyun-wook's soul screams in protest, the sheer pressure of the general's scrutiny making his skin crawl. The general drops the pleasantries, stating bluntly that he can no longer treat the boy as a common F-rank. His combat data suggests a power level of rank C or higher. A chill runs down the protagonist's spine. Does the old man intend to exploit his growth for the military's gain? Unexpectedly, Jun-yeol shifts his tone. He praises the corporal for a fantastic job, and asserts that such valor deserves a fitting reward. He asks if the boy desires high-grade armor. Hyun-wook realizes the general is testing his ambition. With a wicked, confident grin, the protagonist admits there is something he wants, a specific weapon that perhaps even the great general cannot procure. Intrigued by the challenge, the general demands to know the name of a weapon that would dare elude his grasp. Eyes gleaming with excitement, the corporal names a legendary piece of heroic-grade equipment, Fail Not. Jun-yeol is struck silent. A heavy silence descends upon the room. Suddenly, the old man bursts into raucous laughter, amused by the boy's sheer audacity. He slams a heavy hand onto the boy's uniform, telling him to make such demands only after he earns a higher rank insignia to place on his chest. For now, however, he grants a special field promotion. Hyun-wook thanks him with euphoric relief, playing the part of the grateful soldier. As General Jun-yeol walks away, he remarks on the boy's lively spirit. Hyun-wook exhales, noting that the old man intentionally changed the subject. It's a massive relief. The distraction worked, and his secret ability to level up remains hidden in the shadows for a little longer. A few days later, at the 1st Battalion of the 3rd Brigade, the legendary mana armor of Malaru is currently being digested by his system. Even at 150% efficiency, the process demands another 16 hours. Lying in his barracks, Hyun-wook groans, realizing that consuming heroic class items is a battle in itself. Suddenly, Jumbo interrupts, asking if they are skipping training. His subordinate, Min-ji, chimes in, begging for an activity that isn't just standard physical training. Hyun-wook lifts his shirt to reveal fresh bandages, asking incredulously if they've forgotten their leader is a critical patient. His subordinates ignore the wounds entirely, insisting that his only job is to make them stronger. Reflecting on the chaos he's survived, he smiles. At the very least, this chain of near-death experiences has granted him the one thing he lacked: absolute confidence. Suddenly, the infirmary door swings open. Every head turns toward the unexpected visitor. A young soldier steps forward, Min-tae. He announces that he has been discharged from the general hospital and is reporting back to the support squad. As the boy formally reports for duty, Hyun-wook abandons protocol. He walks over and pulls his soldier into a tight embrace, thankful he is alive. In that moment, he realizes a profound truth. Legendary items are powerful, but loyal comrades are irreplaceable. Confused by the affection, Min-tae asks what's going on. The protagonist pulls back with a knowing smile, declaring that the boy arrived just in time. Mentally, he resolves that as long as he has these soldiers by his side, he can face whatever nightmare is coming. A catastrophic event known as the Wave is approaching, a phenomenon where multiple portals rupture simultaneously, turning Seoul into a living hell. He is the only one who knows this apocalyptic future. The question haunts him. Can he really stop the end of the world alone? And more importantly, can these soldiers survive when the very atmosphere turns to poison and fire? He hardens his resolve. He won't leave it to chance. This time, he will force fate to bend to his will. Looking at Min-tae, he accepts the reality. He cannot stop the wave alone. He needs an army of monsters. He tells the terrified boy that training begins now. He will break them down and build them up until they are strong enough to survive the apocalypse. It is the only way to save everyone. Shocked, Jong-ho stammers that soldiers below rank C are forbidden from entering the advanced training center. Gripping the soldier by the neck, Hyun-wook's voice turns ice cold. He reminds them that times were the ones begging for true power. His gaze bores into them like a drill. Why the trembling? Except for Jano, every single one of them leveled up during the disaster event. Shoulders slumping, the soldier mutters the painful truth. Back then, they were nothing but useless reserves. But that excuse ends today. They must evolve on their own. Seeing their hesitation, Hyun-wook makes a solemn vow: if they falter, he will be the pillar that holds them up. Hope flares in Jano's eyes. He asks if the corporal truly means those words. Suddenly, a gate yawns open. Inside lies an abyss of total darkness. A chill runs down the spines of the entire squad. Hyun-wook barks the order to enter immediately. A subtle, predatory smile plays on his lips as he enacts his plan. Pure shock, the absolute madman slams the gate shut behind them. Screams erupt from inside, begging their leader for salvation. Terrified of the unknown, smirking at the chaos, he declares that their attribute resistance training starts now. The seal holds tight. From within the darkness, the desperate cries of the soldiers continue to echo for Hyun-wook. Nearby, female soldiers whisper among themselves. They mock the F-ranker for taking the disaster event so seriously, unimpressed by his presence. Hyun-wook remains oblivious to the slander. He mutters that the girls seem happy, but scratches his ear, wondering why it's burning so much. Elsewhere, Lieutenant Yuna issues sharp commands. She orders her subordinates to secure the exact payment for the operatives planted within the company. She pauses, surprised to spot the corporal. Shouldn't he be overseeing his team's training right now? Hyun-wook snaps a crisp salute. He claims he is just buying energy supplements for his soldiers who are currently hard at work. Hyun-wook watches a man, Song-hwa, pass by. Irritation flares. Does that guy want a repeat of the past? He then turns his attention to the mysterious woman. The lieutenant cuts to the chase. She has heard the rumors. He has earned the title Rebellion of the Trash. Hyun-wook confirms it without shame. She presses closer, eyes narrowing. His report details abnormal feats, but her instincts scream there is more. She suspects he is hiding a deeper secret. The rascal feigns ignorance. He asks with a straight face what exactly he could be hiding from her. Yuna calls him out. He acts at critical moments as if he knows the future. It is like he has a hidden agenda. Hyun-wook's mind races. Does she know? He asks what she implies, but suddenly, a voice cuts in from behind. We won't tell. The newcomer claims he did nothing, while the woman insists she has already reported everything to the medical officer. Suddenly, she freezes. The loudspeaker crackles to life. The battalion commander is summoning Corporal Hyun-wook immediately. Yuna remarks on the impeccable timing. Hyun-wook frowns, asking what the problem is. She claims ignorance about the summons, but she leaves him with a warning. She is watching his every move. Stepping outside, Hyun-wook makes a mental note. He needs to keep his distance from that lieutenant for a while. Still, he knows why he was called. Is it the promotion? Moments later, a voice argues that this situation can hardly be called a mere test. Standing before the commander's office, he overhears a grim statement. Sending troops there is a death sentence. They will lose everyone. Hyun-wook enters and snaps to attention. Before him stands the general of the 3rd Brigade, alongside Commander Kang-wook. The old general's eyes shift. He notes that the corporal has finally arrived. The commander attempts a briefing, but General Jung-il cuts him off. He will handle this explanation himself. He reveals the crisis. A red portal opened in the Silim area days ago, claimed by the Blue Flower Guild. Suddenly, the image shifts, a warrior impaled by a blade. Inside the portal, a massacre unfolds. But it is not monsters they are fighting. The hunters are tearing each other apart. A man screams for sanity, begging God for salvation, but his prayers go unanswered. Terror takes over, and he runs for his life. Fear grips his heart. He realizes the horrifying truth. His companions have lost their minds to madness. He struggles to escape, but the hands of his former allies close in. Dozens of fingers claw at him, dragging him back into the hellscape. The portal is upgraded to Grade 3, a designation given when an organization fails 3 times and is deemed incompetent. Now, protocol demands a joint response from 2 or more organizations. Hyun-wook's mind reels. He searches his memories of his past life, but finds nothing. This incident never happened. General Jung-il lays out the deadly rules. A 30-player limit, level 18 cap. Inside awaits a zombie horde, and the exit is sealed until the dungeon is cleared. Hyun-wook is thunderstruck. Zombies? That can only mean one thing: a necromancer is hiding inside. The general laments the Blue Flower Guild's loss of talent. Normally, this would remain a guild matter, but the body count is too high. General Jung-il casts a sinister, expectant look. He claims to have faith that the corporal is the perfect weapon for this mission. Suddenly, Commander Kang-wook interjects. The general offers only a grumpy stare in return. Turning to Hyun-wook, Commander Kang asks the ultimate question. Can you handle this? Hyun-wook clenches his fist. This is uncharted territory. A danger that didn't exist in his previous life has just awakened. The undead plague reeks of the necromancer's dark arts. Hyun-wook realizes he is the only one capable of purifying this filth. He declares he will shatter the red portal once and for all, causing the general to smirk at the boy's sheer audacity. But courage alone is not enough to survive this nightmare. To stand a chance, he must devour every ounce of power available to him. Then, a shocking admission drops. The protagonist confesses that his current arsenal is trash against the horrors awaiting them inside. With steel in his eyes, he demands the ultimate weapon from General Jung-il. Fail not. In exchange, a guarantee of absolute victory. This is no ordinary artifact. It is the legendary arrow of Tristan, a relic from the age of King Arthur. Its destructive power is god tier, but it carries a fatal flaw: it can be fired only once. Even the general treats it as a desperate final trump card. But for a metal master like Hyun-wook, the laws of physics do not apply. He can reuse the unusable. The old commander's expression twitches, a volatile mix of annoyance at the demand and shock at the strategy. A predatory grin spreads across the general's face. Deal, he barks. But the price of failure will be Hyun-wook's head. The protagonist matches the grin with equal ferocity. High risk yields the highest rewards. Usually, only top-tier guild executives are trusted with such heavy burdens. Yet, the general is betting everything on a mere foot soldier. This is a calculated political strike against his bitter rival, Guildmaster Jae-hyuk. If a low-ranking grunt achieves the impossible here, the humiliation for the Guildmaster would be absolute. The old man agrees to supply the gear. If they clear the dungeon, the AMT's reputation will skyrocket, and the spoils will be legendary. For the general, it is a flawless calculation. Win or lose, he plays the game. He promises to promote Hyun-wook to sergeant the moment the dungeon collapses. Asterisk sly old fox. Asterisk Hyun-wook thinks to himself. The general knows exactly how to manipulate the board. But Hyun-wook's ambition is not so easily fed. A simple promotion is crumbs compared to the feast he desires. He reminds the officer that fail not was already owed from the previous conquest. For this suicide mission, he demands a brand new prize. The general's eyes light up with manic confidence. Clear the dungeon, he laughs, and I promise to grant whatever your greedy heart desires. Consider it done. Hyun-wook's voice leaves no room for doubt. He will conquer, or he will die trying. Later, in the gloom of the staging area, his soldiers stand over the fresh corpse of a beast. They grumble that their leader is taking his sweet time. Jong-woo scoffs, kicking the carcass. Level C training grounds? Child's play. The squad is high on adrenaline and false confidence. Hyun-wook steps out of the shadows with a chilling smile. Suit up, he commands. The sudden order sends a ripple of confusion through the ranks. He drops the bombshell. The support group is no longer sitting on the bench. They are launching their first solo assault. Jang-woo panics. We didn't sign up for suicide. But protests are useless. 2 days later, the squad marches toward the gaping maw of the red portal. Hyun-wook distributes the ammunition, holy bullets. These kick like a mule, he warns. Control your aim, or they'll break your wrists. Eyes open. Death is everywhere. The squad nods, tension thick in the air. One soldier whispers, "Did he bring the legendary weapon?" Focus on the mission, Hyun-wook deflects. But hidden within his sleeve, the golden tip of fail not glimmers like a promised star. The strike team reaches the coordinates. They stand before the imposing fortress of the Blue Flower Guild's base camp. A command comes down. The corporal must attend the strategy briefing before the raid begins. The squad shifts uncomfortably. Look at their eyes, a soldier mutters. The guild members look at us like we're pests. A guild elite sneers, calling out their leader. Are you joking? We're carrying dead weight. A support team of low-ranking trash? We have a recovery operation to execute. The elite spits. We don't have time to babysit. Hyun-wook catches every word. His presence darkens. The elite captain notices him and snaps. Watch your tone. Trash. Asterisk recovery operation. Asterisk Hyun-wook's mind races. The guild leader's voice drops to a whisper. Once we're inside, cut the AMT loose. Let them die. A guild member hesitates. If they get wiped out. The leader shrugs coldly. The portal claims everyone eventually. His face twists in cruelty. Those army dogs can fend for themselves. We have our own priorities. Unfazed, Hyun-wook pushes into the war room. Inside, the icy beauty, Hannah, awaits him. I thought this was a strategy meeting, Hyun-wook says, cutting the tension. Silence stretches between them like a taut wire. I knew you'd show up, she says, her voice sharp. Just like when you hid your pitiful F-rank status to steal my contact card. I never asked for your number, he retorts. He can see the bruise on her pride giving her contact to a weakling eats her alive. Hannah waves her hand, dismissing the past. Listen closely. In this raid, you are nothing but baggage. Her eyes flash with warning. Do not interfere. Do not engage. Stay out of the Blue Flower Guild's path. The truth clicks. They are meant to be sacrificial pawns. Hyun-wook's aura flares. He refuses to bow. In the dungeon, every blade counts. My troops have equal standing here. Don't be delusional, she scoffs. You may be a talented F-rank, but against a boss monster, you're an insect. Hyun-wook leans in, his gaze piercing. Why block my squad, Hannah? Are you terrified that insects might steal your glory? Her composure cracks. Rage bubbles up, but she chokes it down. Suddenly, a manic, chilling laughter bursts from her lips. Hannah sneers, asking if he really expects another miracle like the one at Sioux Station. But the protagonist simply steps into her personal space, eyes cold. He declares that his survival was never a matter of mere luck. The woman scoffs, remarking that he truly seems desperate to die. She mockingly suggests the corporal enter first, only to immediately retract it. After all, a mere soldier would never survive in there. Hannah boasts that 3 of the year's top 100 rankers are here. She barks at him to know his place and step aside. The protagonist pauses, confused. Why isn't she taking his bait? Memories of the recovery op flash by. And Hyun-wook realizes there is a hidden layer to this mission. He calls out to the icy woman in charge. She cuts him off sharply, demanding to be addressed only as Catherine. Ignoring her arrogance, the protagonist smirks. He asks if the mighty Catherine has the guts to make a wager with him. Hyun-wook lays down the terms. If he manages to reach the boss room before she does, she owes him a prize of his choosing. A cruel, mischievous smile curves her lips. She agrees, but the price of failure is steep. He must forfeit his very life. He accepts without hesitation. Internally, his resolve hardens. If there is a secret treasure hidden within this portal, he will be the one to claim it. The announcement blares. The guild's entry has begun. Immediately, the vanguard squires move into formation. Their leader shouts for everyone to clear the entry zone instantly. They need to outrun the A.M.T. soldiers before they can intervene. As the guild members vanish into the darkness, the corporal's squad is left with a mere 3 minutes to prepare for hell. The protagonist asks if Min-tae is shaking, but the soldier grips his weapon, claiming he is fine. Hyuna warns the team to steady their breathing and stay sharp. The time has come. Taking a leap of faith, the squad steps through the gate and plunges into the dungeon's abyss. Hyun-wook opens his eyes, and his blood runs cold. It is a massacre. The guild warriors are tearing each other apart, while his own men stare in frozen despair. Hyun-wook clamps a hand over Min-tae's mouth before he can scream. A brutal, gore-filled battlefield unfolds before their eyes. One of the guild soldiers desperately cries out to his captain. But the leader has already lost his mind to the madness. The captain's body convulses violently with fear. Suddenly, he snaps, lunging forward to tear out the young soldier's throat with his teeth. Amidst the carnage, a hand rises. With a silent thumbs-up signal, the protagonist's squad begins to move like ghosts through the chaos. But their path is blocked by a nightmare. A colossal skeletal monstrosity stands silent, watching them. A bone-chilling sound begins to emanate from its throat. Terror grips the soldiers, and Min-tae lets slip a scream. Instantly, the monster turns, its dozens of twisted arms reaching for them. The protagonist screams the order to fire. They unleash hell on the creature's limbs. They are facing the dungeon boss, the zombie king. Hyun-wook realizes there is no mana barrier protecting the boss yet. He shouts for Taeyang to take the shot immediately. The sniper had been aiming for the chest, but he quickly adjusts. He locks his sights directly onto the giant skull's face. Memories of training flood back. Taeyang had once raised his hand, questioning the sergeant about their tactics. He argued that firearms are useless against high-level beasts. Why bother carrying weapons that lack true stopping power? The protagonist admitted the harsh truth. Against these monsters, they can never deal critical damage with mere bullets. Even enchanted holy bullets strike high-level dungeon monsters with the force of harmless rubber toys. But damage is not the point. The true weapon they wield is noise. Zombies are blind and numb, but their hearing is hypersensitive. The guns aren't meant to kill. They are meant to disorient and confuse. The subordinates were stunned by this revelation. By manipulating sound, they can become invisible to the undead horde. But Taeyang asked the terrifying question. What happens if they face a unique dungeon where the zombies can see or smell? If that nightmare scenario comes true, their survival rate drops to 0. They will all join the ranks of the Walking Dead. Back in the present, the sniper trusts his training. Utilizing his class skills, he fires a precision shot straight at the monster's ear canal. Clang! An invisible barrier deflects the bullet at the last second. Undeterred, the squad continues to pour fire, desperately trying to chip away at its defenses. Suddenly, Min-tae hurls a cluster of grenades at the skull. But these are special. Golden runes of light swirl around the explosives. Boom! A massive explosion rocks the chamber. The holy light sears the monster, finally dealing some real damage. Min-tae raises a barrier to shield his team from the blast wave. But from the wounds of the undead king, a sinister black mist begins to leak out. The dark miasma flows right over the protagonist's squad, ignoring them completely as it moves in the opposite direction. The mist coalesces behind the lesser zombies, driving them into a frenzy toward the A.M.T. soldiers. The confused guild members charge in, trying to intercept. Seeing the tide turn, the soldiers scramble to hold the line. The protagonist shouts above the din, ordering a tactical reload. Hyun-wook activates his special ability. Dozens of discarded weapons float into the air, circling him like a steel tornado as he faces the horde. His heart hammers in his chest, but his mind is ice cold. Hyun-wook stands his ground, waiting for the perfect moment. Now! He pulls the spectral triggers, unleashing a devastating barrage of lead. The aggro shifts, and the desperate monsters charge straight for the sergeant. Chaos reigns. The deafening noise acts as the perfect shroud, blinding the undead to the soldiers' movements. Amidst the turmoil, Kyung-jun spots a faint glimmer on a corpse. His eyes widen as he realizes the mana fluctuations are unmistakable. This weapon is at least rare rank. Boom! Another explosion tears through the sky, a calculated grenade blast designed to lure the horde away. Even the dungeon boss recoils from the thunderous roar, letting out a bone-chilling shriek that shakes the very ground. The monster dissolves into an ominous mist, rushing blindly toward the sound. The squad collapses, gasping for air, relieved that death has passed them by. For now at least, the Reaper has been cheated. But the captain, Kim-hwa, wears a dark expression. The kill count is too low, and the system window flickers with distorted static. He barks an order. Stay sharp. The portal is not cleared yet, he warns, his voice cutting through the relief. We are leaving this area immediately. High atop a distant hill, a predator watches. A man with serpent-like pupils and fangs glints in the shadows, smiling. Well now, looks like we have some interesting prey. Moments later, the squad arrives at the dungeon gate, where debris floats in defiance of gravity. But Hyun-wook notices something wrong. Silence. No monsters, no guards, absolutely nothing near the dungeon. In all his raids, he has never encountered a place this desolate. The emptiness feels heavier than a horde of zombies. His senses flare. Through his magnetic detection, Hyun-wook feels a piece of metal shift 20 meters behind him. Without hesitation, he activates his steel manipulation, launching a projectile into the brush. A voice screams in panic, "Wait, I am human." A figure stumbles out, hands raised high and trembling. "I hid. I didn't know if you were the undead." The survivor introduces himself as Taeop, a stealth sniper from the annihilated 3rd Attack Squad. Hyun-wook narrows his eyes. A lone survivor in a hellscape like this? It reeks of suspicion. Taeop collapses, his voice weak. "I apologize. Please. Water. Anything to eat." One of the men whispers a grim update to Ha-jin. The Cook Wong group sent a secret directive to all major guilds, using regular soldiers as cannon fodder. "What does that mean?" she asks. He reveals the truth. Whoever retrieves the chairman's grandson and the legendary Attila spear gets a bounty of 80 billion won. Wolfing down a ration, Taeop confirms the dark reality. The spear was the only priority. That is why we were here. But as soon as we entered, he shudders. Everything went to hell. Hyun-wook smirks. Now he understands why Hana is so on edge. She isn't just surviving, she is hunting the artifact. Taeop explains further. President Dong-hoo's second grandson failed the first raid and lost the spear, the very symbol of their group. That explains the hostility before the raid. It wasn't just rivalry, it was desperation. Suddenly, one of the soldiers glances at Mint. "What is it?" his companion asks. "Nothing," he replies, but the feeling of being watched is intense. Up on the hill, the serpent man yawns. "What is this?" "Just talking." He had hoped for entertainment, but they are just standing there, wasting his time. "Boring," he hisses. Suddenly, shadows begin to warp behind him. "I suppose I will have to make this fun myself." Down below, Hyun-wook freezes as sudden spikes of steel appear on his radar. 120 new signals emerge out of thin air. The fanged man on the hill laughs maniacally, while Hyun-wook realizes the number is still climbing. This is a catastrophe. But then, Hyun-wook does the unthinkable. His voice turns into cold steel. "Focus. We are initiating Plan C." The squad freezes in terror. Plan C? The surgeon pales, but obeys, scrambling to set up the equipment. Hyun-wook opens a backpack, revealing dense metal spheres. "Drink your potions. Now." Ha-jin stares in confusion. What is happening? Hyun-wook grabs Junho, his mana flaring. He whispers a final, specific command into his ear. As the squad finishes their prep, Taeop panics. "Hello? Is anyone listening to me?" "What the hell is Plan C?" he screams. A soldier grabs him roughly. "Just shut up and run. Run as if your life depends on it." "What?" Before he can argue, the ground begins to rumble. A horde of monsters is rushing toward them. Monstrous roars tear through the air. Taeop is paralyzed with fear. Suddenly, the blessed metal spheres rise, humming with magnetic force. Hyun-wook stands at the center of the storm, controlling the spheres like satellites around him. "Go! Get out of here!" Hyun-wook bellows. The serpent man chuckles from his vantage point. Abandoning a teammate? How noble. But that bait is useless if I snap him in half in a second. Hyun-wook ignores the impending doom. He plants his feet, inhaling deeply, gathering catastrophic power into his lungs. As they flee, Taeop gasps. "We are just leaving the surgeon behind? Isn't that too cruel?" Junho doesn't look back. "This was the captain's own plan," he replies, his voice steady, and he is not a man who fails. In a heartbeat, the protagonist explodes into motion. He becomes a blur, tearing straight through the horde of monstrosities like a phantom. The creatures freeze in confusion, but the trap is already sprung. Metal spheres hammer into them, yet the physical impact seems negligible, barely scratching their rot-tough hides. But physical damage was never the point. Hyun-wook activates his skill. Double the steel. Instantly, golden inscriptions flare to life on the metal. A blinding yellow light erupts, triggering a chain of concentrated explosions. Every monster tagged by a sphere is engulfed in the blast. High above, the mysterious stranger watches the chaotic symphony unfold with a predatory gaze. He realizes the truth. Those aren't just iron balls. They are infused with divine power, designed to create a deafening thunderclap. The ear-splitting boom drives the zombies into a frenzy, acting as a beacon for every wandering undead in the vicinity. The boss monster bellows a challenge, its roar shaking the very ground. Hyun-wook keeps moving, the cacophony of the beast ringing in his ears. Amidst the madness, Hyun-wook's eyes lock onto something strange. He detects a metallic signature with a classification completely unlike the others. There is a human silhouette standing casually among the horde. Who is he? A survivor or a villain? Orchestrating this nightmare, Flanking the stranger are two terrifying entities. The sheer pressure radiating from them is suffocating. Hyun-wook can barely believe his own senses. It really is him. But before Hyun-wook can process it, the stranger's bodyguards blur into motion, reappearing instantly above the protagonist to deliver a death blow. Boom! Their strike pulverizes the earth. Hyun-wook barely escapes, but the shockwave shears his surgeon's helmet clean in half. Adrenaline spiking, he weaves through a barrage of lethal attacks. These monsters are coordinating perfectly, a combo ability. Hyun-wook is reeling from this sudden turnaround. He has no choice. He triggers his ability once more as dozens of the creatures close the net around him. The stranger smirks, thinking he overestimated the boy. The divine iron spheres are gone, and the protagonist's energy seems completely spent. But the villain missed one detail. Something glimmers in the air behind him. A rain of metal fragments descends upon the monsters like judgment from the heavens. It's the shrapnel. The remnants of the spheres Hyun-wook detonated earlier are still under his command. The protagonist seizes control with his metal manipulation, turning the debris into a weapon. Ultimate technique: steel rain, free fall. The shards pierce the monsters 1,000 times over, dropping them in a single breath. But the zombie horde is still closing in. The giant undead unleashes another ear-piercing scream, only to be cut short by a massive explosion erupting at its side. Attention shifts instantly. Another divine grenade flares up, signaling a new detonation point away from the team. The mindless zombies pause, their instincts hijacked by the sudden light and sound. Confused, Taeho stammers. Are they sacrificing someone? Junho snaps back immediately. Don't be an idiot. Why would you even think that? It's a distraction strategy, Junho yells. They're luring the horde away from the surgeon. As another blast rocks the cavern, even the boss monster takes the bait, lumbering toward the noise. The mysterious man watches the tide turn with a sharp gaze. A flicker of irritation crosses his face. The boy wasn't the bait after all. He never expected to be outplayed like this. His annoyance quickly shifts to manic excitement. Ha! These guys are actually fun. Hyun-wook stares at the maniac, laughing amidst the slaughter. What is wrong with this lunatic? Why did he enter the portal? And more disturbingly, why do the zombies ignore him as if he's one of them? Suddenly, a system window flashes. Warning: potion efficiency at 50%. 2 minutes remaining until total buff expiration. Time is running out. Hyun-wook narrows his eyes. Is this guy who he thinks he is? Suddenly, the stranger reaches into the mouth of his serpent summon and draws out a wicked spear. A cruel smile splits the man's face. I wonder what your blood tastes like, he whispers. My spear is thirsty. He drops into a combat stance, flanked by his serpent, ready to paint the dungeon red. Hyun-wook stands his ground. I'll only ask once. Are you the necromancer? The question catches the stranger off guard. How do you know that name? Hyun-wook analyzes the reaction. He isn't angry. He's genuinely baffled. If you want a quick death, speak, the man barks. Who are you? Meanwhile, Hyun-wook notices the slain zombies aren't rising again. Between the lack of resurrection and the man's genuine confusion, the answer is clear. So, you aren't the necromancer, Hyun-wook concludes coldly. Then tell me, how are you connected to him? The man grinds his teeth, veins popping. You raving lunatic. Do you have any idea what situation you're in? Irritating brat. He lunges, thrusting the spear with lethal precision. Tell me how you know about the necromancer. Kaboom! The force of the thrust creates a shockwave that rips through the air, but Hyun-wook blocks it. Seeing his attack stopped, the stranger unleashes a torrent of curses. Skill activated, unyielding steel body. Hyun-wook grits his teeth without that upgrade. His arm would have been sliced clean off. The protagonist leaps backward, creating distance, while whipping a dagger over his shoulder in a blind throw. But the enemy's eyes are sharp. He sees it coming. With lightning reflexes, he raised his guard. He wouldn't fall for the same trick twice. Hyun-wook stabilized his stance, eyes locking onto his target. Metal fragments from the defeated monsters rose into the air, obeying his magnetic command. Crossing his arms, he unleashed hell. The swarm of makeshift blades shot forward like bullets, aiming straight for the intruder's heart. But the enemy didn't flinch. In a blur of motion, the giant serpent coiled around its master, its scales becoming an impenetrable living shield. Hyun-wook grit his teeth in frustration. That reaction speed was inhuman. Only a few stray shards had managed to graze the man's arm. The intruder narrowed his eyes, analyzing the combat pattern. Is this really the movement of a level 18 player? Hyun-wook realized the grim truth as well. To block those daggers so effortlessly, this man had definitely bypassed the dungeon's level restrictions. How did you get in here? They shouted in perfect unison. The man scoffed, shaking his head. You're annoying to the bitter end, you little brat. Sizzle. White smoke began to curl up from the scratch on the intruder's arm. Hyun-wook's eyes widened. The shards with divine blessing are burning your skin? There was only one explanation for a weakness like that. A player killer who devours others. A vampire. A member of the evil tribe destined to slaughter the AMT once the Great Wave begins. The vampire smirked, ignoring the searing pain. I must admit, you have a prodigious talent for pissing me off. With a casual wave, he ripped the holy shards from his flesh and his pet. The metal left angry, charred marks on his pale skin. But then, the flesh knitted together. In mere seconds, the burns vanished completely. Terrifying regeneration. The vampire leveled his weapon, eyes cold. I'll lop off a limb or two. Maybe then you'll open your mouth and answer my questions. Hyun-wook froze. That weapon, it was the spear of Achilles. If its true power awakened, even his indomitable steel body skill wouldn't save him. The enemy prepared the fail-not strike a sure-hit technique. The system flashed a red warning. HP potion effects expire in 2 minutes. Sweat beaded on his forehead. He had 120 seconds to defeat a monster that shouldn't even exist here. I'll crush your little traps, the vampire roared, eyes glowing crimson. Even if I have to use brute force. He lunged. Hyun-wook threw himself backward, barely escaping impalement. Desperate, he flung his sword high into the air as he scrambled away. Boom! The vampire's strike decimated the ground where Hyun-wook had stood a split second ago, sending debris flying. Overhead, Hyun-wook seized control of his falling sword with metal manipulation. He slammed it down, but clang, the serpent blocked it again. Even the vampire looked surprised at the persistence. He shook his spear, patience evaporating. Enough of these parlor tricks. He swung the legendary spear again. Crack! Black lightning tore through the air, generating a shockwave of dark energy. Hyun-wook's armor shattered under the pressure. He realized the fatal problem. The serpent nullified all ranged attacks completely. The vampire pressed the advantage. Hyun-wook scrambled to dodge. Ranged was useless, but with the spear of Achilles in play, close combat was suicide. He was trapped in a deadly dance. Dodge, weave, survive. That was all he could do. How do you know that name? The vampire's killing intent spiked. A low-level trash shouldn't know about this weapon. Hyun-wook combined transformation with manipulation, vaulting backward, landing precisely near a patch of disturbed earth. A cold smile touched his lips. In that case, I'll have to play my trump card a little earlier than expected. You asked who I was? Hyun-wook panted, standing his ground. I'm just a soldier. The vampire's face twisted in rage. Are you stupid? Is that your final answer before you die? Hyun-wook glanced down at the hidden device near his feet. I guess you never served in the army, huh? Meanwhile, in the tunnels, a horde of zombies flooded the passage. The squad crouched in the shadows, holding their breath as death marched past. One soldier panicked, priming a grenade. Stop, his teammate hissed, grabbing his wrist. Don't give away our position. Not even the assault squad could handle this mob, Tsap whispered, trembling. The sergeant is dead. We need to hide. Now. No, Jumbo growled, eyes fierce. Our leader isn't someone who fails that easily. How can you be sure? Tsap snapped. Because. Hyun-wook's voice cut through the memory. We haven't seen the signal yet. Flashback. The sergeant's orders were clear. I'll plant a claymore mine behind us before I engage. If that mine detonates, Hyun-wook had said, eyes serious. It means I've been forced to use my last resort. When you hear that, boom. Make sure you hide. That is the moment. Back in the fight click. Hyun-wook triggered the claymore. Boom. The mine erupted in a blinding flash. The explosion wasn't normal fire. The ball bearings were coated in divine energy. The holy inferno engulfed the serpent instantly. In a flash of loyalty, the beast wrapped around its master. The vampire stood unscathed, but his pet shrieked as the holy power melted its flesh. The smoke cleared. The loyal monster, having taken the full force of the divine execution, collapsed lifelessly to the floor. Rage twisted the man's face into a mask of fury. He roared, asking how a mere human dared to strike the chosen one, screaming that a simple bomb could never kill an immortal like him. But his screams met only silence. Standing before him, the protagonist remained unmoved, his hand clutching a blinding, radiant light. In a flash, he unleashed the strike. The impact was devastating, launching the enemy backward and forcing the legendary spear of Achilles to clatter uselessly to the ground. Shock paralyzed the vampire. He stammered, unable to comprehend how this boy could move faster than his eyes could track. It was impossible. Yet, Hyun-wook stood frozen in place. He hadn't moved an inch after unleashing his final trump card, his body rigid as a statue. It was an absolute tracking artifact. Once locked on, the item hunted its target with a 100% success rate, shattering every layer of magical resistance the enemy possessed. The claymore was just bait for the serpent, the protagonist revealed, his voice cold as ice. My true trap was always the arrow. The vampire frantically clawed at the shaft embedded in his flesh. Hyun-wook scoffed at the struggle. explaining that his spiritual power bound the weapon it would not be removed so easily. A sadistic, surgeon-like smile spread across his face. He whispered that death would not come quickly today. The interrogation was just beginning. Meanwhile, chaos erupted among the soldiers. They watched in awe as the horizon lit up, one of them screaming a warning to Jun-ho as the claymore finally detonated. Tae-sop trembled, his face draining of color. He stammered in disbelief, unable to process that the crazy surgeon had actually triggered the trap. Wasn't that the signal? Tae-sop sneered, hiding his fear with mockery. He insisted they just eat their rations and hide like cowards until the next group arrived to save them. Fury boiled over in Jun-ho. He bellowed the boy's name, his voice thundering with such intensity that the brat froze in confusion. A subordinate cried out that the signal meant a companion might be dead. Yet, this insolent child dared to laugh at their sacrifice? Murderous glares turned toward Tae-sop from every angle. Realizing he was completely isolated, Tae-sop shrugged, muttering that it was a shame, but not his problem. The living need to survive, he argued desperately, his voice cracking. We should just hide together and wait it out. But then, reality itself began to warp. What is that now? The boy shrieked, panic finally piercing his arrogance. The squad froze, weapons raised. An eerie, digital sound filled the air as the ruins around them began to dissolve into floating pixels. From the data particles, a nightmare began to take shape. A massive, ominous fortress constructed itself from thin air right before their eyes. The system announced a calamity. The castle of the zombie king, Daka, was manifesting. The king would slaughter anyone who dared stain his domain. Terror gripped the squad. A massive building had materialized from nothing, an anomaly they had never seen, not even in their worst training simulations. Look! A soldier screamed, pointing a trembling finger. The digital structure wasn't empty. Hordes of undead were spawning along with the walls. A zombie materialized inches away, followed by another and then another. Tae-sop stared, his mind breaking as the legion of monsters flooded his vision. Chaos threatened to erupt, but Jun-ho raised a fist. Silence, he signaled, his presence demanding absolute discipline even in the face of death. The undead shuffled past, their senses dull. But Jun-ho noticed the sweat pouring down Tae-sop's face. The boy was about to crack. Snap. The coward broke. Tae-sop bolted, his desperate footsteps thundering like a dinner bell for every monster in the vicinity. You idiot. The squad's internal scream was unanimous. The zombies shrieked, a wave of rotting flesh, turning to charge straight at them. Open fire! Jun-ho roared, realizing stealth was dead. But the tide was unstoppable. There are too many. Find cover, now. Back in the forest, the battle had turned into a torture session. Hyun-wook had pinned his opponent to a tree, the weapon acting as a brutal crucifix. The vampire struggled against the spike, but it was immovable. Agony surged through him, forcing him to slump forward, gasping for air. Hyun-wook stepped closer, that wicked smile returning. Time for questions. But through the blood and pain, the vampire began to grin back. You think a mere arrow can kill me? The beast rasped. No, the surgeon replied smoothly. But I can leave you bleeding until you wish it did. Vampires feel pain tenfold compared to humans, Hyun-wook noted cruelly. The creature cursed, his eyes widening. This human knew exactly how to break him. Hyun-wook twisted the shaft. The arrowhead burrowed deeper, grinding against bone and sensitive nerves. I ask, you answer, Hyun-wook commanded. What is your connection to Dong-hun's second grandson? Are you his financial sponsor? Rage flared in the beast's eyes. This prey, the vampire hissed, is becoming incredibly annoying. The defiance broke. The vampire screamed, begging for the torture to stop as his strength faded into heavy, ragged breaths. Good. At least you're being honest, Hyun-wook said, his eyes darkening. But the real question is still to come. Do you know the necromancer? The vampire burst into manic laughter. I know nothing. That man could be anyone. He walks among us. A friend. A family member. The blade pressed against the vampire's throat, drawing a bead of dark blood. Hyun-wook's aura turned ice cold. Do not cross the line. Mention my family again, and you will pray for the sweet release of death. Have you really never met him? He drove the bayonet closer, the steel kissing the vampire's neck. You're just a pawn, aren't you? A pathetic loser. The necromancer doesn't need to show his face to control trash like you. You're disposable. A wooden stake floated ominously behind Hyun-wook, poised to strike. You are merely an obsessed follower, the surgeon spat. Nothing more. The vampire's eyes went wide, not at the insult, but at the terrifying creature looming behind his captor, obeying the surgeon's silent will. With a sneer, the maniac tells the boy to just drop dead. But the protagonist isn't fazed. He claims to know far more than this villain suspects, revealing that in a past timeline, they hunted each other like rabid dogs for years. The man scoffs at this absurdity. He calls it a blatant lie, pointing out that the necromancer class hasn't even awakened in this era yet. Suddenly, a summon strikes. But before the serpent can sink its fangs in, Hyun-wook counters with the Lance of Achilles, piercing the beast and thanking it for the easy experience points. A system notification chimes instantly. He has acquired a heroic-grade item. Its special effect is devastating. It drastically reduces the healing time for any wounds it inflicts. Internally, the protagonist grinds his teeth. The timeline is messy. The necromancer really shouldn't be awake yet, which complicates his plans. And this enemy's loyalty is unnatural. Suspicion gnaws at Hyun-wook. How did this vampire bypass the security when the Blue Flower Guild was supposed to have the portal on total lockdown? But the madman's gaze shifts elsewhere. His ring begins to pulse with an ominous light. It seems he has a scheme of his own brewing, a trap ready to spring. The villain drops a bombshell. He asks how the boy entered the portal at all, revealing that Times was the one who opened it, and he restricted entry to anyone above level 18. Hyun-wook is thunderstruck. If this man opened the dungeon, it implies a user has gained control over the system itself. This changes everything. The vampire cackles at Hyun-wook's shock, mocking his naivety. He grins, announcing that the real nightmare, the second phase, is about to begin. Strange particles manifest from thin air, swirling around them both like a gathering storm. Hyun-wook realizes the stakes are lethal. If he delays, he loses the target and the objective. He knows he has to act now. He makes a desperate move, driving his blade into the opponent to draw aggro before a magical wall slams down between them, severing their visual connection. Simultaneously, a system window flashes before their eyes. The castle of the Zombie King has materialized. Phase 2 has officially launched. From behind the wall, the vampire's voice echoes. He promises that once this phase ends, the portal will unleash true terror upon the outside world, a hell of his own design. Elsewhere, the protagonist's subordinates cower from the undead horde. Suddenly, a deafening roar shakes the foundation. In the main chamber, the boss monster materializes. It heads toward a mysterious white artifact that suddenly morphs into two glowing eyes. The giant abomination grabs the orbs. The zombies scream in unison as purple light floods their empty sockets. Pain ripples through the room, forcing everyone to their knees. This is the Zombie King, the absolute ruler of life and death within this domain. He is the Lord of Light and Darkness, the Zombie King, Baron Samedi. His true form is revealed, and his decree is absolute. His undead army will march out of the portal and slaughter the world beyond. The mission is clear. They must advance. They must stop the rise of the true Zombie King, Baron Samedi, at all costs. Panic sets in among the ranks. A soldier freezes, realizing the zombies have now gained vision and can see them perfectly. He opens fire, desperate to hold back the tide as a massive army of the undead pours from the main hall. Junho barks orders, alerting the squad that their stealth is broken. He steps up to the front line, vowing to cover their retreat. The massive king locks eyes on the boy. He hurls a massive chain, aiming to crush the human in a single strike. Junho barely dodges, but the impact is catastrophic, pulverizing the ground and sending debris flying. More monsters close in. Junho freezes, seeing no way out. Just then, a blessed grenade arcs through the air, landing amidst the horde. The explosion of holy light knocks the chains aside. His teammates rush into the fray to save him. Junho screams at Min-tae, demanding to know why they stayed. He had explicitly ordered them to leave. Min-tae just raises his shield, standing firm against the king and his army. His companion continues providing covering fire toward the altar. Surprisingly, Min-tae tanks the damage with his body. He shouts that they won't abandon a teammate to become zombie chow, they leave together or not at all. With a roar, they throw another grenade, blasting the monsters back and clearing a path. The squad shouts their resolve. If their leader dies, they die with him. They urge Junho to move to Mina's position immediately. Junho is stunned by their loyalty. He curses their stubbornness, but orders a full retreat, commanding them to use every last grenade as cover. A soldier yells back that they will offer themselves as bait to ensure the sacrifice wasn't in vain. The zombies surge, desperate to escape the portal and invade reality. The squad prays for the protagonist to stop them. With that in mind, Hyun-wook sprints toward the castle, his heart pounding as he closes the distance. The sound of distant explosions guides him. He knows those are the blessed grenades. He realizes his team is making a last stand. A memory flashes back Hyun-wook, telling Junho to hide if the claymore explodes, and to take leadership if he doesn't return. But in the memory, Junho had cut him off, refusing to accept that outcome. With a confident smile, Junho had promised to wait for his leader. He told Hyun-wook to make sure he came back to them. Back in the present, Hyun-wook feels a pang of emotion. He smirks, his resolve hardening. He will return. They just have to wait a little longer. Back in reality, the scene before him stops his heart. The air ripples as the undead spawn from nothingness, regenerating right before his eyes. A legion of corpses stands ready to tear him apart. Survival instinct kicks in, his grip tightens around the spear until his knuckles turn white. The system screams a warning. Unlocking this weapon's true power demands a massive sacrifice, 21% of his mana. He doesn't even blink. Do it. The beasts roar, shaking the ground as they charge. Rage flares in Hyun-wook's eyes. Shut up, you filth. He has seen enough. Resolve hardens his gaze as he bellows a vow to the darkness. I promised I'd come back for them, no matter the price. Boom! A cataclysmic strike detonates, sending shockwaves through the castle. Rotten limbs and black blood scatter across the stone floor in a gruesome display. High above, the zombie king observes the carnage. The system chimes with a cold notification. The succession of Baron Samedi has been interrupted. The boss's eyes narrow at the interface. One of the ritual jars is missing. Baron Samedi's fury ignites like a powder keg. Meanwhile, the protagonist's squad sprints for their lives. A soldier pants, eyeing the artifact in his comrade's grip. What the hell are you doing with that thing? Kyungjun doesn't slow down. No time to explain, but the king wants this badly, which means we can't let him have it. Behind them, the horde closes the gap. The stench of death is right at their heels, getting closer by the second. Claws swipe inches from his neck. Bang! A precision shot blasts the ghoul backward just in time, saving him from a lethal bite. Mint and the squad unleash a hail of suppressing fire, forming a defensive wall. Go! The C4 is set and ready to blow. Move! Now! Mint screams, holding the line with his shield as the vanguard retreats past the rigged explosives lining the corridor. The undead tide floods the hallway. Then, click. The world turns white. A deafening explosion obliterates the tunnel, consuming monsters and masonry alike. A hellish inferno surges toward them. The squire steps forward, shield raised, barely deflecting the searing tongue of flame. But the castle can't take the strain. Above them, the stone ceiling begins to groan and crumble. With a thunderous crash, the structure gives way, tearing a gaping hole to the outside world. The pursuing undead are buried under tons of rubble. Dust chokes the air. Soldiers cough, picking themselves up from the debris. Jumbo calls out, his voice hoarse. Report! Is everyone still breathing? We're good, they shout back, dusting off the ash. The collapse has done its job. The zombie horde is completely cut off. But relief is short-lived. They aren't just safe. They are trapped. Find a way out, now. Desperation creeps into their voices. Before we run out of oxygen. Suddenly, crack! The wall beside them splinters under a massive impact. Steel chains burst through the solid stone like paper. Jumbo screams, everyone, get down! Panic erupts as the room disintegrates around them. Through the dust, a nightmare emerges. The zombie king has come to finish the job himself. He doesn't just look strong, he radiates an aura of pure, suffocating despair. A true monster. The king's glowing eyes sweep the room and lock onto the stolen jar hiding among them. Baron Samedi cracks a wide, grotesque grin that freezes the blood in their veins. But just as doom seems inevitable, hold it right there. A voice rings out, shocking even the monsters. Jumbo chuckles, the tension breaking. Took you long enough, boss. You're late. Drenched in gore, Hyun-wook steps from the shadows. Who is this clown messing with my crew? He glares at the king. Hey, Bright Eyes. The only one allowed to bully these idiots is me. Relief washes over the squad, but it's mixed with disbelief. He's alive, but against this monster? It seems impossible. Hyun-wook talks big, but the system warns him. Mana remaining, 32%. The truth? He has absolutely no plan. The Baron raises a hand, dark energy gathering. Hyun-wook's mind races. Can I kite him? Can I hit him from distance? Then he notices the jar next to him. The moment the king sees the artifact near Hyun-wook, the monster freezes. Hesitation. Hyun-wook blinks, confused. He stopped? Why isn't he tearing me apart? Jumbo doesn't waste the opening. Open the packs. Now. The squad scrambles, dumping their gear on the floor for the final stand. Hyun-wook glances at the jar. It's this thing. He's afraid of damaging it. Roaring in frustration, the king tramples his own minions to get closer without striking. Baron Samedi raises a colossal foot, aiming to crush Hyun-wook into paste without touching the jar. The shadow of death falls over him. Fear spikes, but instinct takes over. He activates manipulation, twisting his body out of the stomp's impact zone. The Baron doesn't let up. A flurry of chain strikes whips through the air, missing Hyun-wook's skin by millimeters. Behind him, the squad tosses potions and orbs into the air. Commander, it's all set. Ready when you are. Samedi's gaze snaps to the squad. Realizing the trap, he thrusts his fist toward them to interrupt the setup. Chains tear up the ground. Hyun-wook sprints along the destruction, screaming the command. The spear activates. Mana consumed, 21%. Remaining, 11%. With his last reserves, he swings the blade in a lethal arc. Mint. Frontline. Defense now. The attack connects. The chains shudder, their momentum broken by the sudden counterforce. Mint raises his great shield, tanking the shockwave. Using steel control to snatch a mana potion from midair, Hyun-wook grins. Time for round 2. A massive chunk of the shield shatters into dust. Jae-mo panics, shouting to see if he is hurt. But the boy stands firm, he is unbroken. Kim-wook downs a mana potion in a single gulp. His energy roars back to life, allowing his regeneration to kick in within a 5-minute window. Without wasting a second, he summons the Bright Eye. Levitating the spheres with telekinetic force, the protagonist locks eyes with the beast. He is the only opponent that matters. With a snap of his finger, the spheres launch toward the boss. But the Zombie King's absolute barrier flares up, halting the assault in its tracks. Undeterred, Kim-wook unleashes Metal Bender to shatter his own spheres. The shrapnel deals chip damage, creating a tiny opening for his cloud sword. Cracks finally appear in the defense, but Baron Samedi merely scoffs. He catches the flying blade with his bare hand like it is nothing. The protagonist gritted his teeth. It was just as he feared. The barrier is the ultimate wall. If he throws weapons blindly, he won't just lose the fight, he will lose everything. The monster retaliates, hurling colossal chains straight at the surgeon. Kim-wook activates body transformation. He catches the chain with raw strength. Retreating now would only show weakness to his subordinates. His companions struggle to survive the onslaught. The enemy's attacks slip through their defenses, striking them from multiple angles. While dancing through the rain of strikes, the protagonist realizes the truth. The succession is incomplete. There has to be a fatal flaw. The Zombie King howls in fury. Kim-wook frantically searches for the weak point while barely evading the deadly blows. Suddenly, Kyung-joon does the unthinkable. He smashes a jar against the ground. Baron Samedi freezes in absolute shock. Jae-mo screams at him to stop. Messing with dungeon artifacts is suicide when they don't know the mechanics. But the boy counters with cold logic. If they stay passive, they die. At this pace, not even the healer will make it out alive. His friend watches, terrified by the gamble. The Zombie King raises his arm, death gathering at his fingertips. Seeing no escape, Jae-mo yields do it now. The monster unleashes the spiral chains, a vortex of steel aiming to crush the squad into paste. Even the protagonist hesitates, but his subordinate strikes true. He impales the organ with a divine weapon, and for the first time, Baron Samedi screams in agony. The assault crumbles instantly. The boss falls to his knees, his control slipping as the chains whip around wildly. Chaos erupts. The uncontrolled chains smash into walls and floors, the sheer impact creating a deafening thunderclap. Dusted and shaken, the protagonist shouts into the smoke. He needs a status report. Who is still breathing? His soldiers stumble out of the debris, recovering from the shock. Jae-mo yells back, "Everyone is fine." Kim-wook spins around, trying to process the victory. The monster clutches his chest, groaning in undeniable suffering. Beside the throne, another jar sits waiting. In a flash, the container vanishes, and the king's beating heart is exposed to the air. Kim-wook's eyes widen. He looks at his men and sees the divine sword still buried deep within the smashed organ. The realization hits him like lightning. That wasn't just random flesh, that was a lung. The Zombie King frantically reaches for his own heart, letting out a blood-curdling shriek. He screams as he forces the organ back into his chest. The sonic boom forces everyone to cover their ears. The system blares a warning. Succession forcibly restarted. Progress, 66%. He continues to roar as malevolent purple energy erupts from his body like a volcano. The system pings rapidly. The incomplete death spirit is flooding the Zombie King's veins, shattering the level restrictions. But the protagonist only grins with sadistic delight. He has solved the puzzle. He knows exactly what those jars are for. They are canopic jars, ancient vessels for a mummy's organs. And since this monster is a mummy, his heart holds his very soul. The heart is the fatal weakness. The boss is arrogant, trusting his barrier too much. That overconfidence will be his undoing. Kim-wook hurls his weapon with all his might. He declares, "This is the moment we win." The blade strikes the barrier, its momentum slowing as the energy field tries to swallow it. But the moment it connects, magical resistance hits zero. The steel tears through the shield and impales the king's heart. The monster gasps in disbelief. But the nightmare isn't over. The Demon King's body is healing at insane speeds due to the succession. Baron Samedi flashes a wide, grotesque smile. In response, the protagonist instantly snatches his spear. He tells the worm to wipe that grin off his face. The true execution starts now. This is the Achilles spear, a cursed item that inflicts wounds that refuse to heal. Kim-wook vows to end this regeneration nonsense once and for all. As he throws the spear, he triggers its catastrophic effect. Wrapped in pitch-black aura, the weapon phases through the chains. It strikes the boss's heart dead center, delivering agony pure and true. The dark energy detonates from within. The pain is absolute, tearing a desperate broken scream from the monster's throat. Desperate, the beast tries one last ability. He launches his chains in a final suicide attack, and to his horror, Kim-wook's mana is completely dry. With no magic left, Hyun-wook accepts the challenge. He doesn't need skills to survive. He dances through death using instinct alone, but there was no time to breathe. Another death blow was already hurtling toward him. Metal clashed against magic. Mint intercepted the strike with his shield just in time. Eyes wide, Hyun-wook shouted, "What do you think you're doing?" Mint didn't answer. He poured everything into his barrier, barely weathering the storm. The sheer force dragged his boots backward, carving deep grooves into the earth. Suddenly, the onslaught stopped. Breathing hard, Mint looked back at his leader. "Are you all right, sir?" Hyun-wook ignored the question, staring at the shimmering shield in shock. Is that a new skill? His mind flashed back to their first encounter with the boss. At the portal's entrance, during their brief separation, Mint had evolved. Ever since stepping into this hellish dungeon, his defensive mastery had skyrocketed at an impossible rate. Blocking the Zombie King's strike hadn't just saved him, it unlocked potential. That impact granted him the level 1 magic shield. Back then, he acted on pure instinct, barely understanding the power he wielded. Hyun-wook's face darkened with concern. "You bet your life on a skill you haven't mastered? You could have been killed." Mint lowered his head, cheeks flushing with embarrassment. I had to protect you, sir." Hyun-wook's expression softened. "I get it. But listen to me. Protecting this squad? That is my burden to bear." The boy nodded gratefully, but Hyun-wook cut him off. "Save the thanks for when we survive." Suddenly, a bone-chilling shriek tore through the air. A system window popped up. Regeneration cancelled. The persistent damage from Hyun-wook's twin weapons was tearing the Zombie King apart from the inside. Another alert flashed red. Incomplete Spirit of Death detected. The monster's immortality was failing. It was reverting to a rotting corpse. Agony convulsed the giant's frame as true pain finally registered. Mint braced his shield against the shockwave exploding from the boss, but Baron Samedi wasn't finished. In a desperate final gambit, he launched a storm of cursed chains. The sheer killing intent washed over them. Terror seized their legs, threatening to knock them off balance. But the attacks were wild. Chains smashed into the ground, and walls randomly. Samedi had completely lost control of his own power. Hyun-wook narrowed his eyes. The monster was thrashing blindly. A berserker, driven only by the instinct to kill. It wanted to drag them to hell with it. Jumbo roared orders to the squad. "Block its vision. Fire." A hail of bullets erupted, aiming to distract the giant undead. The plan was working. Mint's barrier held firm against the shockwaves. "We hold the line," Jumbo shouted. "Buy time until the commander recovers his mana." Boom. A massive chain pulverized the concrete inches from a soldier's face. Hyun-wook gritted his teeth, watching the chaos. "Don't get reckless. Stay alive." But Jumbo stood firm. "Let us do this, sir. We'll buy you the opening." Hyun-wook stared, stunned by the unwavering loyalty of his men. While bullets flew, he checked his status. Mana recovery in progress, but it was only at 6%. Baron Samedi shrieked, thrashing wildly. The chains whipped through the air like frenzied vipers, desperate to crush the insects buzzing around him. 12%. It wasn't enough. Hyun-wook watched in horror as his team danced on the razor's edge of death. Frustration boiled in his veins. "Faster," he mentally screamed at his core. "I'm out of ammo," a soldier cried out. 19%. Still too low. Whoosh. A chain whipped past Mint, knocking the weapon from his grip. That was it. Hyun-wook stepped forward. No more waiting. He roared at the beast. "Over here, you ugly bastard. I'm the one you want." Before the echo faded, he vanished. A blur of motion, weaving through the chaotic web of chains. He reached out with telekinesis. With a wet tear, the Philemon arrow ripped itself free from Samedi's heart. The arrow flew to his hand. Simultaneously, the cloud sword rose to his command. The solution crystallized in his mind. To kill the undying, he had to destroy the curse vessels, the liver, the brain, the eyes. Only one remained. The eyes. Gripping his blade, Hyun-wook launched himself into the sky, straight at the giant's face. A barrier shimmered into existence. Not this time. He summoned the arrow to act as a drill. The arrow's negation ability shattered the magic shield like glass. The path was clear. With a sickening crunch, the arrow pierced the giant's remaining eye. He readied the final strike. "Stop thrashing like a coward," Hyun-wook bellowed. "Die with some dignity." The sword descended. "Go to hell." As the titan collapsed, a notification chimed. "Blade is absorbing unknown essence." The final vessel shattered. The Baron toppled backward, his massive body hitting the earth with the force of an earthquake. Dust and debris exploded outward. The squad shielded their faces, bracing against the massive shockwave. Blue screens filled his vision. "Congratulations, you have defeated the Zombie King, Baron Samedi." Silence. Hung for a second. His men. Then erupted into cheers. His men stared in disbelief. They had actually done it. They had killed a boss. His sword hummed, drunk on the monster's blood, but something else caught his eye. Lying in the rubble was a crown. He picked it up. The crown of light and darkness. A mythological class artifact. It promised necromancy resistance, and a secret power yet to be unlocked. Kenwick froze in his tracks. In all his past life, he had never witnessed a phenomenon like this. It wasn't just rare. It possessed a unique, terrifying characteristic. Without warning, the very foundations of the castle screamed under the strain. A system notification flashed before their eyes. The destruction of Unako, the lordless fortress, had officially begun. "Sergeant!" Jumbo roared, his voice trembling with sudden panic. The protagonist grit his teeth. There wasn't even a second to farm points or items. "Everyone, move!" he commanded. "The entire structure is coming down." His soldiers didn't hesitate, sprinting for their lives. Unlike normal dungeon constructs that fade into light, this place was different. It wasn't dissolving, it was crashing down in reality. Debris rained from the ceiling as if the world itself was ending. A massive stone pillar crashed toward the soldiers. By a miracle, they dove clear just in time. They hit the ground hard, lungs burning, gasping for air amidst the dust and chaos. A blue window chimed. Dungeon cleared. The portal was sealing shut. But in that split second, the exit flared open one last time. "Don't stop running," the protagonist shouted, pushing his team forward through the collapsing hellscape. The exit was miles away, but desperation fueled their legs. No one wanted to be buried here. Meanwhile, outside the gate, Catherine was already organizing the next wave, 30 elite players, all level 53 or higher. They were busy discussing whether the Guang Guild would pull their support. The tension was palpable. Suddenly, their eyes went wide. The portal was destabilizing. They stood frozen in disbelief. Had that ragtag attack squad actually cleared the impossible? Just as the rift began to vanish, a blur of motion shot through. The protagonist and his team leaped from the void, clearing the threshold mere moments before total closure. And the recruiter stood jaw-dropped, unable to process the sight. Around them, the surviving soldiers erupted into cheers, embracing the sweet taste of survival. Breaking the silence, Hyun-wook addressed the A.M.T. squad. "Excellent work," he announced, his voice booming. "The red portal mission is officially complete." A confident smile spread across his face. His subordinates mirrored his expression, roaring with the thrill of their hard-won glory. Catherine watched, seething with irritation. "Did those second-rate trash really clear the dungeon?" she hissed. She bit her lip until it nearly bled, cursing the commander in her mind. But back inside the sealed dungeon, a different nightmare was unfolding for Taysap. "Where is it?" He scrambled frantically, eyes darting in terror. "I ran the second the message popped up. Why can't I find the exit?" All he could see were withered trees and a sky stained the color of blood. Panic clawed at his throat. He was trapped. Then, the hairs on the back of his neck stood up. Something was watching him. It was the vampire lord. Though wounded from the battle with the protagonist, its eyes burned with a predatory hunger. Terrified, the boy triggered his stealth skill instantly. "Leaving so soon?" the entity whispered. Taysap froze, confused. Are you human?" he stammered, relieved to see another face. "Thank God. I was so scared." "What a stroke of luck," the boy laughed nervously. "Do you know where the exit is? Let's get out of here together." "I do need something," the man murmured. In a blink, he vanished only to rematerialize right behind the boy. "Your blood." Fangs sank deep into flesh. The creature drained him dry in seconds, leaving his lifeless husk crumpling to the cold ground. Vitality surged back into the vampire's veins. His power was restored. "Kenwick," he snarled, eyes glowing with malice. "Just you wait, you scum. I will paint everything you love in blood." Hey everyone, did that intense cliffhanger leave you wanting more? I absolutely loved this arc. If you're dying to see what happens next, smash that subscribe button and drop a like right now.